don't get it. It is kind of bulky though. I'll give you that.
What's that 10-man tank sword? Slayer of the Lifeless. That shit looks dope.
We're starting with military, yeah?
Yep.
Best.
Who don't I have invited so far?
I'm logging in now, dude.
I'll be right back.
So no shirt equals mana. No shirt equals mana. I'm gonna keep forgetting that.
That is a pretty cool sword. I will not lie. There's Swifty. A nerf sword.
Bernie, you gonna come inside?
Yeah, I thought there were still people we needed to summon.
Well, yeah, we're summoning him inside.
Wasting soul shard. Nah, I guess.
BMX, did you put it on the sheet? The SR sign up list?
He's not on there yet.
Yeah, you put it right there and then it imports. Ketchup, you got Gargle? Yes?
I do, but I would prefer not to have to roll off loot.
Yeah, no, Diddy and Wireless aren't here though.
Don't you have it?
No.
I mean, I can do it.
You can do a Swifty? Cool.
Yeah, I've done it before.
I just, to make me do it would take away a lot from just the overall rate.
Yeah. To make me do it would take away people living. So.
Well,
To be fair.
If we made him do it, we'd take away the UHDK. So yeah.
We don't need you to live. It's okay. We're not going for a mortal or anything. It's fine.
Yeah. We're just waiting on one of our healers and then we're full. Just waiting on Dark.
Nah, I'll be honest. Part of it is also just I want a clean, nice run where I'm able to do my best on every boss. Just for the sake of overall damage.
We're not gonna pull it till Dark gets here. Prevs and Dark. Prevs are you in comms?
Yeah, that's cool. He is in here.
Prevs, I'm gonna get you a microphone for Christmas, my dog.
Can you not
Have
hear me?
him talk. He's here.
Oh, we can hear you now. It's just you have a very crucial role in instructor. Just making sure you can talk, bud.
So we have 24. Oh, we're just missing Dark. Wow.
Yep.
Perfect.
Perfect build. Zune was awesome and flexible enough to bring that tune because we'll be good. Let me just move the comps for the sake of spores.
It's like Bfells is AFK.
That's fine.
Or are we starting on that side that he's standing on? One of the two.
Starting on instructor side.
Can you change the loot threshold to like blue or something? That way we ain't gotta worry about these greens.
Yeah. Hey, Prevs, you ain't fucking PvP flag this week, are you? You're gonna get the benefit of Bloodlust.
Not that
Oh my
image.
gosh.
Oh, apparently, I learned that it's throwing bombs inside of Malagos's arena is what flags you.
Yeah, it's Saturnight Bomb. That's why in Bad RNG we were always required to. Everybody had the PvP flag before the fight because it was assumed.
Correct. Because I have Saronite bombs macroed into everything.
I've just got into my 2 AoEs, but what I do is when I'm up in the air, like when he's doing the vortex, I do like Dragon's Breath and Blast Wave and shit like that because it's instant cast and it can proc the Flame Strike. So it's like a way I can actually DPS while I'm up there.
If you guys got
Yeah, I'm a hunter. Everything's instant cast. Oh.
Thank you, whoever's doing Pally Power, Emma. I don't know. I just set it up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
thanks.
I'm gonna
Um,
take a guess and say these rogues are gonna be circle jerking themselves, and Cookie
But-
doesn't get tricks.
You're not good enough DPS here to get tricks, but
Bah.
how's it
don't
feel
know
to be
that.
average? I do know that. Dark will be on in 5 minutes. If you guys gotta use the bathroom or anything, we don't pull till 7:30. But if he gets on earlier, we will pull earlier.
Swifty's got full Devo aura, so I'll be the floater if we need a resistance aura or something.
Stay off my gear, Cookie.
So we currently have 19 reserves.
Fat
Ooh,
Cow,
thank
it's not
you.
letting Fat Cow SR. So he just wants one SR on the mace. If you can update that, Emma, since you have the password.
Sorry, I was AFK for a second. What's up?
Can you put one SR for Fat Cow's mace?
Which mace is that?
Torch of Holy Fire.
Okay.
Is he double SRing that, or is he just?
He's
doing-
single SR, and then he's got the Wontons HR.
Got it.
Oh, you thought we'd have a combat rogue? Ew. We have Xavier, so none of them have to go combat.
Thank God.
Yeah. Your stabs don't like putting exposed armor on.
No, exposed armor sucks, especially after my weapons now.
You think those weapons are gonna make a difference to keep up with? Damn, Lana, you got Envoy Mortality. That's wild.
Oh no, it's not gonna make any difference at all. I can guarantee you that right now. Lana's gonna stomp me 9 ways to Sunday.
That's what
And
he
you're gonna
does.
enjoy every second of it.
No,
I enjoy watching him peak at like 11K. It makes me happy.
I live in his shadow in WoW and in Diablo.
I SR'd the mace for him.
Smiler's good. ADC. Why is it say we're running 4 tanks right now?
We're running 3. It says 3. Oh, Fat Cow's listed as a tank. Actually, we can start pulling trash if everybody's here. We'll just summon Dark at the boss.
Watch out for Whirlwind.
Yeah, Whirlwind will clap you up melee. And there's our monstrous Disc Priest.
Don't act like Whirlwind's not gonna get me this week. Gets me every week.
It is $9.99 for a resurrect from here on out for whirlwind vests.
How much for a battle res?
Battle res is $4.99 if you are good
Tree
and
fitting.
worthy.
A battle res is a
Good
fucking
answer.
raid boot. Because why are you dying?
Darkness, that group. All right, guys, how we're doing, instructor, is everybody's going to stay at the top until the priests have them. Do not pop a pre-pod. Do not pop anything. I do not care about your parks here. The goal is for nobody to die, and we can push for immortal. Is there any questions? Okay,
We gotta reset if there's a def.
we will reset it one time.
Okay.
If not, we will go for the other achievements. Immortal is the biggest flex on the server right now, Atsu. Oh, he knew.
I'm a dummy. I didn't have my ghoul out.
Noob.
Who needs a ghoul?
Most unholy death knights.
Sounds like a crutch to me.
It does sound like a crutch.
Hey. We don't talk about it.
Every week the first couple polls are rusty. I'm so used to retail at the moment.
Okay.
Bfells, you can trank shot the dudes.
Yep. Priest
And
to
their
master
shields drop.
spell.
They pulled him right into me. Got clapped.
I'll check that for you in a minute, Swifty. Just make sure you announce what you're rolling off.
I got you.
I see 24.
Maybe dark.
Yeah, we're just waiting on Dark's SR.
We still need to get him in here. Will one of the warlocks pop a closet, please?
If you are a paladin, your job is to be close enough to the priest to bop them in case one of their MCs break. That goes for Nage, Swifty, Amazon, and Burgundian. You are ready to bop. It is an excuse not to pre-pot, but last week a pre-pot got somebody clapped. I don't know
Oh,
how.
I'm saying it's a good excuse not to.
Yep.
You're giving us the excuse. You're saying don't.
Everybody is going to wait right up here around the corner.
Getting DC'd.
Is that you, Stabs?
No.
It's Cat.
Oh, fat cow.
Yeah, it's just us.
Did you reset your game?
Yeah, I'm logging in now.
Oh, nice.
I'm a pirate.
Yeah, I got the fucking.
Did
Give me assist, bro.
Yep.
Can one of the pallies toss shitty kings on me?
And remember, guys, we're all waiting up here to the side until our priests get them.
Why shitty kings?
I didn't want you to waste mats.
Everybody over here. This goes well. We are pushing for immortal. Swifty, you're going to tank the two in the back.
Yep.
Emma, Bear, you're going to stay on the boss. We're going for, if somebody dies, we're resetting it one time. If not, we will do the other achievements. And then come back for immortal next week.
Does anybody have some mage food on them?
Yeah, I do. 1 second.
Grade 1 a cookie.
Thanks,
Oh
Lana.
shit, yeah, I need a health stone.
All right, this time, who's Prevs? I'm gonna take X, and you take square. I'm figuring because by the time I mind control, he's where he's at now. You know what I'm saying? And that way he'll be in a direct line of sight of me.
When one of your guys is dropped, just say it dropped, and one of the pallies will bop you.
Let's make sure you say Prevs, and I'll make sure I say Dark so they know who the fuck
Yep.
you're talking about.
Yep. Say dark, say Prevs.
All right, he's gonna make a lap, and then we're gonna go. I'm not gonna do a pool timer just because he sometimes stops and shit.
And he yells at him. Yeah, makes sense.
All right, here we go.
Let us know when to come in, dark.
Yep.
Grab the other 6.
Yep. Grab him, Swifty.
Five seconds on bow barrier. Go ahead and taunt. Let me know when you have him, Prevs. Dark's gonna drop mind control.
Get ready to bop dark. All right, next bop is going to Prevs once dark picks him back up.
I'm
I
gonna
was the
taunt.
one.
They're
I was the one.
Taunting. I got him. Prevs, go ahead and drop.
Bop Prevs.
Five seconds. Go ahead and taunt, Prevs. Alright, he's got him. Dark's gonna drop.
Big heals on dark.
I got him.
Good shit. Let X die when he taunts. Prevs, get ready to reset yours.
Taunting. I taunted. Got him.
All right, Prevs, run yours to the back.
Just burn him down, bro.
Remember, understudies count as part of the fight. Pick them back up, Prevs.
Our next target will be X.
Everybody
Dark
on
is
X.
mocking mind control. It's dropped. Drop yours, Prevs. Make sure we have heals on Prev. Don't run away, Prevs. Yep, my man. Good shit. Let's go.
All right, guys. Immortal is now on the table. Instead of the normal sweaty strats, it is safe than sorry. Way to keep it clean, Priest. Way to fucking keep it clean.
I came for you on that fucking. I came for you on that, Sherry.
It's about time you win one. This is extremely boring, but we are two-siding the next boss now. It will not be one phase. RIP all your parses.
It doesn't count towards all-star points anyway.
Yeah, it
Gothic
doesn't
and
matter.
parse are like that's like an oxymoron.
Exactly. Parse Immortal is more important.
Gothic has no, doesn't matter.
Yeah, and RIP the 4 horsemen parse too, because we're not doing the 3 cleave. We're gonna do front 2 cleave. Oh, for sure it's fine, dude. That shit was so clean.
Shoulder pads are the secret arts.
Good job, Dark. Good job, Prevs. I will be disenchanting Swifty. Make sure you keep track of the pluses, though.
Guys, control your path. Not sure if that was.
Wish I had 30k mana Burgundian. You know how fucking burr I could go?
Dude, I ain't gonna lie, I was pumped. I was going almost 9k HPS there.
Yeah, that was the most you've ever had on that fight by far.
By far, yeah.
Good job, man.
Thanks, dude.
Faithful Steel, Sabatons.
I'm gonna come for you.
Dude, I got that neck piece, and last week it fucking set me off.
Okay, when you have to move in Aldwar, I become the person that owns you.
I think I level my shaman and my priest.
Alright, some Girdle of Recuperation.
Resto Biz.
I use that for elemental.
I mean, it's for elemental.
Yeah, I use the Girdle of the Gambit for Resto just because the MB5. Alright, guys. Me and Dark are the healers on the right side. Emma, you are the tank on the right side. Swifty and Bear Punch, me are tank on the left side. Right side. Let me get Bernie, Bruh, Step, Lana, Kanashi, and Dubs. And to mix it up a little bit, let me get Cookie.
Undead.
Undead, yes.
I fucking hate the dead side, dude.
I don't care.
Pets on aggro, I'm taking a piss.
Let's see what we got over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let me get one more. Let me get Malort. All right, guys, let your tanks pick the things up. No need to
Amulet. Sorry.
No need to get frisky. Meaning this is going to be a real kick in the balls for you Death Knights. If nobody dies up until KT, I don't want to see a single death in decay.
Take it off, Fubar.
Here,
Yep.
am I on the right side?
What side are you on?
Oh shit, I'm gonna have to not living bomb the boss. Oh well.
You're going to be on the left side, Burgundian with Zelkos.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Do a ready check and let's get it going. What's up, BMX? KT. Just for void zones if nobody dies.
I will tell you from experience, they are impossible to see with that Death and Decay, though.
I'm sorry, Dark.
Oh shit.
Fucking asshole.
My homie.
Death and Decay is griefing, clearly.
True. It's griefing the blind.
Alright, everyone's ready? Go ahead and pull Swifty. Or Bear.
Old Man Cherry can't tell the difference between Death and Decay and Void Zones.
Old Man Cherry blind spot. Old Man Cherry would fucking lose it if one of the
Old
Death
Man
Knights
Cherry is
crossed
my
the
new
immortal.
favorite cherry term.
We're both speaking to me in the third person. I like it.
Boomer Cherry.
Man, a goddamn boomer.
Who's my tank over here? Emma?
That's
Okay,
me.
cool.
Mhm.
Don't forget to track evil. Or undead.
Those chain heals are so cute.
Hey, this is not a fight for me, bro. I will see you on Four Horsemen, though.
Mm-hmm. No, you won't. You'll see behind me.
You can't see me with a telescope on that fight. Dark to the back.
I'll go into the back and still beat you.
Put some respect on the name, dog. I'm a good shaman.
No, he's not. Don't listen.
We all know it's about Vesuvius and Thaddeus. Or Patchwork, whatever the fuck. Not Thaddeus.
Yeah,
Be
somebody.
careful over there, Stabs. I saw that, bro. Be careful, cuz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tonight we're not caring about any of our parses. Don't be selfishly caused to
There you go,
raid
Stab.
immortal. chain heals are cute.
They're spawning so awkwardly on the dead side.
For real.
So I dropped Walmart, Emma.
I wish the nameplates would turn to like off tank color when your Earth Elemental has them.
You could probably set that.
He's just
You know,
good for
UI.
grouping.
So many settings to look at.
Yeah,
I
the
wouldn't
tank
even know what to
settings
set.
and tank colors, like when it goes purple if it's on an OT, I'm sure you could put that to Earth Valley.
Oh, I thought it did that by default.
Only for it doesn't do it for the elementals.
Yeah, not for Elemental.
Oh yeah. The fucking elementals and the fucking.
I wonder if that works for Army of the Dead. I'll have to try.
Army of the fucking Dead always just makes me fucking go crazy.
True. I'm like 3 taunts in and then realizing it's Army.
Oh yeah, Army does taunt the KT ads, and that could get messy. So something to think about for sure.
No army either. Pets will be on passive, but let's just get there first, ladies and gentlemen. The hard fight is done.
Emma, I know you went AFK, but guess how many snowballs I have?
How many?
Take a guess.
10,000?
Nah, I got like 17.
How you look on mana, Cherry?
I'm good. I'm at 75. I still got my mana tag. Do you need some? Here.
No, I'll pop a potion. No, stop.
Are they working for you?
I haven't tested it yet. I'm
Oh, okay.
low-key probably not going to need it. Shadow Priest OP with Thrill of the Hunt.
You guys have some ads from Living Side for some reason.
It happened.
Ooh, heal back out.
I nearly just cried.
I'm going to start pulling ads to Four Horsemen.
Damn, that's crazy. We had Cookie as our hunter for 1 day, and then we kicked him. Something about him being a cowboy didn't sit well with me. Phase 2 in 8 seconds. I believe you guys can one phase him over there.
I wonder if
That'll
I
be
can
pretty
fucking
sick.
PI fat count from over here. Nope. Damn it.
Holy cow, Bfells put a hunter's mark up. He's good in my books.
He's gonna come over.
Yep, burn him.
Oh wait, the doors don't open. I've never actually done this with with 2 fucking.
They're going to go down at 30%.
It's just for somebody not
Okay.
hurricane and getting clapped. Yeah. Normally we one phase and one side them, but with nobody
No,
dead.
I've never seen the doors just not be open.
If you get him to 30%, he doesn't even teleport.
I'm so used to this boss where you just do one side, so I'm just didn't even know the doors didn't open.
R.I.P. Bernie.
R.I.P. in pieces.
Careful with the debuff. Bear.
True.
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
True is fine.
You're good. It's not too bad.
Leggings of the fleeting moments.
Well, trash doesn't count for immortal anyways, but yeah.
Oh,
And
people
could-
smell so good.
Could I get detect and viz for the shades, please? I don't like when they sneak up on us.
Helm of Unleashed Energy.
Second best for Resto Shamans. If I'm the only shaman?
Okay.
Oh, fuck.
Let's get the path first. because it's 2 and 1.
Oops, Silent
You have
Crusader
a, you have
drop.
a
Oh, it's 3.
you have a full DE coming or MD
Yep.
coming to you.
Swifty, there's a Silent Crusader back there.
Yeah, that's not dropping off you. I know you're good.
Watch that whirlwind. Guys.
Yeah, for sure. There's 3 packs in here.
That was my bad. I wasn't healing. I was looking at the loot. Silent Crusader.
Standing in whirlwinds.
Silent Crusader.
Anybody needs Silent Crusader?
Whole icon.
Should have brought my Death Knight.
If you don't have threat plates, you really should have them. You can see the icons when they're doing it and all that shit.
Congrats, my lord. Hey, Emma, can you put little beefy things on for this, just to be safe?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
What's the strat here, fearless leader?
Front 2 cleave.
You want me
Lord,
and,
can you open for
me
me
and
with me,
Berg in the
please?
back, or what's the deal?
Can you have Bfells MD Baron so I can keep all my front loaded?
Hey, I need 2 minutes.
Bfell, I imagine Emma's going to be tanking the 2 in the front.
Yeah, it'll be me in the front.
Are we going to be standing off to the side or in the middle?
I'll probably just right here in the middle, wherever they meet, because I'll be taking, who was it? Thane. I'll be just dragging him to the left, and the other guy should be running towards me, and we'll meet somewhere here.
All right.
And
I
don't,
believe in you. I believe in you
I'll
to
run
let
them
me
into
use
your.
my pre-traps.
I will run them into your pre-trap, so both of you hunters can pre-trap as soon as the timer goes up.
Huh.
Yeah. Did we roll off the luminosity yet? No. Shroud of luminosity.
This for disc. How you do that?
The J-Dubs. Right, Hood of the Exodus. It's another D.
If he's still AFK, you could give it to me and I'll do it.
Does you catch up? Who said that? It wouldn't catch up, was it?
J-Dubs.
J-Dubs, sorry.
Sorry, I'm back.
Oh.
Yeah, my bad. Okay, so Skull and X going to be right up in the front with Emma.
Bfell, put your mark on X.
And then Star and Square in the back with Bear, Touch Me, and Swifty. Darkness and Burgundy are going to heal in the back. So sorry about that. Fucking. So my mom's staying here, and then she invited my sister, and then kids. Cleaving the front two, when Skull and X die, melee goes square, range goes star. Is there any questions?
The usual, yeah?
Per usual, real nice and easy.
Bfell, mark on X.
We're stacking on Emma. Range is going star, melee is going square. Waiting for people to ready up. Waiting on Bear Touch Me. Yeah, melee don't ever go to star, just walk out and drop your debuffs. Because
Okay, I'm putting the timer up.
same with
While we-
range. Range stays spread out on star. There's no reason to risk a chain lightning death.
Alright, give me 5.
There's 10-second pull timer.
Oh, okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Back up on circle.
Guys, make sure you're stacking.
We're in the back. We're switching. We're switching.
Swifty, which side are you on?
I'm on Ziliac.
Okay, I'll go to the other one.
You were in the back with me. We're switching.
Melee, step out, drop your blow me stacks. Do not go to Zeliac. Range, also drop your stacks. And then once your stacks are gone, go to on your respective boss. Melee, do not come to Zeliac.
Switching in the back. If we were in the back with me, let's just drop our stacks.
Melee, stand out.
Alright, Swifty, can you come in here and take this?
Oh my god.
Too many people were too close.
What just happened?
We got chain lightning.
Where'd you guys die?
In
The
the
chain
middle.
lightning does more damage the more people it hits,
Yep.
and it chained like 5 times.
Yep.
Unfortunate.
Out of like range 10.
What do you have
Was there melee on
to
boss at the end?
Oh,
I
no.
saw a couple melee just sitting over, doing nothing with me. Like some people were doing the right stuff, but I don't know.
All range that died.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it chains off the melee into the range, and the more people it hits, the more damage it does.
However, there's always next week.
Demo shout has been cast on the raid.
Alright, final voyage.
Need a refresh on Kings, 5 minutes.
Alright, chat. Lost Vanquisher breastplate. We have 2 of these. Rats galore. I guess I give the other one to catch up for or somebody for the
Dubs.
dubs.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Oh. Pass. Sorry.
I can D the druid stuff.
Hold on. 1 second, J-Dubs. Let me get this to my lord.
Thank you.
See if I can change the disenchant. Maybe I can just manage.
A lot of disenchants.
And
A lot of
then,
here shit.
and then there's that as well. Thanks. Actually, I got one more J-Dubs. Oh, that's Fat Cow, not J-Dubs.
Are you saying all boomies look alike?
Yeah.
That's racist.
This video has been brought to you by Rise of Kingdoms. Join Rise of Kingdoms in their newest event called 12 Civilization Competition. Final round, Romans versus Vikings. Stand by the powerful Vikings in the event, out of respect for their raw warlike courage. Here you will
Bear Touch
experience
me's
the
main
battle
tanking here.
between different
Misdirect the Bear
civilizations
Touch me
from
on
various
Patchwork.
times, like Romans and Vikings,
Swifty and Amazon
Ottoman
are eating
and
hateful.
Byzantine empires,
After this
or
Swifty,
modern
feel
age
free to go red.
civilizations such as Germany, Japan, and Korea, and etch your
Rogues can
civilization's
get
name into
distract while
history
our
by
healers get
building an
mana.
invincible empire. We really like the battle scenes in Rise of
We
Kingdoms,
have
lifelike
15
and
seconds.
dynamic with distinctive soldiers,
Is it a ready
generals, and
check?
commanders, each having different talents and
Here you go,
characteristics.
Emma.
They can
Or
counter each
main
other,
tank,
which
please
gives
be nice,
Rise of
Metro.
Kingdoms a stronger strategic experience. What's even more exciting, forming alliances in one
He's not
global
gonna hit it.
server and compete with
What are we waiting
100
on?
million players from all over the world. With pride and joy,
there's
share
no
your
fucking
losses,
unicorn.
victories, and heroisms, as this will carve out the experience of
You
your
wanna just fight it down
warriors
there?
and help you rule the world.
Dark, you worry
Use our
about
link in the description to download the game, join the
Swifty.
event, and have the chance to
Zelkos
win
worry about
awards such as an
Emma.
iPhone 13 or AirPod
Burgundian,
Pro. Download
Beacon,
Rise of Kingdoms
Bear
to
Touch me, and
support our
then
work,
heal the off
channel,
tanks. Actually,
and
Dark,
content.
worry about Bear.
Weird
Burgundian, Beacon,
weapons
Bear,
of the
and then I'll just throw the
Vietnam
chain
War.
heals.
Throughout its history, the United
Did we
States
wanna
Armed
fight him
Forces
down
has
there? Somebody
hardly
just asked that.
experienced a more
No.
challenging campaign than the war in Vietnam from 1955 to 1975. The United States fought
Then
a
you gotta re-heal and
technically
re-mana up.
inferior enemy, but one that was determined to fight to the end. Unlike previous wars, the Americans were forced to fight unconventional warfare on difficult terrain and in a harsh environment. The jungle warfare in Vietnam was a challenge that the U.S.
Normally the
Armed
off-tanks
Forces
tank a
commanders
lot
had to
more
deal
damage
with
than
during
the
all
other
19 years of the war. Their vast armament often proved useless and inadequate in the fight against the unconventional enemy, and the Americans and their allies had to resort to unconventional methods. tactical tree crusher. The most challenging aspect of the Vietnam War for the U.S. military was the Vietnamese jungle. The Viet Cong fighters were skillfully using its features both to hide from their enemies as well as to make surprise ambushes on them. Fighting the jungle was therefore one of the priorities for the Americans. For this task, they mainly used a defoliant component called Agent Orange. However, once dropped, it took several days for it to become effective and was often diluted and washed away by heavy rains. As an alternative in reducing the jungle, the Army used specialized bulldozers that were nicknamed roam plows. These were effective in clearing the forest, but not as quickly as the Army required. In 1967, the 1st Logistical Command came up with an idea to use civilian monster tree crushers for the task. They contacted the heavy machinery manufacturer Laterno Corporation from Texas, asking for the price of the vehicles.
All right, let's get a pull
Since
timer up.
each tree crusher was $300,000, the Army decided to lease 2 crushers for a period of 6 months. In July 1967, 2 tactical tree crushers arrived at the port of Saigon. They were immediately put into action to clear land around Long Vinh Post. The tactical tree crusher was an enormous tractor weighing 97 tons. At the front, it had pusher bars installed for toppling trees. 2 cleated drums at the front and 1 at the rear were used to chew up the fallen trees. Even trees 3 feet in diameter and 50 feet tall were no obstacle to this monstrous machine. The capacity of the tactical tree crusher was impressive. A single unit could sweep 32 acres of jungle in 1 working day. In comparison, the roam plow could flatten less than 7 acres in the same time. That was, however, only in theory. In practice, the tactical tree crusher was proving to be unsuitable for the environment. Due to its immense weight, the machine often got stuck in the Vietnamese swampy terrain. Once stuck, extracting a 97-ton machine from the mud became a real challenge. The engines were also prone to failure in these jungle conditions. Its water cooling system and electrical components were failing far too often, so that the tree crushers were spending more time in the workshop than they did in action. Finally, the high profile of the machine made it an ideal target for the VC fighters. The vehicle itself had no armored protection at all. The engineers ultimately proposed a list of modifications, including multi-section wheels, a lower frame, and armored protection with a 50 caliber machine gun turret on top, and claymore mines attached to the side of the vehicle. Convinced that any investment in the tactical tree crushers would be a waste of time and money, the Army gave up on them. After the lease expired, the machines were returned to the United States. The Daisy Cutter. The importance of the task to clear large areas of the jungle became paramount in fighting the VCs. After the unsuccessful venture with the tree crushers, the U.S. Air Force provided the Army with a new solution to clear large areas of jungle, primarily for purposes of creating helicopter landing zones and artillery emplacement sites. It was quite smaller and simpler in operation. What the Air Force had in mind was to use air-dropped bombs to create clearings in the jungle. The trials began in 1967 with the World War II-era M118 bombs, which showed good initial results. The Air Force expanded the exercise by dropping large 10,000-pound M121 bombs from C-130 transport planes.
Not bad, not bad.
Once the stocks of M121 were exhausted, they developed the BLU-82B C-130 weapon system. Bomb Life Unit 82B was essentially a thin container filled with 12,600 pounds, or 5,700 kilograms, of a mixture called GSX, which was a slurry consisting of ammonium nitrate, aluminum powder, and polystyrene. Bombs were dropped attached to parachutes from C-130 Hercules airplanes. Each bomb was armed with 2 types of fuses. The first was an impact fuse connected to a propeller extension.
There you go.
The second one was set off by a timer which was activated once the parachute deployed. If everything went right, the first fuse would detonate the bomb before it stuck in the ground, thus avoiding creating the crater. When it exploded, the bomb produced a overall pressure of 1,000 pounds per square inch, clearing all trees and undergrowth within a radius of 260 feet, just enough for a helicopter to land safely. The soldiers on the ground nicknamed it the Daisy Cutter. It was also dispatched using the CH-54 Tarhe Sky Crane helicopter, which would probably allow for more accurate dropping, as the helicopter could hover over the intended target before releasing the bomb. The first
No.
BLU-82B was dropped
don't
in
we let
Vietnam
it
on March
everyone?
22nd,
I
1970,
try to.
during
Everybody
Campaign
runs over like a
139.
bunch of fucking maniacs.
Throughout the war, the Air Force used it frequently for creating instant landing zones. Because of the bomb's devastating power, it was also used against
take
enemy
that.
troops
I
and
don't know,
building
buddy. I don't know about
infrastructures.
that one.
All right.
Dude, that'd be
Lazy
ill.
Dog.
I don't think it
The
works
arsenal
like that
of
for
bombs the U.S. Air Force
Alright guys, we
used
have
against the
new
enemy
people here
was
that's never
huge.
played this before, so I'm
More
gonna
than
explain how this works.
7.5 million bombs were
We are
dropped
going
on
to kite
Vietnam,
Gravilus
Laos, and
along the
Cambodia.
wall I am running.
The airstrikes
If you
were
get
conducted
mutating
with
injection
guided
poison,
and unguided
you
high
run
explosive
behind
bombs, chemical
Gravilus
bombs,
towards the wall, let your
incendiary
debuff
bombs,
fall
and even
off
bombs without
naturally.
explosives. Because they were not armed with
Is there any
explosives, lazy dogs weren't technically bombs. Still, this concept, better described as free-fall kinetic missiles, was equally lethal. This was a secret program of the Air Force Armament Laboratory, based on similar designs from the two previous world wars. The main idea was to spray the enemy with thousands of small projectiles.
Some people get a little
When dropped
spell
from
happy
great
and
heights,
fucking
the
drop that shit in the
projectiles
middle of
would
the rig.
produce a kinetic force 3 times larger than standard airburst bombs. In the early 1950s, the Air Force conducted tests with projectiles of various sizes and shapes. Each of them basically consisted of a pointed
Burgundian,
steel
you can make a
body
judgment
and
call
an
on
after
spells.
body with
If you're watching
stabilizing
them, it's
fins.
fine.
The most effective were shape number 5 and shape number 2 projectiles that had enough force to penetrate 24 inches and 12 inches of packed sand, respectively.
where he goes.
The Far East Air Force was the
Yeah,
first
like,
to get their
I'll
hands on
pull
this
them into it,
unusual
like right
weapon.
around there, where you're
The
standing.
design was improved by introducing a dispenser. Lazy dogs were dropped from an aircraft packed inside the Mark 44 cluster adapter. Equipped with a time fuse, the adapter would open at the designated height and release up to 17,500 Lazy Dog projectiles. It's estimated that the projectiles reached a speed of 480 miles per hour, or 772 kilometers per hour, before hitting the target.
Big Kings on catch-up.
On the ground, a
Yeah.
rain of Lazy Dog projectiles had a devastating effect on troops, vehicles, and buildings.
I get assist.
During the Vietnam War, the Air Force used them frequently against enemy positions
timer going,
concealed in the
okay.
jungle. It was quite an effective weapon, especially because it was both invisible and silent. The enemy would only be aware of incoming projectiles when they started penetrating through the foliage. By that time, it would be too late to take cover from them. It was precisely for these reasons that the weapon was eventually withdrawn from use, as Lazy Dogs were deemed to be indiscriminate weapons of destruction. XM3 People Sniffer. Fighting the enemy in the jungle was not as difficult as actually finding them. Viet Cong fighters were true masters of concealment in the jungle. Locating their hideouts and tunnel entrances was almost an impossible mission. In order to ease the task of locating the enemy, the Army had designed a special piece of equipment called a personnel detector. The device was essentially a chemical detector that was capable of detecting effluents found in human urine and sweat. The program for developing personnel detectors was carried out by the Chemical Corps in cooperation with engineers from General Electric. The result was the XM2 Personnel Detector Backpack. The set comprised a sensor mounted in a backpack with an intake tube attached to a rifle. XM2 was used by soldiers in patrols, but proved to be very problematic, since the soldier carrying the XM2 was also sweating. It was obvious that the detector would often react to his presence rather than that of the concealed enemy. Soldiers also hated these people sniffers because they emitted a distinct sound which revealed their position to the enemy. Another version of the people sniffer was the XM3 Airborne Personnel Detector. XM3 detectors were used mounted in pairs on board helicopters. A group of sniffer helicopters would fly at an altitude of 50 feet and locate the presence of humans on the ground. In order to obtain the best results, a series of conditions had to be met though, such as wind speed under 10 miles per hour, a neutral temperature gradient, and if possible, without the presence of smoke and other battlefield effluents. Sniffers also worked much better on the open ground than in the jungle. Even with these limitations, XM3 detectors proved to be very reliable in locating an enemy presence, especially when it came to detecting smoke from cooking fires. Still, the Viet Cong managed to find a way to fool the sniffers by hanging buckets filled with urine throughout the jungle and setting off small fires to confuse the detectors. Nevertheless, these Operation Snoopy missions were conducted almost on a daily basis and provided valuable data about the location of the enemy on the ground. fake poop.
I will res Bernie then
Gathering
Cookie.
data about
All I
the
gotta say,
enemy's
this is better than
location
the
was one of the
pug
most
difference.
important tasks for the American troops in
obviously.
Vietnam. One way to detect the enemy movement was by installing motion detectors in the area that they were known to be active in. The only
still can't
problem
res.
was the enemy would destroy
But
the
who's gonna be in the
detectors
back
if they
is
found them.
Papa Zune.
The
Does you
army
have a frost
therefore
set?
had to find a way to conceal the
Swifty?
detectors. The
You two
solution
should be
was
able
to
to handle
place
it
the
just
motion
fine.
detector
Burgundian, you're gonna stay
inside
on the
fake
paladins.
dog or monkey poop.
And Dark, you're gonna help
The fake poop
heal towards the
detector
back,
was
and
developed
Zelkos, you're
around
gonna spot heal where
1970
need
by
be. I am
military
going
intelligence,
elemental.
and they were placed all along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Inside the false body molded in the shape of an animal's feces was the T1151 dog-do transmitter. Once the enemy had passed by lumps of this on the trail, the transmitter would send out a Morse code signal and thus help the Air Force pinpoint the
Cookie, if
enemy's
you get out
location
GPS,
for
buy me your
airstrikes. Since the transmitter
Probably
was packed
will.
inside
You
the
got the
poop,
I do damage for
VCs
1
would
minute
often
button?
pass right by it without paying any attention to it.
Zune is in Discord.
He said.
Yeah,
Zune's the one that's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell by the lack of lore.
No, that's Arc.
That's Arc and X.
Oh yes.
Alright, just let me know when you want me to taunt the boss.
Look of the Shadowed Sun.
I'll let you know, Bear.
Hey, Bfells, have you ever kited in the back?
The Macadam Shield Shovel. Weird tech. World War I. The
Fallout
Macadam Shield
Impervious
Shovel,
Tunic.
or Hughes Shovel, was a 2-in-1 solution designed for the trenches of World War I by a Canadian named Sam Hughes, who was the Minister for the Department of Militia and Defense in 1913. The device would
It's
resemble
gonna
a
be
standard
Bfells and Swifty
infantry
in the back.
shovel with a hole in
Thank you,
it,
baby.
so that it could also act as a sniper
Just
shield.
put a frost trap
The
back
shovel
there
would
too,
be
Cookie,
named after
in
Eno
the beginning.
McAdam, Hughes' personal
Okay, I'll put it in
secretary,
the dead
who
center.
suggested the idea in 1913 when she saw Swiss troops digging trenches and suggested that they could
Who's
combine
taking
their
first on
entrenching
this?
tools with bulletproof
Emma.
shields.
It'll be me.
To use it as a
You got
shield,
the rocket boots to
the
drag him in
soldier would
position.
lie in prone with the rifle placed
Word.
through the hole, with the shovel handle rotated
the- I-
90 degrees to expose the spike that drove into the ground. In 1914, 25,000 shield shovels were produced for the Canadian Army. Hughes proclaimed them a Canadian miracle device, but after field testing, it was clear that the expensive piece of equipment had many problems. It was
Waiting
heavy
on
because of the
back out.
thick steel necessary to deflect a
Back out, click
bullet,
the ready button,
and
brah.
difficult to carry as it had no carrying handle. Even worse,
Oh.
the shield
Reps,
shovel
let's
couldn't
go.
actually deflect
Oh
bullets,
yeah, he did say that.
even if they were small in caliber, and was not good for digging because of the hole in the blade. High-ranking Canadian and British
that means I
military
got time to
officials,
eat this pizza. Let's
including Arthur
go.
Curry, refused to accept the shield shovel. It was stated by Saturday
Hell
Night
yeah.
magazine that the Macadam shield shovel was only good for one thing: opening tins.
Ooh, I got one.
The
mana
shovels
pot.
were
Here
soon
you go.
replaced by
Little
British
few
entrenching
I do,
mana
tools
buddy.
pots.
and
Grade one,
turned
a cookie
into
for mana
scrap
pot.
metal. Although some Canadian
You got
snipers
mana injectors,
did make
Cookie?
use of the
I heard
device,
that, boys.
placing many
Give me a
together
stack.
for effective protection.
Thank you, sir.
The Colibri. Mini pistol.
You're welcome.
The Colibri is the smallest commercially available center-fire
Shut up, bro.
cartridge semi-automatic pistol made
Come on,
in
back out.
history. The Colibri was designed by an Austrian watchmaker named Franz Fanel and financed by Georg Grabnar.
No, Lana, you're not allowed to
Patented in
use anywhere. I'm sorry,
1910,
buddy.
It was produced around
You're too
1914 before the
indispensable.
outbreak of World War I. Its name, Colibri, is German
See,
for
Josh Dobbs
hummingbird,
is starting for
which
the
is one
Titans
of the
tonight.
smallest birds.
Is he?
While it
Yeah.
appeared as a novelty, it was marketed
That's
as
weird.
a lady
Who they play?
self-defense weapon against
The
criminals that
Cowboys.
was compact
That's a
enough
loss.
to fit in a handbag.
Oh yeah.
The Colibri had an overall length of
Yeah, I got
2.8
Cowboys
that
inches
lost
or
to
7
Jacksonville? Come on,
centimeters
bro.
and had a blowback
Hey, the
action
Titans
like
did
a
too.
normal pistol.
Titans
Due to
ain't
its
sweet,
scale
bro.
and manufacturing
Titans are not
technology
good.
of the time,
Derrick
it
Henry
lacked
is a
rifling,
beast.
making
You
it
never know
very
when he's gonna
inaccurate.
take off.
The
Not this
magazine
game.
would
As,
carry
uh,
6 rounds, which was
As
difficult to load.
Cowboys fan,
The caliber was just 2.7 millimeters, and its cartridge weighed just
first round
5.3
points, I got
grams or
1,000 gold that
82
says Dallas
grams.
loser.
A
need
3mm version of the Calibri was also made later on, which used a lead bullet
Yeah,
instead
but
of
you
a
beat the
jacketed
Eagles,
bullet
whereas
like
team,
2.7mm
that's what I'm
caliber.
saying. That's what I'm
The
saying.
pistol had a muzzle velocity of around 200 meters per second.
We didn't have our quarterback though. I don't want to use that excuse because you guys did put up
and
40
a
on
muzzle
our
energy
defense,
of
so
just
but we didn't have
4
a quarterback.
joules or 3 foot-pounds. Its recoil was non-existent.
They can go in and play
We
a
had
really good
Questionable
team.
beyond
And
killing
then
rodents,
lose
the
to
bullets
worst
were weaker
team.
than a pellet gun.
The
and would
Cubs
even
were the
bounce
worst
off
team
a
forever.
woolen
They
coat.
just could not win, bro.
But perhaps it could
You
have
back,
done
back
some
out?
harm if shot at a criminal's face in self-defense. 1,000 of these pistols
Gotta
were
blow them
produced
lines,
from
bro.
1914, with production interrupted at the
He was
outbreak
also
of the war.
mentioning earlier
and
about
production
getting
of larger
DC'd, so I don't know if
3mm
that's
and
a problem
4mm
still.
versions continuing until
I give him 2 minutes and
1938.
do the boss out of him.
Most Calibri
It's not
pistols
really,
were lost,
didn't
destroyed,
affect the
or
one phase.
taken by foreign soldiers as souvenirs in Central Europe during the 2 world wars.
That boy's wearing white helmets.
Sniper decoys. Dummy head. World War I.
Yeah.
The First
Yeah,
World
let's go.
War saw extensive use of snipers in combat.
It'll still be one
For
phase.
the first
Just
time, rifles with telescopic
equip
sights
DP
were
Bfells
used on a large
in
scale,
the back.
which under the conditions
Somebody
of trench warfare were
crazy
considered
jump.
very effective. At first, the German
was gonna
Imperial Army were the
rocket boots
only
him in the
ones to
position to
seriously
not shoot
consider
back.
scoped rifles. As soon as the British and French were aware of the German successes with scoped rifles, they also introduced them to the battlefield. Even though sharpshooters existed before, it was the introduction of scopes that allowed them to shoot accurately at very long distances. With a scoped rifle, a good
think the
marksman
guy
was able to
did
acquire his target
I
very
dropped it
easily.
earlier.
He could kill an enemy that barely protruded his head over the trench parapet if he was fast enough. With such horrifying capabilities, snipers became an object of fear for the soldiers in the trenches, especially because they fired from well-concealed positions. Since the art of camouflaging was developing more and more as the war progressed, snipers became harder to detect. For soldiers whose everyday life was weighted by the threat of snipers, it became a necessity to counter this danger. With the awareness of the sniper
You can
threat
call him out there.
widespread,
I'll
soldiers
very
paid
touch
a
me.
lot of attention not to expose themselves. This forced snipers to act quickly and to use the shortest moment to fire at the enemy. It was based on this hastiness that camouflage units designed their deception. Their intention was to force the enemy sniper into making a flawed decision and to draw out his fire so his position could be located. One of the most popular decoys of the war were papier-mâché heads. Papier-mâché was a very popular material before the war
If
and
he
was used
decimates,
in
we're
making
staying boss.
dolls and various components for amusement parks, carnivals, and expositions. It was very cheap, but to make it consisted of chopping down pieces of paper reinforced with any kind of bounding material, whether it was glue or plain starch.
Very nice.
Besides the fact that it was cheap,
Well
it was
done, guys.
also very good for modeling.
You might
The
want to
job of
wait to
making
roll out the
decoy heads
impossible
out of
drinks. I
papier-mâché was
think Back Out
entrusted
needs
to
that.
camouflage
He's already
units
here.
who were working in their
Oh, welcome
small
back, Patty.
improvised workshops
Sick 'em.
on
You
the
didn't
front
see his
lines.
big ass come rumbling in.
Sculptors
I
working
don't
in these
need that
workshops
shit.
made a huge
I did not see
variety
him
of
come
decoys
You may
as well
with
hand me
great
the
precision
chest,
and
since
resemblance
no
to
one
real
wanted it.
human heads.
I'm ready
Special
check for
attention
running
was given
across.
to shaping face
Do I need
details
that?
and coloring the face to look like real
Popping
skin.
specs and gear.
This push
It would
for
only make
realism
sense if I
was
got one.
necessary because
Let
they
me
were
do
to be
that as well,
observed
actually.
through scopes
Red, are
with
you not ready?
magnifying lenses.
I'm not
Stay
ready.
back.
You want
Yeah,
to
To
I'm not
increase
ready,
the
so-
realistic
Okay,
look
let's
of the
back up.
head, some of these
Maybe
were
like
equipped with
detect
rubber
invisible
surgical
flare
tubes
for the
connected
shades
to the
too.
mouth with a
Detect
cigarette
invisible.
case.
He's going
By
down in
blowing
15.
air through the tube, an impression of a
Alright,
soldier
do another
smoking
ready
a
check,
cigarette
Emma,
was
and then we're
made.
moving as a unit.
This increased the
Okay.
possibility of attracting the attention of the sniper.
You said
Papier-mâché heads were
Wait,
usually
wait for
stuck on
Malort.
a long stick in order to securely lift it over the parapet. If the
I need
deception
a
was
30-second
successful
bio
and the dummy
cherry,
head was
when
hit
we
by
get
a
to the
sniper,
boss.
bullet
Alright.
holes were then used to locate
need
the
a longer
sniper
than
with the help of a triangulation method.
You don't have a poop bucket,
There
bro?
were
I need
another
one.
not the
method
leg.
to slide
No,
a
I don't have
parachute
the leg.
into the head
Oh, shit,
and
my
spot
bad,
the
dude.
sniper that way. Once the approximate location was established, the sniper's
Alright,
position was bombarded by artillery or counter
let us know when you're
snipers
back,
would
Malort.
focus on that area. The technique of dummy heads was invented by the British, who at the beginning of the war
Alright, wait for
had
this
a
guy to
lot
cross,
of
I'm on,
problems
then we're-
with German snipers.
And wait for the little
This
guys,
method
and we're going
was a
across.
result of their struggle to fight the hidden enemy. The same method
I
would
still
also
don't know
be
what
used
snowballs
by
that you
other
can listen
sides.
for. Oh, there's one on the right too.
Snowball. Oh, wait, wait,
Dummy
wait.
I'll
tanks.
take him. We could take
Weird
both.
tech.
Okay.
Take them and run
World
in.
War II.
Run to the other side, everybody.
Hell yeah.
Dummy tanks were constructed
Try to
in
put your
World War
back
II as a
to
deception
the
tactic
entrance to
to
the ball,
mislead the enemy
so that when we get
of the
knocked
real
back, it
strength
goes
of the
that way.
Allied forces or the real location of upcoming attacks.
So who's gonna
Although they
explain
were
snowballs?
sometimes used for training.
Snowball is.
Dummy
I will.
tanks were
Snowball is
often used
after a
for
guy
real
busts in your mouth. You
operations.
guys French kiss with it in the
First
mouth.
dummy tanks in World War II were
That's
built
from
by
Clerk.
elite
Not
army
doing it, though,
engineers.
right?
That's
Who were used
what
in
it
North
is.
African campaigns before
That's
the
from the
Battle of
original
Alamein.
Clerk.
Yeah, you see why we were laughing
About the
earlier.
strength and movements of the 7th
I thought
Army
it was
Division.
like a cocaine thing or something.
Nope.
No.
These tanks
I didn't
were
know
made
that's
of
what
wood
it was.
and were
Yeah,
easy
it
to
makes
use
me
for
real
just a
the
ball.
purpose of
That's a
mobility.
ball.
Engineers went even further.
Casters
by
to the
putting
right
wooden
side,
tank
Emma to the
constructions
right
on top of
side,
cars
me and
and
Dark
jeeps
to the right
in order to
side.
create the
DK
illusion of
legs.
movement.
Burgundian, Zelkos to the left
The
side.
use of dummy tanks would be
Along with
used
Bear
on a
Touching
greater
to the left
scale
side,
during the Normandy landing
Melee to the left
preparations
side.
as part of Operation Fortitude, a deception that was set to mislead the Germans into thinking that the landing would take place in Pas-de-Calais instead of Normandy. In order to confuse the Germans, an entire dummy army named the 1st United States Army Group was created that was supposed to resemble General George S. Patton's forces. This time, the Allies were using inflatable tank models as they were easier to build and transport. Dummy tanks were being made on
let's
the
get a right
skeleton
chicken, get it
of
going.
inflatable rubber tubes, which were then covered by rubberized canvas. These kinds of models were easy to make and had less chance of being deflated if hit by shrapnel. The mobility of rubber tanks was excellent, as dummy M4 Shermans weighed only 93 pounds or 42 kilograms when fully inflated. Dummy tanks would be inflated in the middle of the night and could spring up just about anywhere.
If anyone else has to,
Once inflated,
now's your
put in
chance.
position, dummy tanks were
and then
poorly
we can get
camouflaged
the
in order
rest
to
of
be
this done
visible
in an
from
hour.
German reconnaissance planes. To make the impression more complete, dummy tanks were followed by real tanks and bulldozers in order to make traces of tracks. Double agents also helped spread false information in order to make the deception more convincing. The success of this fake army helped contribute somewhat to the Germans believing that the Allied
Hey guys,
invasion would take place
taking
at
a break, take it
Pas-de-Calais.
right now. We don't need to be
However,
taking a
by
bunch
this
of
time
breaks.
in
We
the
normally
war,
get
it
to
was
spend an hour and
difficult
20
for
minutes.
enemy reconnaissance planes to reach England, and the double agents
pee.
who were effective
pee.
in
Go
spreading
pee.
false information to the Germans were the biggest reason
got you
for
guys
the
all
success
mailed
of
poop buckets for
Operation
all the war.
Fortitude. As a result
All
of
of
the
you.
overall
It's Home
deception,
Depot.
German reserves were
With a
kept
cash
at
buddy.
Pas-de-Calais in
With a cash
anticipation
buddy
and
sticker.
away from
I
Normandy,
stayed
where they
with
could
the
have
left-
reinforced its
Oh
defenders.
my god.
It was so
Don't look at the
effective
meme I
that they
posted
remained in the
if
region
you guys
weeks after the real invasion,
want to talk about
thinking there
that.
would be a second,
Guys, if you've
larger
never been here with
invasion.
us, we do positive left,
After D-Day,
negative
the
right.
Allies continued to use inflatable dummy tanks to
Just
deceive the enemy.
run
The task of
through.
deception was
that's
given
just
to
run
a
right through
newly
the
formed
box.
unit known as the
Max
Ghost Army.
You said
to take the
positive
illusion
left?
to the next
Yes.
level.
Yes.
Dummy tanks were used along with
Wow.
tank
Good
sounds
thing,
emitted
good
from
thing.
large
Good
speakers,
thing.
enhancing the
Positive
deception
left,
of a
right where
real
I'm pinging.
armored unit. The Ghost
Negative
Army
to the right.
was successful in staging
When you
around
have your
20
polarity,
enemy
melee,
deceptions
max
after
fucking
the
range.
Normandy landings.
Run right through the boss, fast as you can,
Fake
and we will get
trees,
shocking.
weird
It is
tech,
not that difficult.
World War I.
If the positive left, negative right thing
During the First World
fucks with
War,
you,
engineers
that
were
is tough.
constructing new ways of concealment.
make sure you make the
with
jump.
some
There's a
creative
priest on
results.
each side. If you're
One
not
such
confident
form of
making the jump, don't
camouflage
have
were
rocket
fake
boots or can't
trees
go
that were
kitty form
used as
/dash.
observation posts
Whisper your
or
priest
as
right
sniper
now
nests.
in confidant,
The first
and we
fake
won't
tree
publicly
was
shame you.
invented by French painter
We'll
Lucien
just watch
Victor
you float
Jean
really
Descarola,
slowly.
and his camoufleur artists employed
That
the
goes both
section de
ways.
camouflage
I mean-
of the French army.
I know.
They
I
made an
promise.
iron lookout post and
I'm pretty sure
camouflaged it with tree
aspect of the
bark
pack
and
and
other
you can
natural
walk off.
materials. They would deploy their first artificial tree during the Second Battle of Artois
Catch us
in
back.
May and in
Want a
June
cookie waiting on you.
1915.
Is that a
Burning
These
and
fake
burning.
trees were used to spot German positions for artillery and correct its fire.
Just
However,
waiting on burning.
preparation of such trees on the front line was a very dangerous job, and 15 camoufleurs were killed while installing them. Since it proved to be a successful way of observing the enemy,
Oh god,
fake
this
trees
levitate's gonna
attracted the
fuck me
attention of the
over.
British, who sent a painter named Solomon Joseph Solomon to
Alright,
learn
Bernie's
the
ready,
trade
full
from
timer?
their French allies.
long
Solomon
as I can still
quickly
rock it
understood the
through.
principle of
Oh,
fake
no pull
trees
timer?
and took it to a higher
Oh
level.
my
Solomon wanted to create and
Guys,
conceal
clear, calm.
artificial trees in a manner that copied actual trees on the front line. For that, he used engineers who picked a real tree on no man's land, preferably a dead one blasted by an explosion, and then made a detailed sketch of it. Working with famous British sculptor Leon Underwood, Solomon created his first OP tree, or observation post tree. It was made of steel cylinder sections wide enough for one soldier. Inside
Yeah, I
the
called
10
for a
to
halt in
15
range
foot
one
tall
time.
tube were ladders that led to a seat on top for the soldier who would observe the enemy through special slits. The soldier inside the
Alright,
tree was
right
in
side,
constant
stop.
connection with his commanding officer. To make them properly concealed, Solomon decided to cover OP trees with natural
That
barks.
includes you, Zone.
For that task, he picked willow barks from King George's estate at
I
Windsor
went over
Castle.
to the melee side.
The reason why
That was
Solomon addressed
really
King
sick,
George
bro,
was
what
that he
you just
believed
did.
that discretion
Did you
of
see
the
that?
king would
That
be
was
guaranteed.
fucking nasty. nasty, bro.
Alright, guys, pick
Although
it
the
up.
construction of the tree was a difficult
How'd
task,
you do that?
installing it was
Rocket
even harder.
boots into
Installation had to be done during the night,
Dude,
and
that
finished
was
by next
nasty,
morning,
dude.
so the
Good
enemy
shit.
wouldn't notice the change. Engineers would cut down the real tree and dig out a hole where the roots were.
Yeah,
Then the
he
fake
jumped
tree would be
to the middle.
positioned in
Rocket
place.
boots and parachute,
Everything would
bro. That
appear the
shit
same in
was
the
crazy.
morning.
Good
Ideally,
shit.
the tree would be
Mustang
installed
after the
amongst a
first
series of
polarity.
real trees in order to be more difficult for the enemy to realize
Positive
the
left,
deception.
negative right, stay at max
Once
range,
installed,
guys.
fake trees provided a great observation of the enemy trenches and were also good firing
So your
positions
ship's
for
incoming, watch
snipers.
your debuffs.
The Germans were also
Yeah,
aware of
max
the
range.
idea of fake trees. Their Bombeobachter, or tree observer, was built in the same manner as the British version and was equally as good. One such creation was 25 feet tall and built at the trenches of the Oosterwern Wood during the Battle of Messines in Belgium. Their artificial tree was designed so well that British soldiers didn't discover it for several months, even after they had captured the German lines where they were placed.
I'm sorry.
What was
You're good.
the thing? The Cold War.
It's all good. Dying's off the table. Can we get a
On
B-res?
August
I'm a
4th,
lord. Just don't accept
1945,
until the next
a
polarity
group
ship.
of Russian school children from the Vladimir Lenin All-Union Pioneer Organization presented a 2-foot wooden replica of the Great Seal of the United States to the U.S.
tell you when to
ambassador
accept it,
to the
homie.
Soviet Union, Avril
Or if you
Harriman.
know, you know.
Believing it to be a mere friendly gesture of friendship between the USSR and the USA as allies in World War II, the Great Seal was
I
hung
instant
up
B-res'd
proudly
him,
on
that's
the
why
wall
you
of
didn't
the
see a
ambassador's
B-res thing.
residential study in the
Gotcha.
library at the Residency Spaso House in Moscow. What the Americans
Prez,
didn't
can you give him
know
a call?
was that this gift was holding a secret. This gift was not merely
Thank you,
decorative.
sir.
The Soviets had placed a high-frequency radio bug inside. This listening device, dubbed the Thing, enabled the Soviets to eavesdrop on confidential conversations of the U.S. ambassador. Surprisingly, the bug worked without batteries or electrical circuits. Instead, it was initiated when a radio signal aimed at its antenna from a van parked outside the building activated it. The sound waves from conversations within the office caused vibrations of the membrane inside the carving of the Great Seal, which beamed back to the surveillance van.
It's kind of like Double Dutch.
This
For real.
simplicity meant that the listening device had an almost unlimited lifespan and was difficult to detect. The Thing was on display for 7 years until it was discovered in 1952.
I wish you guys would take more
In
damage so I can catch
1951,
darkness
a
in the
British
bubble
radio
game.
operator
Not
suddenly
happening,
picked
yeah.
up a signal, accidentally overhearing
Oh,
American
it's cool, homie.
conversations while the Soviets were using the bug. The sweep didn't find anything. In fact, whenever major repairs were made to the offices, the walls were inspected for any concealment of bugs. The Great Seal was
We're going
always
spider
taken away
next,
and
and we're praying
examined,
to the great
and then
gods for
returned in
Lana's
place
web death.
afterwards. A second sweep in 1952,
Goddamn,
provoked
Dark,
by
you just
another
fucking-
accidental overhearing of the ambassador's
You
office
nasty,
on
bro.
a radio
I
signal,
gotta give it to you.
found the bug in the Great Seal.
Hardcasters can't compete with the
At
bubbles.
first, the Americans were confused by the seal and didn't know if it was an actual bug
recasting?
because of its simplicity. But eventually, after
I do, bro.
analysis, it would lead on to a
I
British version of the
precast
device.
literally just to stay competitive
The
with them.
discovery of the bug was kept
Even
a
then, it's
secret
not really
by
that
the
competitive,
Americans
dog.
until the U-2 incident in 1960, when
I
the
think that's
Soviets
the first
accused the
time I
Americans
didn't
of
have to switch
spying.
sides one.
To show that
I got a
both
record
sides
kill.
were guilty of this, the Great Seal
By
bug
3
was
seconds.
revealed during the meeting by
You're
U.S.
exactly
Ambassador
where you're
Henry
supposed to
Cabot
be.
Lodge
Like,
Jr.
It had nothing to do with me and my class.
The Krumlauf.
Right now, it's just
Curved
fundamental
barrel.
powered on things that have
In
great damage.
1943, Germany started researching
The
and
Impossible
developing the
Journey.
Krumlauf, or in English, curved barrel. It was an odd-looking
Mangle
device designed
spamming
to
feels
fill
bad.
requests from German tank crews so that they could more effectively engage
Alright
Soviet
guys, Spider
troops
Boss,
as they
Swifty
climbed
go
onto their
rat
vehicles
at the
and
boss,
attacked
Bear touch me,
blind
you're going
spots
to
of
be
their
mangle
existing
mangle
machine
spamming.
guns.
Dark
Early
and I
on
will be
during
DPSing a
the
Nubricon.
German military realized that the concept would also be beneficial
Lana,
to
keep
infantry
doing whatever
in
the fuck it
trenches
is you're
or
doing, dog.
in urban combat.
Rats, J-dubs.
The gadget could allow the
Way to win,
soldier
Dubs.
to shoot at angles without
I'm
exposing
calling
his
guys.
head, such as around a
I
corner
would say
of
if you're a
building.
shaman, put disease cleansing totem down,
At
but there's
first,
only one of us.
the Krumlauf was only designed for Germany's
shot this
service
barrel.
rifle, the Kar 98K.
That's
After
my
the
dark.
adoption of the
Like
MP43,
plays Lost
later
Lake
called the
Shore,
Sturmgewehr
Rogue
44, all
Rogue
testing
Death
was
Knight
centered
Mage
around the new
Druid,
weapon
right?
and
Is
its
that
new
right?
caliber,
Yeah.
the 8mm Kursk. The result of much testing was the two optimal
Didn't you give
degree
those
angles
to
for the
Bear?
curved
He rolled
barrel,
off on the
30
leg
degrees
earlier.
and 90
Did your
degrees.
button pop?
The
I think it's
30
another
degree barrel,
set.
named the Vorsatz J,
Fine.
was intended for
No.
infantry use.
She
It
got
had a
4 barons
periscope
on.
mounted on the barrel.
Oh, Baron,
Hallelujah.
I used,
While the
when they
90
told me
degree
I
barrel
was
of the
LOS from all the
Vorsatz V
healers, so I
was
used
developed
my
for
divine
vehicle
protection.
use and was
Okay.
intended to be used in a ball
I saw
mount
Divine
so that
Protection.
the
I didn't know
vehicle
what that
crew
other
would
icon
not
was.
have to expose themselves. This design was
I'm gonna
not
swap
flawless.
specs after this
Barrels
pull.
were prone to warp or explode
you guys
under
can keep pulling.
continual use and pressure. And the bullets tended to break up on the curve, which would give it a shotgun-like
seeing so many
effect in some
pieces get
cases.
to eat.
The Kromlau
Almost
was issued
everything's
too late in the war to see much combat.
That is good
Make
that
much of
nobody
a
needs gear
difference in any
anymore.
battle.
Yeah.
After the
Head
war,
piece.
Yeah,
both
I'm
the
literally
American and Soviet
getting
military
those for
experimented with the design.
feral
During
off
the
spec
Korean War,
to have
American
2 pairs
tank
of
crews
them.
encountered the same issues as the German crews many years before. As a result, the U.S. Army developed an M3 grease gun with a curved barrel for tank crews to defend against inbound Korean and Chinese infantry.
Dark, swap the
Soviets
shadow when you
seemed
can.
even more interested in the design and developed
I'm
many
guessing
firearms
Group and
with
Zug.
curved barrels. Early developments
Group
were
and
based
Zug.
around the
what we do.
PPSH-41, while later designs were based around the
Pauldrons of the
SG-43,
Abandoned.
RPD, and even the AK-47.
I'll try to tank them where he is right now, but with the
drip rifle,
pushback he does,
World War
he's gonna
I.
eventually get pushed back and back
During the
further.
evacuation
Just
of
so you guys
Gallipoli by the
know.
Allies, which started in December
Into the corner?
1915,
Where
an
they're, like,
ingenious
yellow-
invention
Yeah,
was
like
constructed on the
into the door,
battlefield
into
by
the corner.
Anzac
He's gonna
forces
keep pushing me
to
back every
deceive
time he
the
spikes
Ottoman
me up.
enemy
So
into
just
thinking a
for your
large force
AoE.
was still firing back at them, when in reality, the rifles
Eat
were
your
shooting
fish.
without a person pulling the trigger. This invention, which was called the drip rifle or
Bfells,
pop-off
you wanna
rifle,
mark one
was
of the,
developed by an Australian
ads?
called Lance Corporal William Scurry, who was assisted by his friend
Like
Bunty
blades of
Lawrence.
Lost
It
Protector,
worked by
Shaman
using
Warrior
2
Hunter.
ration tin cans, one filled with water with a hole punched in it, and the
Yeah, if
other
you guys
empty
could MD
and
that
attached to
left
the
ad to
rifle's
me, that would
trigger
be really
using
nice.
string. The rifle was loaded and fixed in position with sandbags. Over time, the water would drip out of the first tin can, filling the lower can
Dark, you
until
need
it
any
had reached a
spots, bro?
certain weight, pulling the trigger and
Nah,
firing the
I use
weapon.
Magic, but I have some.
By this time, the soldiers
Ooh,
were
I
long
got
gone,
some
but from a
magic
distance,
arrows,
it would give the impression that the position was still manned. The variation in methods and weight would also make the shots appear at random times and intervals. This deception was put to the test alongside mannequins and dummy artillery pieces on the last night of the evacuation
ready,
from
check the pull
Gallipoli.
timer.
Scurry and Lawrence rigged the drip
Guys,
rifles
don't
along
jump in.
random points of the
RIP our
Anzac
fucking
firing line. The last
pre-pause,
2,000 men
please.
who made up the Allied rear guard then quietly withdrew, deceiving the Ottoman enemy into thinking that they
Yeah, I'll
were
lock
still
it
there.
this up.
The rear guard would evacuate successfully without any casualties. Scurry was later awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal in recognition for his invention. Periscope rifles, weird tech, World War I. For the soldiers stuck in the stalemate of World War I, fighting from the trenches was no easy task. Shooting from the trenches meant that a soldier had to stand up over the parapet, exposing his head in order to aim at the enemy, posing a perfect target for enemy snipers. Therefore, soldiers needed to find a way to shoot the enemy without the risk of being exposed and shot. The invention of the periscope rifle would allow them to avoid that risk. Although it appeared on the Western Front first, the invention of the periscope rifle can't be credited to just one individual. The necessity to stay concealed while shooting led to almost simultaneous occurrences of periscope rifles on the battlefields across Europe. Some were made in specialized workshops, and some were improvised by soldiers on the battlefield. The first patent for a periscope rifle attachment was by William Youlton from Great Britain. He applied for the patent in the first days of the war in 1914. His
Damn,
device,
man, that
named the
wasn't even fucking top
hyposcope,
10.
was a rifle butt sighting attachment. It consisted of one double reflecting prism that was mounted over the butt. The prism allowed the shooter to aim
that was our
while
fastest
staying
kill
below the
by
line of sight. The
3
hyposcope was designed to be attached on British
Yeah,
Lee
right.
Enfield rifles, but was
them
used
back.
with other rifles and even machine guns as well.
That was the fastest.
Without
kill by
knowledge of Youlton's
15
invention,
seconds.
an Australian,
Bro, I put
Lance
5
Corporal
points for
William
8 on
Beach,
that
invented
fucking-
his
that was
version of a
20.
periscope rifle in May 1915 in the trenches of Gallipoli. Beach
Y'all
got
been
the
not on
idea after witnessing his fellow soldiers being
reprisal.
shot in the head while trying to shoot the Turks
It's
above the
unholy.
trenches. Being a construction foreman, he worked to attach a periscope to a rifle. His device was a wooden frame for the Lee Enfield rifle with a box
You think we
periscope.
could 3
The
heal?
upper mirror of the periscope was in line with the
go to
rifle's
the-
sights,
guys.
and the lower
Oh,
mirror
never mind.
aligned to the soldier's eyes. The shot was
grab
fired via a wire
SPX.
that was connected to the rifle's trigger.
I
With
think
this
my lawyer's
device, a
no longer
soldier could shoot his
He's already got a
rifle on
plus.
the top of the parapet while standing safely below it.
That would make sense.
The accuracy of the periscope rifle was relative and depended on the skillfulness of the
Oh,
shooter.
imagine getting gear in
However,
main
as the
mode.
distance between
Dark,
the
I
opposing
believe in,
trenches on the
I
Gallipoli
believe in us for
battlefield
3D.
was
Let's stay
pretty
shadow
small,
for the
periscope
mines
rifle
here,
proved
please.
to be effective. The
Leggings
drawback of the device
atrophy.
was that the bolt was out of the reach of the shooter, who had to take the rifle back down to cycle it after each shot.
Really good hit
As
for
Beach's
all
periscope rifle proved its worth, he was ordered to establish a
Just
workshop
below
on the
the
beaches
wontons.
behind the front lines, where he made more periscope rifles. The Turks eventually captured and copied their own versions later on. Another British periscope rifle was one constructed by J.E. Chandler. The device he made in September 1915 was more complex, but more efficient than previous inventions, as it had levers for actuating the bolt. This rifle allowed the shooter to fire all 10 rounds from the rifle without having to bring it down each time. Periscope rifles were also used by the German army. Among their many field improvisations, the Germans also produced factory-made periscope attachments. Their periscope rifle attachment, the Spiegelkolben, was quite simple in its design, but it was very effective. Its entire frame contained the
For those who
periscope
don't
and was
know,
made of
we are
steel
fighting
with
this
a
boss on the
buttstock of its
platform.
own,
Gonna
which
murder
resulted
everything
in
down.
better
Focus
accuracy.
boss. If you have cleave, use
To
your cleave.
fire, the soldier pulled the
Next
auxiliary
game, trade
trigger,
with
which was
Frederick,
attached to the
please.
rifle's trigger by a chain.
What else? Very
Some
important
versions
to
had
use
a
your arcane
mechanism
torrent
to
here, because
cycle
these
the
things
bolt without bringing the
fuck
rifle
us
down
up.
after each shot. Another improvement allowed the soldier to adjust the periscope height. The German periscope rifle also had an extended 25-round magazine and luminous sights for shooting at night.
In the next fight, Dark,
The
you go
most advanced
Disc, I'll
periscope
go Ellie.
rifles were made in the United States. One such device was made by J.L. Cameron
always
and
like
Lawrence
that.
E. Yagi from Cleveland, Ohio.
Maybe if I play it on my
Their
desktop,
device
it'd be
was a
better.
steel
But
frame designed for the
He
Springfield
lays down
Model
and plays.
1903
Leave our bear
rifle
alone.
with a magnifying periscope, trigger
Dude's on
extension,
the
and
hotel
bolt action
Wi-Fi.
lever. In addition, there was a 25-round
He does
extended
his job.
magazine.
That's what matters.
Another American design was made by
It's
Mr.
comfy
Diverson
right
in
now.
California.
The boss
At first glance,
Shit,
Diverson's
if you
model
teleport
looked
like
a
that, let's go,
standard
Arena.
Springfield M1903 rifle.
Who the
However, the
fuck
press of a button
PvP?
opened a collapsible hinged
Done
stock
enough
with a built-in
PvP.
periscope, turning the ordinary rifle
guys, we
into
have
a periscope rifle.
We have one tank
This
here.
design was definitely the most advanced version
It is
and had great
Amazon.
mobility,
We are
but it
focusing
seems
boss.
it was made too late
Fire
to see
mages,
action
do
on
your
the
little living
battlefield.
bomb thingies.
Periscope rifles were
Boomies do the
primarily
fuck
used
ever
by
you
standard
boomies do the top of
infantrymen,
charts and
while
50 go
marksmen
nuts.
preferred the standard sniper
Oh, yeah.
rifles and hidden
I'm
maps.
expecting a 20k DPS.
Although
PK.
periscope
Yeah,
rifles
we are
did
healing
provide
through the
safe
fire. Do
shooting
not
from
move
cover,
the boss.
they were quite inaccurate. As the weapon was being used from
Hopefully you
below
guys time
while
your
laid on
snapshots well.
sandbags instead of being held firmly in a soldier's hands,
There's your
periscope
loss.
rifles were very
Hopefully
unstable,
before the
and the
silence.
recoil was much greater. For a sniper, such a device couldn't compare with having the rifle firmly in his shoulder. Furthermore, aiming through the periscope wasn't an easy task, especially if the mirrors became smeared, which was frequently the case in the
I
muddy
couldn't talk because
trenches.
of that stupid silence.
Also, if a mirror was shot out of the periscope by an enemy sniper, any form of replacement mirror had to be found, including shaving mirrors. With a periscope rifle, even a good shooter had the problem of hitting the
Goddamn,
target at
Zelkos.
distances further than 100 yards.
Zelkos will just randomly pop the
That's
fuck
all
off.
The followers was silencing it.
Tank gun suppressor. Located near the town of Meppen in Lower Saxony, Germany, is one of the largest weapon testing sites
You ready
in
for
Europe.
big heels on Emma?
Technische Dienststelle 91, or the WTD 91. Its total area is 19,200 hectares, and it's 19 miles long and 3 to 4 miles wide. Equipped with high-tech measuring devices, the WTD-91 is the leading testing site of the German Bundeswehr, where extensive testing of tanks and self-propelled howitzers are conducted. The test site may be the pride of the German military,
1 second
but at
shot.
times it's been a burden for the citizens
Finally
of
something to
nearby
heal.
Meppen. The
There you go,
120
Zelkos. Way
millimeter
to pop
gun
off,
of
like,
Leopard
homie.
2 tank produced
Alright,
noise
Dark,
of
you go
almost
Disc.
80
Find the rest,
decibels
like-
at a distance
You go
of
Disc,
1
I'll go
mile,
Ellie for
or
Max.
1.6
Because you
kilometers
got that
behind
lovely
the gun
paint
muzzle.
suppression.
For civilians living on the edge of town less than a mile away, it was a huge disturbance. Noise of 80 decibels is equal to the sound produced by heavy traffic or a passing freight train. After prolonged exposure to this noise level, people are more susceptible to permanent hearing loss. Needless to say, the personnel working on the test site suffered even greater stress caused by the gun blasts. At distances of 800 feet or 250 meters, the gun produced a noise of 115 decibels, which is above the average human pain threshold. In order to meet the citizens' demands for a peaceful and quiet life and improve the working conditions of the WTD-91 employees, the German Institute for Noise Protection, in cooperation with renowned arms manufacturer Rheinmetall and MAN, devised an interesting solution: a gun muffler. The muffler was originally designed for the 120mm gun of the Leopard 2 tank. It was intended to be used on shooting ranges with static firing positions. After conducting a thorough study, experts from the Institute found a solution by building a large muffler
Swiftly, did
drum
you roll out
fitted
the
with
wand already?
V-shaped barriers for capturing the propellant gases once the projectile was fired. The muffler drum would trap the gases and release them in 2 smaller blasts, followed by a steady subsonic flow
Got
of
your back,
residue.
Bernie.
This procedure worked in preventing a deafening sonic
Ooh,
boom,
and here comes the
therefore
zooms.
resulting in a significant reduction in noise. With the muffler mounted, the noise produced by a Leopard tank at a distance of 1 mile was reduced from 80 decibels to 60 decibels, the sound level of a normal conversation. Because the construction was too heavy and cumbersome, it was impossible to mount the muffler directly to the tank's gun barrel. The only solution was to mount it on a steel carrier structure and use it from a static firing position.
Dark, you ever forget
After
your
all, the
DPS
muffler
and you
was
just go to
designed
kill
to be
somebody?
used in ranges close to urban areas, not in
No, I'm good
combat.
at you.
With the tank gun muffler confirmed as a
June
successful
said to use it,
solution,
Bernie.
a modified version was made for self-propelled howitzers. The howitzer muffler was made by attaching an extra module to the tank muffler.
I was just
The
going to
upgrade
DPS
was
for
fitted with
fucking years,
side
but-
tanks positioned to capture the gases flowing horizontally from the muzzle brake,
We
such
got
as on the
boots at the escaped
M109G
captive. Looks good for
155mm
Boomy.
self-propelled howitzer
Cannot confirm.
used by the
Don't
German Bundeswehr.
Yeah.
The howitzer muffler was mounted
Never
on
gonna
an
pull that
adapted
back,
steel
Mom. Where you
carrier
guys
structure
go?
at a 30-degree
good.
elevation.
Ray, run it up.
The German
Cookie got
gun
a trap
muffler
down.
was not the first such
So,
design.
I'm
In the late
watching it.
1960s,
I
the
can
United States
retrap. There you
Army
go.
went through a series of tests
Almost
with
Still
what
got
was
it.
called an experimental
No,
silencer.
my trap's right over here. That hit
105mm
something up.
gun of the M60
Oh no,
tank.
they're
The
good.
silencer was a
Yeah,
large
it-
steel
it
tube
killed
mounted
Krebs.
on a wheel carriage. It was
Oh.
40 feet or 12 meters long and 5 feet or
Just pull
1.5
him,
meters in
Just
diameter.
pull him.
Oh, I'm okay.
Instead of baffled
Ooh,
chambers,
look at
it
that trap.
contained
I just
plastic
wanna make it
bags filled
explode.
with water to capture the
You
propellant
got 10
gases.
seconds for it.
Another design appeared in the 1980s, made by the engineers of the Construction Engineering Research
makes me feel
Laboratory
like I'm
of
playing
the
on my
U.S.
hunter.
Army Corps of Engineers.
All range
The
is
patent
on web
designated
duty.
as a
If you get webbed
muzzle
against the
blast
wall, don't
reducing
say it's
device
got me.
was a hollow container
King on the
filled
map.
with liquid
We are
foam
running
that
3
could be
healers,
attached
so
to
for
a
healers
gun
webbed
muzzle.
against the wall, please,
Neither of
for the
these
love of God, say
designs
it's
ever
got me.
materialized or were put into service. The German gun muffler therefore
Something
remains
that
the
happened
only
yesterday
one of its
to be
kind.
aware of. I
Despite
got
its quite
webbed
odd
on, like,
appearance,
the
it
fucking
serves the
top
purpose
of
of
the wall,
reducing
bro.
the
So
blast
if you're
noise
hunting,
of
make
large
sure
guns.
If you can't see him, look up. I was like on the fucking top. It was crazy. Yeah,
The
man.
Bazooka
Like,
Vespa.
if you look up,
The
like,
Vespa
I was
150
on
tap.
top of that little shelf right there, bro. I don't know how.
The Vespa
Whip, there's
150
boost back here,
tap,
bud.
which stands for Truppe Aeroportate, or Air Troops Carrier, was an anti-tank scooter slightly modified from
Yeah,
the body
I
of a
can't whip 'em
standard
out.
Vespa 150cc scooter. The 150 tap was manufactured by the Vespa French licensee
Patient need
ACMA
backspace.
at the request of the French Ministry of Defense in order to create a small portable anti-tank system that was intended for use by French paratroopers. These new military Vespas were intended
nobody
for
res
use in
Prevs?
China and the
Oh, yeah, we
conflicts
did,
in
but you
Algeria
just died again.
by the Truppe Aeroporte,
Wait, no, yeah, you got
also
res
known
for
as
sure.
TAP, hence the name of the model.
Because I stealthed up there and res.
The tap was designed to be dropped in with
Oh, a
French
shade got him, it looks
paratroopers
like.
in
There's
order
a
to
shade
give
Yeah.
them the
on stealth.
firepower of a full-scale howitzer, but with much higher mobility. The Vespa 150
Never
itself
lucky, my
was a
man.
small two-person scooter that began production in 1955.
Bernie, does
the
it
tap was a version of a
make you feel
150
so
that had an
angry to know that I have a Grim Toll
M20
collecting dust on my
recoilless
bags
rifle
right now?
attached to the side of the scooter, weighing in at 253.5 pounds or 115
It's
kilos.
I
The
mean
Vespa
it's
150
the
tap
roll
had a top speed of
for
41 miles per hour or 66
dying
kilometers
curves.
an hour and a fuel
How did
range
this
of
shade get into-
124 miles or 200 kilometers.
Let's
What
pop
did it say?
it.
Hello?
It therefore
Let's
made the
re-
tap a maneuverable and quick weapon
Buffs already
highly suited
rebuffed.
to guerrilla
Ready,
tactics,
check, and let's go.
airborne troops,
Range,
simply
you
when
guys know
tanks
the
and
deal.
artillery support could not be used due to
Never.
poor road
Can't make
conditions
me.
or were too far away and could not be
No,
called up
I
for support.
really can't.
The
but
Vespa 150 tap was modified for
Got
combat
me
use
there.
and included reinforced frames, lowered gear ratios, and had a 146 cubic
But
centimeter
everyone's no longer.
single-cylinder two-stroke engine. It was outfitted with 2 fuel cans and 6 rounds of ammunition for the M20. These shells would sit 3 on each side of
Okay.
the rear seat
I'm
behind
going
the
up.
driver and under
Thanks
the
for
legs
not
of the
cucking me,
passenger.
Zone.
The
Appreciate you.
M20 recoilless rifle was an American
Yo,
design
I'm
that
gonna
came
try
into service in
trapping on that block
1945.
right in front of him.
It was originally designed to be
I
carried
will
by
do my
hand by
best
a
on
group of
this one.
soldiers. The weapon itself was rather light,
one's kind
only
of
weighing
annoying.
in at 114 pounds when attached to its tripod, making it much lighter than any other
Oh, I
artillery
got
piece
it.
in the world at the
You
time
gotta
of
be
the
under his
nice.
mouth.
Because of its low weight and devastating 75mm round,
I try
the
not to move
M20
this
was
too
a
much
perfect
because it
companion,
messes up
lightweight and nimble
melee
Vespa
DPS too much.
scooter. While it was indeed attached to the Vespa,
Target
the M20 was not designed to be fired from the vehicle. Instead, the weapon was designed to be removed from the Vespa, placed on a tripod, and then fired by a team of 2 men.
Cookie
Although
Bad Hunter.
theoretically it was possible
Yep,
that the
that's
weapon
me.
could be fired from the scooter and while it was moving. Due to the large 75mm round that the M20
Oh, I
fired,
found
it
the
could
sweet
penetrate
spot.
the armor of most
It's
tanks and could
right
easily
where his,
destroy earthworks
body
and
connects to his
pillboxes
head.
with a direct hit. It could engage enemies at ranges of 7,000 yards or
That'll be helpful when I love my
6,401
hunter.
meters. The TAP was produced over a period of 3 years, from 1956 to 1959. In that time period, roughly 600 Vespa 150 TAPs were produced in France. The vehicle was produced in both green camouflage and desert camouflage patterns, in accordance with French conflicts in both Asia and Africa throughout the 1950s and into the early 1960s, where the French were facing rebel insurgencies. They were used to combat the enemy's light, fast-moving counter-guerrilla tactics, making it the perfect vehicle in providing highly portable yet hard-hitting artillery. Air crews dropped the Vespas in the hot zones 2 at a time, accompanied by a pair of paratroopers.
So many
One scooter
cooldowns
carried
up
the
on
gun,
that last
while the other
sub-spray.
carried the rounds.
It was like
Little is
30
known
on-
about how popular the TAP was
That's a
with
record
French
by 1.2
paratroopers, or
seconds.
how
Way
well
to
it
go.
performed as a military artillery
Anybody still
platform,
webbed?
but based on the low production numbers and what was only a
They would have
3-year
died.
production run, it is safe to say that the French
Everyone's
military
checking to see what's
quickly
on the
moved
bus.
on from the idea
Next year,
of
you're
scooter
gonna need you to hit
portable
a web
artillery.
when it's right next to you, bud.
Mobile shields. World War I.
Yay.
Weird tech.
Fire squad's
World
Greyhound.
War I was the war of innovations and new types of weapons and
Dark,
equipment.
me and you
A
gotta
lot
go
of
DPS.
effort was
Here we know the
made to
deal.
protect the soldiers both in the trenches and in no man's land. One way to do it was with the help of infantry shields. Sniper shields were a
Can I
kind
do
of
what you did
small
with the
metal shield
cargo
that
the other
served
day?
to protect snipers
No,
from
because
enemy
I'm not
fire.
in healer
These were
spec. We
good
don't
as
have 3
protection
healers
if
right
he
now.
was well concealed, but
Arcelia's
were far too
binding?
heavy to be used when advancing. For that reason, mobile shields were introduced to be carried by soldiers into battle. These shields were
Make sure you guys
initially
focus
quite
the
small,
cargo.
and therefore only provided minimal protection to the soldiers. They only really protected the soldier's torso, leaving his limbs exposed to a risk of injury. There was a tendency to make big, strong, and heavy shields that could protect a soldier's entire body. It also had to be able to be moved around the battlefield.
Stop that roll.
The only solution was to put wheels on them. These were to be known as mobile shields. Their purpose was to provide cover to one or several soldiers that were advancing across the field or no man's land. The idea of shields on wheels was actually born a few decades earlier, during the Cuban War, where US
Ruthlessness?
troops used the first movable shields. The idea was adopted by the British and French armies and brought into service during World War I. Even though
never
all
seen that
designs
one, and it drops
included
twice.
heavy steel plates that were capable of withstanding small
I got it
arms
on my
fire, their
DK, the
use
first
was
one.
questionable in reality.
I haven't, and you were never here when I got it, so
The first mobile
you have
shield
seen it?
was created
The
by
one
the
thing
French.
Nage
It
says
was quite a
all
simple
race
design
put cookie in
that
his place.
consisted of a heavy
I
steel
like
gun
it.
shield mounted on 2 large hollow
Nate
wooden
lives
wheels.
to correct me.
The wheels were filled
Keep
with
doing that
sand
shit.
to
Ketchup
give them
lives
some
to correct
weights
me.
and make them stable
It's really
while
easy.
moving.
He's wrong
The
all
front
the
plate
time.
had a slot
Hell
with a
no, dude. I
movable
have a
shutter.
paladin. I should know.
Looking through the slot, a soldier was able to see the direction in which he was
This is
crawling,
true. He does have a
but was
paladin.
also able to
Alright, guys,
aim and
eat,
fire
drop your
his
stacks.
rifle.
Be nice to our
Really
healers.
got
The
4
French
stacks.
introduced the shield in
Oh, man.
1917, and by the end of the war had
Yeah,
made a
push it up.
considerable number of them.
Boots of the
That's
skating
what I was
They were
thinking,
mostly
too.
used for cutting through barbed wire. Hidden
Dark, you already
behind the
went
shield,
Shadow?
the soldier was protected from enemy fire while
You a
crawling
quick one,
towards
huh?
his
You said to
objective.
go fucking shadow. I did what
I
you
know,
want
bro.
to be.
I just
The
didn't think you did
British
that quick, man.
one-man
I just
tank
followed
was a
my
bit more
orders, man.
complex. This mobile
Yes,
shield
boss.
was made completely out of metal,
Boss,
including the
boss,
wheels.
boss,
The
boss.
hull was made of chrome
I'm
nickel
so
steel
fucking
and covered
tired,
almost
boss.
the entire body of the soldier up to his
You
thighs.
guys stack in the
The
corner.
inside of the hull was fitted with grips
You
for the
do what you
soldier
are
to
told,
hold
Cookie.
so he could handle the
I'm
shield.
asking.
In
not
order to
telling.
move it, the
No, no, no.
soldier had to
You
crawl
just
on his
tank him in the
knees,
middle
which
where
was a
he's
very
standing.
uncomfortable
Yep,
position.
Just
that-
quicker for all the
On the
DPS
bottom
to fall.
side, it had
That way he
two
doesn't run
hinged
behind somebody
skirts that
mid-cast.
provided side protection while moving about on uneven terrain. Unlike the French design, the
1
one-man
second.
tank had 2 horizontal and 2 vertical slits on both sides of the plate that served as viewports. On the left
It's a
side, there
non-meta
was an
socket, I
additional
don't see
slot
any
for
bigger
aiming
on
and
it.
firing a rifle. This had a shutter to close when it was not required.
Alright, guys, ready to check
The
them
front
full time.
plate had an angular shape in order to deflect small arms fire. The French version had a large hook mounted
I
on
wish
the
some of
front
you guys would
plate
use
so
the
that it
blue.
could be towed into position if
They're
necessary.
dropping good stuff.
The British designed
Everyone
another
wants
2
KT
mobile
stuff.
shields during the war. Both were of a much larger and heavier construction than the one-man tank. The first
All
one was a
KT gear is
larger
pretty much
scale
SR
version
though.
of the French design and
If
was
it's an
big
up-
enough to
if it's
provide
an upgrade,
cover for
please
5
fucking roll.
soldiers.
I'll be so
It
pissed if you
had
don't roll an
5
upgrade.
embrasures on the front plate, 3 on the top part and 2 on the bottom part of the plate.
Okay, both
It
sides
was
of
very
the
cumbersome and difficult to move, and it never went beyond the trial stage of its
Once there's no more upgrades for your
Second
Paladin
large
Burgundian, you are
mobile
allowed to
shield
bring your
was
Shaman.
really huge. It was called the Ped Rail. It was a platform for a machine gun with a
The only
large,
upgrade I need
thick
is what
front
you need
plate
to. I
and
figured
2
you'd be like,
hinged
fucking bring
side
it so I get
plates.
the ring.
Both side plates had 4 slots for the rifleman. Front shield was 5 feet 11 inches wide, or 1.8 meters, and 4
Mages
feet
be
11
cursed.
inches, or 1.5 meters tall. With the side plates fully open, the shield had a width of 9 feet 10 inches,
Druids
or
as well.
3 meters. With a machine gun mounted, it weighed
Someone played a risk
3,000
here with,
pounds,
like,
or
half a second.
1,360 kilograms, making it very difficult to move around. It seemed that both these shields were designed for static rolls only, probably as road or street barricades. Mobile shields featured on the Eastern Front as well. A German photo from 1914 shows the Russians had mobile shields of their own. It is unknown whether they produced them on a larger scale or not, but it's obvious that they were aware of the concept. The Russian mobile shield was also huge. It was wide enough to protect 5 soldiers standing and another 5 in a prone position. Therefore, it had 10 slots set in 2 rows on the sloped front plate. On the side, the shield had 2 large diameter wheels and 4 small auxiliary wheels behind the plate. The construction was so bulky that it needed a lot of manpower to be moved around. Basically, the mobile shield was just too bulky and unwieldy to be of any use. They were very big, very heavy, and therefore very
I'm trying
slow
my
out
best
in
to
the
keep
field,
them in all your
and
guys'
unable to
AoEs.
keep up with the
that
advancing
was-
infantry.
that was a record.
Sluggishness,
Way to go,
however,
guys.
seemed to be a minor problem regarding their mobility. The
Oh,
whole
that was my
construction
first
of
one
mobile
page, let's go.
shields was too crude to be able to move around on the moonlight craters of the
remember my
terrain of the
first
World War I battlefields. Heavy metal wheels had no suspension, which made a terrain filled with shell holes impassable, even to the smallest
Our
mobile
fourth
shields.
tunic.
Finally, all mobile shields were designed to protect a soldier from small arms fire being directed in front of him, except for the British one-man tank, which also protected the sides. Since they had no other protection, soldiers behind the shield were completely
Oof,
vulnerable
oof.
to shrapnel coming from shells exploding around and
When
above
you realize
them.
that's a song about
Because
ugly
of the
girls
poor
at the club.
protection that they offered and their lack of maneuverability, mobile shields became perfect targets for the artillery, which was the most destructive weapon on the battlefield. These disadvantages question justifying the use of the shield, and were probably the reasons why
Imagine
they were not
being that
used
lit
on
off
a
beer.
larger scale. In any case, mobile shields
Until you
stand
go
as
to
another
move her
curious
and you have to
weapon
roll over
of
and break your
World
back.
War
What?
I believe he's saying she's big.
I know
And
exactly.
Large. What's the strat here?
The strat is we're standing in the slime.
We're all standing in quadrant 1.
We're all standing wherever I mark myself to stand at. Dark, go disc, please. I'm gonna stay DPS.
tank.
I believe you Zelkos and Birkin
In the
3
years
this.
leading up to World War II, Nazi Germany conducted a vast number of projects with the aim of developing new types of weapons that would bring them military supremacy over other nations. The majority of these designs as true innovations in the field of weapons design
You want me to
were
put it up
ahead
for
of their
myself?
time.
Thanks, got you.
The Germans called them Wunderwaffen, which translates to wonder weapons or miracle weapons.
It's party
Some
wide.
of these were successfully deployed to battlefields, while some progressed no
Oh.
further than the drawing board. Many projects resulted in magnificent machines
You want me to put it
of
with
war,
tanks?
but many others turned out to be complete failures. The idea of
Gotcha.
building the largest tank in the history of warfare belonged to the batch of Hitler's
We are
wonder
standing, if you're a
weapons.
ranger, standing on the continent.
Hitler's army mainly fought on land, and they
Right
wanted
here.
a tank that would make these
Right in
land
quadrant
battles
2.
easier
That way,
to win.
the healers are
The
prepared
main
and ready
feature of
for
this new
the.
tank, its enormous size, surpassed everything made up to
Yeah,
that
damage
point.
coming in.
In comparison, even the heaviest of tanks would have seemed like toys. Like all dictators of his time, Adolf Hitler was
Right,
in
check
love
them,
with
full timer.
weapons that could
Melee,
show
you
off
guys
his
are all fighting up
military
on the
strength.
platform.
When Hitler was at the peak of his power in 1942, he was presented with an idea to build the largest tank ever devised, designed by Edward Grotte, a director of the famous Krupp Company. Hitler was
Everyone is
thrilled.
ready.
The way he saw it,
Do a pull
the
timer.
tank's hair-raising appearance perfectly matched the image of the German army that he wanted to build. At the time, Porsche had started constructing a 188 metric ton heavy tank called the Maus, which was supposed to be the mighty bellwether of the German panzers. The mouse, however, was nothing compared to its bigger cousin, named the Rata, or the Rat. The Rata was part of a land battleships concept that was in research from the 1930s. The pioneering nation in this research was the Soviet Union, with a project known as the TG-5. Their idea was to build a multi-engine driven tank weighing 1,000 metric tons and armed with a 107mm main gun and 4 sub-turrets. One of the engineers working on the project was Edward Grotta. Upon his return to Germany, Grotta brought his own ideas on building a giant tank. He started working as a director of the Krupp Company, and in June 1942 he was given the opportunity to present his ideas to Hitler himself. The Führer showed great enthusiasm for the project and ordered further design studies. Grotta responded with a series of drawings as a base for the future project designated the Land Cruiser P-1000 Rata, or Land Cruiser P-1000 the Rat. Edward Grotta outlined the weight of the Rata tank to be a staggering 1,000 metric tons. It was an enormous weight compared to any other tank at that time. The latest German tank coming out of the factories, the Tiger I, was only 54 tons. The Rata's armament set alone weighed 300 tons. The armor and frame weighed 200 tons. Its track and propulsion engines, 100 tons. And the rest was the weight of its ammunition and other miscellaneous parts. The thickness of the armor varied from 5.9 to 14.2 inches, or 150 to 360 millimeters. The mammoth weight of the tank was followed by its huge dimensions. The Rata was projected to be 115 feet or 35 meters long, 46 feet or 14 meters wide. With its gun facing forward, it became 128 feet or 39 meters in length. The height of the tank was 36 feet or 11 meters, which was proportionate to a 3-story building. The Rata was so huge that it even had its own lavatory system and a vehicle bay to hold 2 BMW R12 motorcycles, while it was projected to have a crew of 41 men. The dimensions and weight of the tank necessitated it to have very wide tracks to provide the proper distribution of pressure on the ground. The Rata was designed to have 6 tracks, each one 3.9 feet or 1.2 meters wide, 3 on each side of the chassis. Setting a 1,000-ton monster into motion would have been a challenging task, as it would have required about 12,000 kilowatts or 16,000 horsepower to move the tank.
Whenever he says he's good, we'll go.
Propulsion was 2-man V12 Z3244 24-cylinder diesel engines of 6,300 kilowatts or 8,400
Thank you
horsepower.
for the repair bot. I was running low on kings or symbol of
German
kings.
U-boats. The alternative was to use 8 Daimler-Benz MB501 20-cylinder diesel engines of 1,500 kilowatts or 2,000 horsepower. These engines were used on German E-boats. Both of these solutions were projected to provide a top speed of 25 miles per hour or 40 kilometers an hour. In reality, it would have been unlikely for the tank to achieve that speed due to the likely suspension and transmission problems.
Alright guys, make sure our warlocks
The
survive.
intended armament of the tank was equally as impressive as its appearance. The Rata was equipped with several types of guns,
Sacrifice my
2 of
Artillery
which were
right
the
there.
main 28cm SK-C-34 naval guns. These guns were developed in the 1930s to be used on Scharnhorst-class battleships.
Alright guys, Group 2 is the first score.
At a distance of 3 miles, the guns were capable of penetrating armor up to 17.7 inches thick.
Yeah, I believe
At a
Zelkos and
maximum
Burgundy
elevation
can
of 40 degrees, their range was an incredible
this.
25.6 miles. As an extra gun, the Rata
Zelkos
was
be
armed
doing
with a
his thing, bro.
KWK-44 L55
Yeah, my
anti-tank
bad.
gun.
My bad. I wasn't
There are
my
no
thing.
records indicating whether this gun was planned to be positioned at the front with the main gun.
Okay, you are in the third group. You're going to call off your group's third spore.
Other armaments
Which is really
included an
group 4.
unknown number of 20mm
And
anti-aircraft
then
guns and
all the
15mm
leftover
autocannons
DPS
normally
is going
used
to
on German
be
aircraft.
the condom,
The frightening
and I will call
size
out
of
for
the
the
Rata
leftover
was the
DPS.
feature on which the entire project was
Is there any
based.
questions? Leftover
Paradoxically,
DPS
this was the
includes myself,
project's main drawback.
Kanashi,
First of
Nage,
all, there was no tank
Darkness,
factory
Arise,
in
and
Germany
Bfells.
large enough to be capable of assembling such a huge vehicle armed with naval
I'm calling
guns.
up Group 1.
For that reason, a shipbuilding yard would have been required. Just building a prototype tank would have taken several months, using much of the yard's resources and space. This was a luxury the Germans could not afford at the time.
Yeah, Group 1
Even
is
if the
actually
tank
Group
was
2.
built,
Group 2
putting
is
it
actually
into
Group 2.
action would have been a logistical
First group.
nightmare. Because of its massive weight of 1,000 tons, the Rata could not have been transferred to battlefields by
Poor
railway.
Nage.
Using its own propulsion at a
time.
speed lower than 25
Sorry,
miles
Nage.
per hour, the Rata would have taken an eternity to arrive at the front. If it broke down along the way, it would have been impossible to tow.
Like the
as it would
last
have
raid I
taken
saw, I'm
another
like,
tank
there's
of
no
the
way.
same
But
size
this
to
raid is like
accomplish the task.
understandable.
Also, because of its weight, the Rata could not have used roads or bridges without destroying them. The only favorable characteristic was the tank's high ground clearance of
We are
6
the pumpers.
feet.
Everybody is
It would have
stacking on
allowed
the
it to
backside of the
simply
boss
cross
so our
through a
level 2
river.
healers can heal you.
In the end, the Rata might have been
Is there any
considered a
questions?
mighty tank, but it also would have been a remarkably easy target. The Rata's thick armor might have been a challenge for the
Full
Allied
timer.
tanks, but not for the Allied bombers.
I am
Despite
not
the
lusting
heavy
until
armor, it
Wanna
could not
Cookies
have
Group
withstood
gets a
bombardments
score.
from the air.
So,
Being a gigantic and slow
any
vehicle
questions?
would have made it a perfect target for aerial attacks. The Rata was a huge, powerful, but ultimately impractical weapon. When the idea of building the tank appeared in 1942, the German industry was already overexerted by the war effort. Spending valuable time and resources on building the largest tank in the world would have impeded that same effort for no significant results. That's why the Minister of Armaments, Albert Speer, canceled the project in early 1943 before it even entered the production phase.
That might hit me.
The Rata
That's
remained
just
just
from
another
BMX's
of
group.
Hitler's great fantasies. As German General Heinz Guderian wrote in his autobiography, Hitler's fantasy led him into the realm of the gigantic. The Schwerer
Group
Gustav,
3.
rail supergun.
Cookies Group done
World War
lost.
II.
Who the fuck
The
did
Schwerer
that?
Gustav
That was
the largest
Starfall,
artillery
so
gun
the other
ever
movie.
made. Before the Second World War had started, Hitler required
Let
a
them go next.
devastating
Not have
weapon
it
for the
yet.
invasion of
Group
France
3, get
that
the
could
next one.
destroy the Maginot Line, penetrating its
Same
several
position.
layers of concrete and steel.
You guys are getting an early
The
loss though.
Schwerer Gustav was
Yeah, that's
designed
fine.
in 1934 by the German arms manufacturer Krupp. This giant railway gun weighed 1,350 tons and had an overall length of 47.3 meters, or 155
There's another
feet
one right
2
in the same
inches.
position.
It was
Leftover
mounted on a
spores.
railway chassis, running on specially constructed tracks,
Pop it.
and had to be disassembled and
There we
assembled
go.
to set up.
And I didn't
Even
get
a
it
set
'cause
of
somebody
outer
came
tracks
for
were
another spore.
required for the cranes
job.
to achieve this. Its barrel length was 32.5 meters, or 106 feet 8 inches, and could only move up or down at an elevation of 48 degrees, with horizontal targeting achieved via curved tracks. The weapon caliber was 80 centimeters, or 31 inches, and the heavy concrete piercing or high explosive shells weighed 7 tons,
Group 1 spores
making them
coming
the
up.
largest and heaviest shells of any artillery piece in the world. The gun could fire over a range of 47 kilometers, or 29 miles. After a number of shells were fired, the barrel would wear
Group
away
2.
and need replacing. The artillery gun required a staggering number of crew. 250 crewmen were required to assemble the gun, which took 3.5 days, while 2,500 crewmen were needed to lay the tracks. Flak battalions were also a
Group 3 behind
necessity
the
to
bus.
protect the gun from air attacks, as it was highly visible due to its size. The Schwerer Gustav would be constructed throughout the 30s, but it would not enter service until 1941, therefore missing the French invasion. The gun would be transported to the Eastern Front and used at the siege of Sevastopol, where 4,000 men were required to set it up in position. It fired 300 shells at several enemy positions, including Soviet fortresses and ammunition magazines. After this, the Schwerer Gustav was transported to Leningrad, but the attack was canceled. It is unknown whether there was a second gun constructed, or whether it was a nickname by the German artillery
new
crew.
record.
But in
Way
1942,
to go, guys.
Dora, as it became known, was operational at Stalingrad,
Somehow my
but
shadow-
withdrawn by the
this is
Germans.
twice now, my shadow gear somehow
During
didn't switch. I don't know
1942,
what
the
fuck it
Germans
did.
proposed to construct a new version of the gun, mounted on a self-propelled platform that could move without railway tracks, called the Land Cruiser P-1500 Monster. However, the idea was eventually scrapped. As the war was coming to an end, the Schwerer Gustav, some sources say, was destroyed by the Germans to prevent capture on the 14th of April 1945, and its ruins studied by
Bernie,
Soviet
if you're
specialists.
+1 and nobody else rolls,
Overall,
you
the
still
Schwerer
win.
Gustav was quite an impractical weapon, demanding a large number of crew and setup to become operational.
You know damn well I can't read.
Yamato,
Alright, Dark, go
super
back to your
battleship.
magical bubbles, please.
Largest
Already done.
battleship in history, World War II. Design.
Malort.
The Yamato class of battleships were the pride of the Imperial Japanese Navy during the Second World War. This class were the heaviest battleships ever built. The Yamato class battleships were not only the
Rogue's
biggest of their
mutation.
kind, but were also the most powerful, with the
Ketchup, are
largest
you live
amount of
logging?
artillery mounted on a ship.
No, I don't like
The
logging
intention
anymore
behind the
because I get
design
errors
was
when
to
I
counter the
gonna
numerical
upload
supremacy
it
of the
after?
American Pacific Fleet. Since they didn't have the economic or industrial
Yeah, I stopped
capacities
doing
to
that
build
after
a
I got,
large
like, a
quantity of
couple errors
ships,
and
the
a
Japanese
couple
decided to build
bosses, like,
larger
back-to-back
battleships
weeks.
that could
So I
respond to
just,
numerous enemy
loaded
ships at
active
once.
Gotcha.
The
For
Imperial
those that's never
Japanese
been here
Navy
before, during the
acquired
air
a
phase,
super
we
heavy
go right where I'm
battleship
pinging.
that would be armed with 18.1-inch guns, an armor that could withstand the impact of 18-inch shells. Furthermore, the ship had to have a top speed of 27 knots and a cruising range of 8,000 miles at a speed of 18 knots. After these requirements were received, the designers commenced development in 1935. After the initial plans were made, it was decided that the ship needed a displacement of 69,000 tons. The dimensions of the battleship were more than impressive. The overall length of the ship was 839 feet, with a beam width of 127.7 feet. The protection of the Yamato was equally impressive. The total weight of the armor was 22,534 tons, which was 1/3 of the entire displacement. The thickness of the armor varied from 8 inches to 16 inches depending on the section. The deck armor was between 7.9 and 9.1 inches, while the gun turrets were protected with armor ranging from 9.5 to 26 inches. This armor was supposed to protect the Yamato from all Allied naval weapons. The Yamato class of battleships were powered by 4 steam engines, with 12 boilers and a total power of 150,000 shaft horsepower. Even at maximum speed, the Yamato had great maneuverability.
You're scratching his
Ships
balls.
in the Yamato class. The Imperial Japanese Navy ordered 2 battleships of the Yamato class in 1936. The first one,
Pumpkins don't
Yamato,
look right
was
laying
built in the
down like
Kure
that.
shipyards, and the
Looks so
second,
weird.
Musashi, in the
Looks like
Mitsubishi
roadkill.
shipyard in Nagasaki. Both shipyards had to be modified to handle the building of these enormous ships. The production of the ships were kept a secret, so large fences and canvas were placed around the docks to secure it from spies. As well as this, if a worker mentioned the project, they may have faced death. The Navy ordered 2 more battleships in 1939. The building of the first one, named Shinano, commenced production, but after the Battle of Midway, it was decided that it would be converted into an aircraft
the last
carrier.
piece of loot, Swifty?
The last one, unofficially named Number 111, was never finished. Armament.
Oh, we get 2 Mantle of the
The
Lost
armament of the
Languishers.
Yamato battleships was in accordance with the scale of the ship.
You
and
should
its
saw the
purpose.
boots, right?
The primary armament consisted of 3 triple turrets with Type 94
The boots that
46
Bernie was
centimeter
wearing, you should
guns.
stop them.
These 69.4-foot-long guns could fire a 3,219-pound projectile at a distance of 26.1 miles with a rate of fire of 1.5 projectiles per minute. These were the largest and most powerful guns ever put on a ship. The entire weight of one turret was 2,774 tons, which equaled the weight of a fleet destroyer. The secondary armament consisted of 4 triple turrets with 155mm guns. The anti-aircraft armament consisted of 6 twin-mounted Type 89 127mm guns, mounted on the side of the ship above the 155mm guns. Additionally, the Yamato had 8 triple-mounted Type 96 25mm guns and 4 Type 93 13mm guns on the bridge tower. The Yamato even had a hangar below deck for storing 3 to 4 aircraft that were launched with 2 catapults.
So it looks
As
like
the
they're
war
just going to be
progressed,
given to you, Bernie.
Yamato armament was modified with some guns removed and some added.
Most everybody else don't need them,
July
so
1943,
still roll them off.
when radars were
It
fitted
didn't
to
do it,
upgrade
sorry,
the
because
ship's
they were
anti-aircraft
BOE.
defense. At the same time, an additional 4 triple 25mm guns were added to the weather deck. The second modification came in February 1944, when 2 155mm side guns were removed, as they were of no use for anti-aircraft defense. These were replaced with an additional 6 twin-mounted Type 89 127mm guns. The anti-aircraft defense was reinforced with 55 25mm guns, some of which were triple-mounted and some single-mounted. The final modification in November 1944, after the Battle of Leyte Gulf, saw almost all single-mounted 25mm guns replaced with triple-mounted guns, and 27
Those are
new
BOEs,
25mm
must be
guns.
auto-equipped if one.
After this, the Yamato had 152 25mm guns in its armament. Fate.
Just auto-equip those
Even though
first,
Japan
so I don't have
invested
to
much of
find
their
you, find out
capacities
where
in
you live and
building the
stuff.
Yamato-class
Yeah.
battleships,
For,
their use during the war was underwhelming. The Japanese built the battleships to confront other ships on the sea, failing to foresee the development of aircraft as the most powerful weapon in the war. It could be said that Yamato was already obsolete by the time it was built. Battle of Midway. Both battleships of the class saw little action during the war. The Yamato was
Good job,
commissioned on
bruh.
December 15, 1941, and it was assumed as the flagship of the Japanese combined fleet. During the Battle of Midway,
wasted
Admiral
my roll on
Isoroku
a troll.
Yamamoto commanded its fleet from the Yamato's bridge. As the battle ended up disastrously for the Imperial Japanese Navy, the
The best
Yamato
you'll
was
ever see.
withdrawn to Japan, where it served as a
Alright, guys.
headquarters ship, missing the Battle of Guadalcanal. Due to the frequent and long periods of inactivity, it was nicknamed the Hotel Yamato. The Musashi took over the duty of flagship of the combined fleet on January 22, 1943, but it also
Alright, guys,
saw
remember
little
air phase
action.
over here, not
Both
lost until he
ships were
lands.
used at the time as
She's
transport
tanking him
ships,
as he
they could
faces,
carry
so
a
if you
large
guys
amount
want to
of
cheat
troops.
to the left now, you can.
During these operations, both ships were being hit by U.S. submarines, forcing them to spend long periods of time
Yeah, let me
in
get
truck
a
shipyards for repairs. The Battle of Leyte Gulf. The first big action
Mages,
for
you
both
guys need to
ships
be
came during
decursing,
the Battle of
all of
Leyte
you.
Gulf, the largest naval battle
I
of
see
the war.
one of you guys not decurse
On
one
October
time. I'll
24,
find you.
1944, U.S. forces launched
Okay,
a
we're
massive
going up.
air attack on the Japanese fleet. They concentrated their fire on Musashi, which couldn't withstand the amount of bombs and torpedoes launched at it. By the end of the day, it was sunk. On the following day, the Yamato used its 46-centimeter guns for the first
Alright,
and
Frost,
only
resist.
time during the
We'll still
war,
need
hitting
this.
an American carrier at a distance of 20 miles. During the battle, the Yamato suffered several bomb hits, but was not put in great danger. However, because of the danger of torpedo strikes, it was forced to leave the battle. Suicide mission, Operation Tengo. The final engagement of the Yamato was connected to the Allied invasion of Okinawa, which prompted the Japanese Navy to commence Operation Tengo, sending the entire fleet to confront the U.S. Navy that was supporting the invasion. On April 6, 1945, Yamato, with full magazines, sortied with one light cruiser and 8 destroyers on a suicide mission. American codebreakers found out about the Japanese plans, so the U.S. Navy was prepared for the action that would follow. On April 7th, a convoy of 10 ships, led by the Yamato, was attacked by 400 American airplanes. The Yamato withstood the bombs hitting its deck, but 11 torpedoes that hit the port side were more than it could take. After it rolled over to port, its aft magazines exploded, taking the Yamato to the bottom of the sea.
Terrible spot.
3,063 sailors were killed,
That's
and only
awesome.
269 were saved. The sinking of the battleship Yamato marked the end of the Japanese
I
Imperial
saw
Navy.
Kanashi die because he auto-attacked. Rip.
B-Res Kanashi for the Sunders.
First World War II.
Kanashi, you gotta, when
Zeppelins.
before you go in on those ice blocks, you gotta
When a
press
German
escape.
aristocrat,
So you're not
Brigadier
targeting
General
bots?
Ferdinand Zeppelin, retired from the army in 1891, he devoted himself to the study of aeronautics. His proposals to the government for a lighter-than-air flying machine were rejected in 1894, but nevertheless, he would invest all his money into a company producing airships. By 1898, Zeppelin had constructed his first airship. The foundation of the airship were in its hydrogen-filled gas bags, carried inside
Manifest down
a
for the
steel
healers.
skeleton.
Prevs, if you
It
can.
weighed 12
Do a
tons
lovely
and
him, please.
contained
Thank you, sir.
400,000 cubic feet of hydrogen and was driven by propellers connected to a pair of 15-horsepower Daimler engines. When the Zeppelin LZ made its flight on July 2nd, 1900, the German government decided to fund the project. In March 1909, the German army purchased the Zeppelin Z1. These Zeppelins could reach a maximum speed of 136 kilometers per hour and reach a height of 4,250 meters. They were armed with 5 machine guns and could carry 2,000 kilograms or 4,400 pounds of bombs. At the start of the war, Zeppelins were used in bombing raids. A Zeppelin was used to bomb Liège in Belgium on 6 August 1914, but had to make an emergency landing after encountering Belgian artillery fire. Over the next few weeks, 3 more Zeppelins were destroyed by ground forces. While the
thought
Zeppelins
you
were an easy
wouldn't
target
go
to
into
hit,
air
the
if it
Germans
takes
continued
a
to
certain
use them
percent.
for
Like
attacks
fucking
on
hell,
France.
bro.
In
Good
January
shit, bro.
It's Alfie
1915,
nasty. When you get
2
the shine, bro,
Zeppelin
you
naval
fucking shine.
airships flew over the English coast, bombing
I'm
Great
also-
Yarmouth and King's Lynn. Zeppelins would commence a bombing raid on
That's
London
wild.
on May 31st,
What are you guys dying to? Are you
1915,
guys standing
killing
in front of
28
us?
people and injuring 60 more. Zeppelins
what we
were
doing for this
used
key?
at the Battle of
It is
Verdun
roll up to
in
the guild. Pluses do
1916,
not count against
before
it.
being brought down by ground fire, bringing an end to their use on the
Here in the
Western
guild, be
Front.
mindful of the
They
level of
continued
upgrade
to
it
be
is for you.
used to attack the
But, I mean,
British home front, but
it's for
British
the guild.
fighter pilots and anti-aircraft gunners became efficient at taking them down. 115
think like
Zeppelins
4,
were used
5.
by the German military, with 77 destroyed or damaged beyond repair. After the war, Zeppelins were used for civilian transport.
Oh,
damn!
Super
Stabs
heavy tank.
wanted that, John.
The
I
Panzerkampfleiter
literally-
8 Maus was a super
I was
heavy
gonna be like,
tank
Bernie, I
designed
like
by
your
the
odds
German
now.
forces during the Second
Let's
World
go,
War.
I'm gonna roll
This
just for
was
the hell of it.
heaviest tank
The
ever
second
built in
best
human history.
99 you've ever seen.
I just wanted
By
to
the
see
end of
one.
1944,
Stabbies.
only 2 prototypes
Stabs
were
is loyal.
completed,
He's
so the
always
Maus
here.
never
Let's get
actually
it.
saw
Good shit.
action in
Congrats,
battle.
bro. Ooh!
The development of this
Oh.
super tank was
Whoa.
primarily
I don't-
connected
I
with
don't
Hitler's
need it, I don't
obsession
need
to
it. Okay.
surpass the
That's a
Allies
big,
in
big
developing
roll,
heavy tanks,
bro.
especially the
You just
Soviets.
made Stab's whole
The
heart
task
drop.
of designing
I think he
a tank
might
bigger
almost-
and
That was
more
your turning
powerful than
tide
any
roll,
other
Rip?
was given to the leading German tank constructor,
Played him
Ferdinand
with a
Porsche.
great worm.
In
No
June
meta
1942, Porsche
Alright, guys,
presented
DKs
Hitler with
to
the
the left
idea
side,
of the VK-100
Rogues, Kanashi,
.01 Type 205
Bear
tank,
touch me to the
which
right side of
Führer
KT.
approved.
Can we put
This
marks
tank
on
was to be
on group
150
leaders?
tons and was
Do you want me
intended to
tank,
use
right?
either a 150
Are
millimeter
you, you're
or a
tanking on the side, yes, at
128
40%. Same
with
with
an
Bear
additional
touch me.
75
So
millimeter gun
DKs,
and an
DKs go to square.
MG34 machine gun.
Sorry. DKs go to square.
The production of the tank, hull,
Rogues,
turret,
Kanashi,
and armament was
and Bear
assigned
touch
to
me
Krupp,
while you're mango
while the
waving, go
assembly was to
to
be
triangle.
constructed in the Alcat
Is there any
factory.
questions?
Slash
At the
range
time,
10
the project was
and get the
officially
middle
named the
to
Mammoth,
your
but it was
healer.
eventually changed
Where do you
to
want me to
Maus
be?
or Mouse.
Triangle?
On May
what are you?
1st, 1943,
Oh,
Hitler was
alright, go
presented
with
with a
DKs.
wooden mock-up of the future tank.
DKs?
Lana,
As
which
he was
side are you
pleased with
taking?
what he
Okay.
saw,
Not
he
used to
wanted
having
run
a rep
150
paladin
Maus
mage.
tanks for
You're
production.
healing, right,
I'm fine
Troy?
with either
Although he
side.
ordered
Yes,
the
I'm
version
healing.
with the
One,
128 millimeter gun and
Keep
coaxial
getting somebody
75
go
millimeter
over my
gun,
gift with
he
somebody
wanted
else's
future
gift.
models to be armed with the more
Pets,
powerful 150
on
millimeter
passive,
gun.
mages,
outcome
you
of the
guys know
final
the deal about the
blueprints were
CC.
10.1
Same with
meters
druids.
or 33.13 feet long.
You're ready to inch in. And then we're
3.67
going to
meters
OS
or
3
12
Drakes
feet
after
wide,
this, followed by
and
Malagos.
3.63 meters or 11.9 feet high, and it weighed almost
That's
190
the side
tons.
you're taking ketchup?
The crew
I'll just
was to
take right.
consist of 6
Okay,
men,
it's
a
KT.
commander,
Yep,
gunner,
go left.
2
That way we
loaders,
don't
a driver,
accidentally
and a
start
radio
off on top.
operator.
Yeah, I got you.
The Mouse's armor was very impressive. The turret had a thickness of 220 millimeters
Everyone's
or
ready to the middle.
8.7 inches at the front, and 200 millimeters or 7.9
Bear
inches
touch me,
thick
tank
on
left
its
side. When
sides
left side
and
comes
rear.
out, Swifty take right side.
The hull thickness was 200 millimeters or 7.9 inches at the front, and 180
middle
or
is the healers.
7.1
Does
inches on the
anyone
side.
need 18 A-bombs? Because if they do, this is the time while.
The armament of the tank was equally impressive. The main armament was the 128 millimeter KWK-44 gun. With such a gun, the Mouse would be capable of eliminating almost any Allied tank within the range of 3,500 meters.
Range on Skellies
The
and Soul
secondary
Weavers.
coaxial
Please and
armament
thank you.
was the
Melee on the
75
abominations.
KWK-44
If you are not a Death Knight
gun.
tank, do not
In
death
addition,
strip the
the turret
baddies.
was equipped with a 7.92 millimeter MG34 machine gun for close combat. Such a heavy
Grenade
tank
bomb coming
demanded
in
a
the right.
powerful engine to move it. Porsche's intention was to use the petrol-electric drive they had used before on their version of the Tiger tank. The petrol engine would operate the electric
Oh,
generator
no, I
that
meant
drove
to
the
take my
24
shirt off
wheels
for the
that each
fight.
track had.
Damn
The
it.
projected speed
Oh.
of the tank with such an engine was 20 kilometers per
tried it
hour
out?
or 12 miles per hour. The engine
Add
system
the
was
macro
so
with
huge that
conditional.
it took
Oh,
2/3
there's
of the
downtime.
entire hull and caused the turret to be put at the rear
Oh,
end.
that's a good idea.
With this design, the driver
That's
and radio
thinking outside the
operator
box.
seated in the hull
Mage,
were
big brain.
completely cut off from the turret
Age
crew.
is a big brain.
Mouse's tracks were proportional to the overall size of the tank in order to give
Oh,
it good
okay.
mobility.
Dave?
They were 1.1
nice.
meters wide or 3.6
The
feet. and they were
snowballs are
supported by
great.
a suspension system on each
You
of the
like
wheels.
them?
As the size of
Those
the
are
tank
great.
was its
Emma
prime
loves those
feature, it was
snowballs,
also its greatest drawback. With a staggering total weight of 188 tons, its mobility was under great question, and that was the main reason why German commanders were not fond of the concept. With a low speed
That's easier
and a
to
high
remember when
silhouette,
the shirt's on
the
the
Mouse
middle
tank was a big target, especially for the Air Force. The drawbacks of the entire Mouse concept seem to have been obvious to the HWA, the German weapons agency, who protested against the Mouse, stating that it didn't need such a tank, and they just couldn't formulate a tactical plan for it. With such limited mobility, the Mouse couldn't serve as a tank hunter, but it
Man,
could work as a
47 of
mobile
this
fortress.
bullshit.
Ultimately, the Army canceled the order for 150 Mouse tanks in October 1943. In the
Remember
next
to
month,
CC the
Hitler
line
ordered the
control.
development of
These
the Mouse
guys
to be
don't
ceased,
kill.
and he believed resources could be
homies.
better used for other
Killing
projects.
the homies is bad.
Authorities, however, allowed Porsche to continue building their
Here,
prototypes. The first
like that one,
prototype, the V1, was produced in December 1943.
Watch the cleave
Although
during
it
the
had no
MC
turret,
phase.
it was equipped with a dummy turret to simulate the weight for tests. The V1 1961
This
had a
motherfucking Bernie's
1,080
like, I want to
horsepower
bomb them all.
Daimler-Benz MB509 V12 gasoline engine, which produced a speed of only 13
That's fair. Yeah,
kilometers per
definitely.
hour,
You
or
guys are
8
also
miles
allowed
per
to
hour.
SMDK. Yay.
Tests showed that the weight of the tank proved to be a great obstacle. Constructors also realized
It's
that the
impossible
weight
to
of
see.
188
It's too
tons
tough.
meant that there was no bridge in Europe that the mouse could cross without destroying it. To overcome this problem, the V1 was equipped with a huge snorkel that allowed it to be submerged to the depth of 8 meters in order to cross rivers. The second prototype, the V2, came in mid-1944 and was substantially different from the V1. This version had a real turret installed.
Emma,
The
so I
engine
would
was
imagine
replaced
that you
with a
only
1200
actually need it
horsepower
on one
Daimler-Benz
button, not all of your buttons.
MB517 diesel
Because
engine.
when explosive shots
The V2 had an advanced
cooldown,
electric
you can
steering
still
system
press
and a new
explosive
Skoda
shot
gear
and it'll
system.
still throw
All
it,
these
so-
elements, however, showed only slight
Yeah,
improvements.
technically, but yeah,
Prototype
pressing 2 moves
tests
at
were being
once too much for
performed
my
at
brain.
Kummersdorf, near the Böblingen Porsche proving grounds. Tests were marked by frequent engine failures and production
was
delays
pretty
caused
cool.
by Allied bombings.
KT engages in 12
Finally,
seconds.
in
Clean up
August
the ads.
1944, Krupp was
Melee, you
ordered
know,
to cancel the
you know who your
production
captains
of
are.
mouse
Comms
hulls
clear.
and to scrap the ones already produced.
Yay.
This was the
DK going
official
right.
end of the Mouse tank project.
DK group right.
When the
Rogue
Red
group
Army
left.
units approached the Kummersdorf testing
sure to
grounds in
interrupt,
April
please.
1945,
Melee.
the Germans managed to destroy the V2 prototype. The Soviets then took the V1 hull and mounted the
Gunny, you're a
V2
little
turret
close on
on
me.
top of it in order to conduct
Yeah,
tests
yeah,
of
yeah.
their own.
I don't know why he
Today,
moves like
this
that, but he
tank
might be
stands
moving
exhibited
back at
at
some
the
point,
Zbinka Tank Museum.
even if I stand still. Yeah,
World
there it
War
is.
II tech, the Tiger I Panzer VI heavy tank. The legendary German Tiger I has a reputation as a machine feared by the Allies, combining lethal firepower and excellent armor. The need to replace the Panzer IV goes back to 1938, when several prototypes were built. In 1941, an order was placed with Henschel for the VK36.01 with a specification of good armor protection,
DKs,
powerful
DKs.
gun, and a maximum speed of 40 kilometers per hour, or 25 miles an hour. The tank had to be larger, and an order was placed in May 1941 for a 45-ton tank called the VK4501. It was armed with an 8.8-centimeter gun. The deadline for the prototype would be on Hitler's next birthday, April 20th, 1942, forcing several elements of the design to be rushed. Once completed, it would be named the VK4501H, the
Takes one
H
to know
standing
one.
for Henschel. In competition, Porsche had created its own design, the VK4501P, to the same requirements. With both designs meeting the deadline of Hitler's birthday, the Henschel design was selected for production. Designated as the Panzerkampfwagen Tiger Aus E, but eventually, the final design would use a mixture of the parts from previous prototypes by Henschel
Man,
and
I tied
Porsche.
down my homies.
The Krupp turret
Got
and
a
gun would stay the same.
incoming as well.
Awesome.
The crew of the Tiger tank numbered 5,
Lusting in
including
2,
the commander,
1,
gunner,
Fume. Tanks
loader,
get ready to
who
pick up
sat
ads
in
with
the turret,
4%.
and the driver and radio operator in the hull. The armor was very thick, from 25 to 120 millimeters, offering excellent protection. For traveling on cross-country or preparing for combat, wider tracks were fitted, improving traction.
Ads are
The
in.
1943
Ads are in, thanks.
55-ton tank was powered by a V12 Maybach HL230 P45
Drag 'em away,
gasoline
Prevs, if
engine,
you can.
providing 690 horsepower or
I think they're on
515
me right now.
kilowatts. This was quite underpowered, and the tank had a top speed of 38 kilometers per hour or 24 miles per hour. One over-engineering
guys.
problem with the tank was the overlapping wheel suspension, which became clogged with mud, and on the Eastern Front, this was especially dangerous as the mud froze, completely immobilizing the tank. The armament of the Tiger I was its deadly 88mm KWK-36 gun, capable of penetrating American M4 Sherman armor, and 2 MG-34 or MG-42 machine guns, one coaxial in the mantlet, and the other in a ball
That's what
turret
I was
within the
wondering. I
hull.
just didn't want to jinx it.
Smoke discharge
Fucking
canisters
go.
were
Big
also
deal,
positioned
Scott.
on
Good
both
fucking
sides of the
shit.
turret.
Torch, Swallowtail,
The Tiger I first appeared in Tunisia,
That's
North
a
Africa,
good
in late
thing.
1942.
Daddy,
Their
please.
appearance was shocking to
Finally.
British forces.
That is,
Forge.
that is
Used
some
on all
Please.
fronts, including Italy,
Finally,
Norway,
the
and Eastern
streak
Front.
has
It was only
ended.
until
I'm
mid-1944
I'm
that the
praying to
Allies
God.
could produce tanks
Who
that could
gets the
effectively
torch,
engage the Tiger
boy?
tank,
Yo,
such
That's
as
big
the British
time.
Sherman
Hey,
Fire
stop
Line
talking about
and
it.
the
Stop
Russian
talking about it, bro.
T-34/85.
I can't get myself hyped right now.
Only
Don't worry, I have it
1,350
already.
Tiger
Who has
Is
two?
were built,
Who has two
with production
SRs
between
on it?
August 1942
Nobody.
and
Do my
August
fucking
That's something Emma
1944.
had.
Other
Nobody?
rare variants include
Yo.
the Bfells Panzer
Yo.
Tiger, which was a command tank,
Roll,
and the
Zelkos,
Stern
Prez,
Tiger,
and
which
Fat
featured a
Cow.
large self-propelled mortar.
Wait, it's just two of us?
3.
The
Hey,
Char 2C,
hey, yo.
super heavy tank.
Let's go.
Hey, yo.
That's Fat Cow.
The Char 2C
Hey,
was
yo.
designed during the latter half of the First World
Daddy,
War in an effort to
please.
break the stalemate of trench warfare.
No, that was her
French
card.
General Moret,
I don't know why you opened up trade meat pack out, Swifty.
granted the
Probably from-
FCM
Hey,
shipyard
because I'm
the
excited.
My card's right
contract to
there.
develop
in
the
your
heavy
bag.
tank, or char de
It's
saut
in my
de
bags?
Model,
Yeah.
Was it
the
Mally
freight
or
model
OS
assault
version?
tank.
OS.
Although the FCM received payment for the
Alright, I
development
knew
of the
this
heavy
was
tank, they
We're
failed to
going
start basic
OS
development.
next?
Yeah.
We're going
Actual
OS.
development did not
Bandits
begin until
insignia.
September
Swifty-
1916,
Pick up the quest
when
while you're
public
there.
interest in French
Swifty,
tank
you'll be going
design
ret.
rose
Kanashi,
after
you'll be
British
going on your
Mark
paladin.
I's were revealed at the Battle of the Somme.
We're gonna one shot
When
this. Nobody's
General
gonna die
Moret
per
discovered
usual.
the FCM had neglected the
Um,
project, he took personal control.
If a hunter
over
does
development.
not have the gun
General
is
Moret
going to
would
the
come into
hunter
conflict
because
with
it's
Brigadier
not a
Estienne,
stat stick
who
for
was
him. It's his
developing the
weapon.
FT-17 light tank with Renault.
I haven't seen
and
that
thought
many
that his
off
heavy tank
roll in
would
the
use up
same piece in order.
resources that could be used on his project. Estienne would go
Gloves
to
of
General
grandeur.
Joffre himself to get the heavy tank project cancelled. After the first action of a new light tank, the Schneider CA was
I think
a
those are
disaster.
probably best,
Albert
besides
Thomas,
the ones
Minister
from
of
Mali.
Armament, cancelled
I know
all
what this
tank
means.
projects.
Every other
This
server,
caused
or every other
Estienne and
tank on
Moret
the
to
server
work
got wall
together,
pair. That's why
eventually
I
getting
finally got
Thomas
it.
to retract his decision.
Grass.
On November
Congrats,
17th,
Brevs.
the first prototype
Thank
of
you.
the FCM-1A was ready. General Pétain would order 300 FCM-1As. However, in 1919, with the war over, the order was cancelled and later replaced with an order for 10
think I'm being
Char
disconnected.
FCM-2Cs.
You guys hear me?
30, 40, and 62-ton weight class
Yes, we
variants
can.
were intended for the Char 2C. However, the end of the armistice prevented the production of these models.
Kanashi, can you hear me?
In post-war France, the 62-ton weight version
Go
was
gadget
produced
paladin.
in 1921, with
I'm
10
waiting for Luke.
examples in service.
Copy that.
The Char 2C was 10.3 meters long, 3 meters wide, and 4.1 meters tall, or 33.7 feet long, 9.8 feet wide, and 13.4 feet tall.
Dude, it's
The
making
armor
me sweat.
was 45 millimeters, or 1.8 inches thick at the front, 22 millimeters, or 0.86 inches thick on the sides, and 6 millimeters, or 0.24 inches thick on the rear. Some of the thickest for a World War I era tank, but thin by World War II standards.
Damn, am I really about to
It was
get my
powered
fucking
with
fist
2
elemental
Maybach
helm?
diesel engines,
Let's
the same
go.
type that had
That's
been
what
used
they
in
go.
German
Dropped, didn't they?
Zeppelins during World War I, which gave it a maximum
again.
speed of 15 kilometers or 9.3 miles per hour. The tanks were
Ah, she
also
gets
equipped
closer.
with French crossing tails,
Oh, okay.
due to the misconception that the war was going to, once again,
I need
break
it for
down
tanking,
into trench
but I don't
warfare.
give a fuck.
The armament for the Char 2C was a quick-fire,
he's
high-velocity,
not online?
75-millimeter gun located in a 3-man turret at the front.
I mean,
Four
there's only 3
8mm
people left in the
Hotchkiss machine
instance.
guns,
Oh,
one in the front,
okay, well, I'll just
one
put
on
it
each
in my
side,
bag.
and one at the back in the rear turret.
Sorry, is it OS?
The
or
super
Maldives?
tank housed a crew
And
of
then we got
12,
Envoy.
the commander, driver,
Give me that shit.
gunner, loader, radio
Okay,
operator,
yeah, I was fine with
mechanic,
all this too. I
his
was like, right,
assistant,
oh,
an electrician, and the 4 machine gunners. Although obsolete by 1935 due to their
Is
low
that
speed
fine
and
now,
high
yeah.
profile, all 10
Well,
it's
Char
not meant to be.
2Cs were reactivated and put into
Yeah,
service
Cookie,
as the
it's yours
51st
by
Battalion
default.
Char de Combat
That's
in
literally
1939 to
Paladin.
serve as a
It's going to
propaganda
Cookie.
device in movies, encouraging
not gonna
many
be a
people
stat
to
stick
look
for
at
somebody
them
that's
as
not gonna attack with it.
invincible
What's up?
super tanks
Fat
and
Cal
helping
asks if you
boost
have the
morale
spell
in the
power
early
and
stages
care.
of World
Where
War
is
II.
Mitch?
On me?
Each tank had been named after
I
one of
don't
the
know.
ancient regions of France. Numbers 90 through 99 named
It says he has 4
Poitou,
crystals.
Provence, Picardie, Alsace,
Oh.
Bretagne,
I
Touraine,
need the dream shards. I got the
Anjou,
crystals. I don't have the dust
Normandy,
either.
Berry, and Champagne.
I have the dust.
Instead
a
of
harp,
using them
and
to
then
defend
we'll
against the
send you
German
a-
offensive in
I'm
1940,
gonna go
the
enchant
French
my,
command ordered
my
them
gun
to be
real
shipped
quick.
to the south of
You
France
guys
by
play time
rail.
your summons explodes, but
However, some of the tanks had broken down and were put out of service. The
I can
others that
cover
were
it
shipped
for
to
you,
southern
so
France by rail were
I
destroyed
don't got
instead
the
of
dream
allowing the
shards on me.
Germans to capture them when a burning fuel train
Thickums.
blocked the railway.
But way to
Number
win, buddy.
99, nicknamed Champagne, failed to detonate, and the Germans captured it, taking it back
God
to
is good.
Berlin as a
Today,
war
God was
trophy.
good to me
It
today as well.
disappeared in
One time's traveling in the
1945 after
crowd.
the fall of Berlin to the Soviets. and
Literal
it is
tears.
suspected that it was
Because I have
scrapped.
no way to really make up the hit right now.
The
I just wanna buy
Maginot Line,
Immortal. That's all I
French
wanna do.
defensive
What's
That's really what I want
fortifications,
to buy too.
World War II.
me too.
The Maginot Line was a
Oh, that's
defensive
nice.
series
Yeah,
of
yeah. Blade
fortifications
Bridge.
along
I
the French
blame-
borders
blame
with
whoever
Italy,
Red Cherry is, the
Switzerland,
guy who died.
Germany, and Luxembourg.
Yeah.
Blame the
The main
3 people
purpose
next
of
to
the
him.
Maginot Line, named
All of
after
them,
French Minister of War André Maginot, was to deter German
Next time,
invasion.
just run to the
It would
literary
serve other
entrance, just
purposes
run
based
away.
off the experience of the First World War.
Yeah, me and the
It would
couple
save
melee
French
were off
manpower,
by like
becoming a
blow me like
substitute
even
for a
further than
reduced
blow me.
army, as
We were
France
just
had a
chilling,
shortage of
dancing.
young men
Well,
for the armed
the way to
forces.
tell if you're out of
It would
range
also
is
hinder the
stacks,
German
you know
army
what I
if they
mean? Like, you
attacked,
wanna-
giving time to
gotta be away
mobilize the
from it.
main
If you're
bulk
in
of the
range to
French
get a
army.
stack, you're in range for
By
that
the
shit.
time the Maginot Line had been
Oh yeah,
constructed,
I'm saying we
it
were
had
like
cost
all
3
the way
billion
to
francs.
the other end of the
The
room.
fortifications were
I'm
built
noticing
throughout the
coming at you,
interwar
but,
years of the 1930s and were
Alright,
state-of-the-art,
guys, per
a
usual,
marvel of
Xavier's
military
Tank
engineering.
Sartharion.
It was not a
Emma
continuous
is on
line
ads.
as the name
Bear
implied.
touching
Not
is
a
on the
Vanilla.
Drake.
Fortifications along the border.
With a summon
The
pending?
main fortresses were manned by 500 to 1,000 men.
You might be lagging.
They were
bro.
built of thick concrete, and they had several stories. Heavy artillery within retractable armored turrets,
Yeah, I didn't have any
and
stacks
air
either, Fred. We
filtration
were just a
systems
victim
to
of somebody's
prevent
chain
gas
lightning.
from entering.
Yeah. No, I'm
Inside,
just saying
there
if
was
you're not
everything
getting
needed to
stacks, you're
provide
out of
adequate
range
living.
of the chain.
Recreation areas,
Yeah. If there was a
kitchens,
million there. oof.
hospitals, living
Who's still-
quarters,
No,
supply
what
storehouses,
happened was that
and
melee
underground
was the melee
trains
that
on
were
rail
standing
lines to move
outside
ammunition.
to get stats,
Smaller
like they were
fortresses of
standing outside
around
the range.
100 to
They were
200
standing in
men
the middle,
also
so
made
it's
up the
still
line,
chained to
covering the
people that
small
were
bunkers
inside
of
the
20
area.
to 30 men armed with machine
Yeah,
guns.
they like
In
if
front
your
of these
melee should have been
defenses on
very
the
far
border were
from the fight.
anti-tank ditches,
Who
and
still needs a
obstacles,
summons?
barbed wire,
50
mines, and blockhouses
Rick, sorry.
disguised as residential homes that French troops could raise the alarm from if there was an enemy attack.
With 1 second to go.
Unfortunately, the French did not prepare for the blitzkrieg tactics of the German forces or their
Ready to go.
invasion
Alright,
through
start
neutral
pulling trash.
Belgium,
Emma,
which allowed them
Xavier,
to simply
Bear,
outflank the
Swifty, you're
Maginot
going,
Line in
Go-Go
1940.
Gadget, Ret.
Where the Germans
Yeah,
did
okay.
attack the Maginot Line, it
left
did
side
serve its
first.
purpose well, and the 400,000 French troops who formed the garrison held up a strong defense. However, these troops could have been used for the main battle within France.
What do I have to do on Mali to parse
Ice Carrier, Project Habakkuk.
Understand how to do the
Secret
Drake.
weapon of World War II.
1-1.
During the early 1940s, German
Yep.
U-boats
Well, the
were
Drake
sinking Allied
is scrubbed
ships
from
delivering
parts.
vital
Oh,
supplies
is it? Then you
from
better
the
fucking
United
pump while
States to
he's,
Britain in the
not in the air.
Atlantic Ocean. An inventor
didn't
called Jeffrey
realize we
Pike,
had
working under the
cloth
combined operations
What about
headquarters,
the
came
ads on
up
the
with the
disc?
concept
Does that
of
Those
a
count?
floating,
Those
unsinkable
count, yeah.
platform to
So make
launch
sure you start
aircraft
all the
from
crap
to
out of 'em.
defend these convoys.
Yup.
After the tank
This
has threat,
solution was
or
an
you will fucking
indestructible
die.
aircraft
Yeah.
carrier
Should
Obviously.
from
that
ice.
takes
Emma,
a
do
lot
you want me to go
of
grab
While
the
it
two up there for
sounded
you?
too far-fetched to become a reality,
Which two?
Winston Churchill
Oh, sure.
enthusiastically approved the idea. Pike identified ice as the material because of shortages in steel and
Yeah,
aluminium.
because my
It would
47
also
cars on
take
Mali
less
is a
energy to
problem.
manufacture. He drew up plans for the Berg ship.
Yeah, we kind of
The iceberg
RIP'd your
would be
parts on
leveled
Glutes
to
today,
provide
buddy.
a runway and a bridge. It would then be hollowed out
Just bring
inside
him over
to
here,
shelter up to
I had low
150
DPS.
aircraft, fuel tanks, and living
Yeah, those
accommodation.
bugs going on.
It would be
thickums.
powered by an electric generator driving 20 propellers. The sheer scale of the vehicle and the thickness of its ice hull at 40 feet or 12
All I'm saying
meters
is I
thick
feel really
would
strong
make it
right now.
unsinkable.
With the
In
gun.
1943,
Oh, yeah.
a scale
Glorious.
model prototype
When
measuring
I
60
first-
by 30 feet or
when
18
I
meters
first got
by
my
9
gun,
meters and weighing
I found
1,000 tons was constructed
Just
to test
give
the
them to me.
concept
I'll
at
sell 'em for the
Patricia
guild, man.
Lake, Alberta, Canada,
believe I'm
where the
holding
climate was
fire
suitable.
right now.
The prototype, powered by a single
good, don't
horsepower
it?
motor, worked, surviving throughout winter and summer.
Okay, the first time I got
ice
my
as a
gun, I
building
went
material
into
could be
an
brittle.
obsidian
So,
sanctum,
Pike
I
Creek,
think
named
25
after
man,
Jeffrey Pike,
with
was
level
developed,
1
which
gun
was a
skill,
mixture of
and I still
14%
got
wood
4th on the
pulp and
DPS meter.
86% ice. This made it
God.
easy to work with, and it melted
It was,
slower
pretty
and was a
impressive.
stronger material. Winston Churchill, excited by the results of the prototype, ordered a full-scale
Alright,
ice
go
ship
Gadget
to be
Cookie Pull.
constructed, named Habakkuk.
Damn,
And the
BMX.
Canadians
do it.
confidently
BMX,
planned to
stop
make
poor
this
shaming
happen
me.
by 1944. The project
Actually,
was
thank you,
eventually
Mitch.
abandoned due to several reasons. Rising costs
drink
and
on your
material
parachute.
demands on
I
the
didn't
war
know
effort,
that.
its slow speed of just 6 knots, and the fact that Portugal had also given permission
got
to
really
use
fucking
airfields in the
close.
Azores, a group of islands
Alright,
in
guys,
the
let your
Atlantic.
tanks pick them up beforehand
But overall,
during the
Get off
boss.
your
the
tank,
idea
Emma.
was
Get off
perhaps
your mount. Get
just
off your
too
mount.
far-fetched.
During the boss, nobody talks but me and Dark. We have the comms.
First World War tech, dreadnoughts. British Admiral John Fisher, First Sea Lord, was the driving force behind the dreadnought, a new type of warship that made all previous ships redundant. HMS Dreadnought was a revolutionary
Right,
design and the first of its kind when it
You will
launched.
die when I tell you you can die.
Completed in 1906, the
It's hard to
Dreadnought
grab
was
them all because
heavily
they come
armed
like one at a
with
time.
10
you know.
powerful 12-inch or or 305mm caliber guns capable of firing
That's why
accurately
I
at
usually
long
just pop
distances.
AoE taunt and
Previously, the
pop
Royal
all my
Navy had
defensive
battleships armed with
cooldowns.
just 4
Pop
12-inch guns,
taunt and pray.
and Germany's
Alright,
equivalent had
tanks.
4 11-inch guns.
tanks, you
The
guys know your roles,
dreadnoughts were
correct?
much larger in appearance
Same
than
thing
their
as always?
predecessors,
Same thing
due
as
to
always.
the extra weight of
Okay,
the big
don't
guns
misdirect me,
and
I'm
its
tall,
armor
guys.
plates.
Zay, if you
Yet
need
its
it,
speed
I'll
was
have
Are you
superior,
gonna be pulling
reaching a
him to
top
like
speed
right
of
where we're standing
22
right now?
knots.
Yes,
I'm
It
not
was also
Xavier
the
is
first
main
major
tank.
warship to be driven
You will
solely
misdirect
by
me.
steam turbines. The appearance
Oh,
of the
yeah.
dreadnought
Probably
sparked a
marked him as a
naval
tank.
arms race
Oh.
between Britain and Germany. Soon they would be competing to build more dreadnoughts,
Alright.
and by
Xavier is
1914
main
the
tank.
Royal
Bear
Navy
Touch
had
is tanking
29 dreadnoughts,
the
while the
dragons.
Imperial German Navy
Emma is
had
tanking the
completed
ads.
17.
When I call for a portal time,
During the
everybody
First
goes in
World
the
War,
portal
naval
except for the tanks
engagements were rare,
and the
which was
healers.
the opposite of what was predicted
I am the healer
based on
going
a
in there.
recent event in naval history.
Whoever's
the
down there
Battle
will
of
be the
Tsushima
tank.
during
Don't
the
worry, he has like a
Russo-Japanese
pillow.
War
I
of
will keep you alive.
1905.
Don't
The
have me
Battle
tanked
of
down there.
Jutland of 1916
Any questions?
was the only major example, and
Tank it
even
if
then sinkings were few
There
and
is
far
a-
between.
You guys
Later
know how
in
to
the war,
avoid
a
walls,
new
so when I
type
call
of
middle,
dreadnoughts
middle is
would
safe.
come
When I call
about,
offsides,
called the
the
Super
offsides are safe.
Dreadnought.
You gonna call it, Chair?
The first of
Yeah, I'll
these,
call it.
the Queen Elizabeth class, demonstrated
You will,
superior
you will have the
firepower,
comms once
protection,
we are
and
down there.
speed.
Let us know when to kill. Copy.
Looking for this feast still. Did I miss it?
Yeah, Dark. It's right here in front of me on the booming, sitting bear sitting on it.
Black triangles have been observed flying over
Yeah, right as I
bases,
said
only
earlier.
for
I was
the
like,
Air
oh
Force
shit.
to scramble jets to chase them off.
And flash
These
check. I
black
don't know if
triangles
anybody
being
needs it,
able
but
to
I just
easily
redid
outmaneuver
mine.
these jets.
Yeah, mine too.
Anybody
It's
have extra
incredible
endless
to think
rage?
it was
I
only
can spare.
back in
Hey, want a cookie?
1903 that the Wright
I think
brothers
I
had
can.
their first
Oh.
flight. Fast forward 60 years and we had the incredibly quick and sophisticated SR-71. It's unbelievable that within the
You got
span
3
of
gold
just 60
clover on
years
you.
we were able to achieve what we did.
I do already check
It's been
Xavier.
60 years since the SR-71 was created.
Check.
So is it really out of
There
the
you go.
realm
You
of
got full-timer, you mean?
possibilities that we would
Yep,
be
you got
able to
full-timer.
create something much faster than the SR-71?
Burgundy and Dark, you guys know you guys are mostly on the tanks. Call out for your cooldowns when need be, Xavier. Me and
Every
Zelkos will do
year
our
new
thing.
interesting discoveries are made, but some of these even divide scientists
Bird's
and
gotta
don't
stay
ever
on
get
Zay.
fully explained.
I'll stay on the other.
This is what happened when a mysterious looking creature was discovered in Russia. The odd looking creature was found in the Leningrad region, in the town of Sosnovy Bor. The town was built in the 1950s to serve the Leningrad nuclear plant. A woman by the name of Tamara said she was the one who found it, and
Oh,
said
my
she
trap
came
would
across
right
it
be
while
right
she was
between his
wading in
legs.
shallow waters
Fly
close
cookie,
to the
please.
nuclear power plant.
Tenenbaum's down. Firewall,
As she
middle is
picked up
safe.
the creature, she couldn't identify what it was. And
So all your
showed
cooldowns
her
here,
friend
I'm
who
lusting
said
at the
it looked
second
like
Drake.
an undeveloped animal, suggesting that it may have been something like a mutant chicken embryo.
What's up?
Biologist Igor Zajarev at the Institute of Biophysics was puzzled, saying the following: "It seems that this body is neither fish or fowl. This creature has a mysterious skull, no neck and no wings. Extensive studies are needed to determine what kind of creature or
Firewall
organism
incoming,
this
middle
is."
is safe.
End quote.
Burn
The creature
Tenenbaum.
soon started to get the attention of scientists and researchers, and it was then sent to Moscow for further studies. The chicken embryo
Lusting.
theory is the one that's used.
You
by
know the
most
deal, Bear
people to
touch me.
explain
After the
what this
breath,
creature
pull to the
is.
other side.
But as pointed out
Oh,
by locals,
on the off me.
the Leningrad nuclear plant has a history of covering things up, and it's even led some to suggest that the area around the plant is dangerous for wildlife, leading to these abnormalities that officials would want to keep under wraps.
Yep, good pull, Bear. Good pull.
According
After
to a
Shadron
former
dies, we're
Russian
all going in the
federal
portal.
investigator
Middle
of
is
the
safe.
nuclear and radiation safety, Vladimir Konstov said the area has a dark history, and one that officials don't want the public
If the third
knowing
Drake is
about.
down in time.
3 people had lost their lives when a cooling unit ruptured.
Everybody in the portal.
On top of this, there's been various fires, and even radiation spills that were detected over 4 miles away from the plant.
If we killed them too fast.
Researchers have said these spills
Come
could
up now,
inform
come up,
some
yeah, there you
for
go.
wildlife.
There we go.
Firewall.
Others said that perhaps
Offsides,
fire
offsides.
testing was going on in the area.
We're gonna have to
and
go
one of
back
these
in because we
creatures
killed the
managed to
second
escape.
Drake too quick. But we'll
Eventually,
go
they
back in
found
after
one
the third
woman
Drake
in
is
the
dead.
nearby
After the
river.
third Drake is dead.
As of right now, there's not much information that can be found on this mysterious creature, with amateur researchers saying that it looks like officials may have found
I'll come
something
back
out
for that
about
one.
this creature that they don't
Mana
want the
Tide is
public to
down,
know
my
about.
healers.
Thank you.
One person said the
Innervate,
following:
possible.
"It's strange
Innervate,
that this creature was having tests
Burgundian,
done on it
middle
and
is
being
safe.
sent to labs, but now we have no answer for what they found. I've never seen
I
a
think I
creature
got
that
you
looks
that
like
guy.
this." End quote. As of right now, it's anyone's guess as to
Can't
what
arrest
this
me now,
odd-looking
dog.
creature is.
I don't think I
Whether
need
it's
it,
the
but just
result of
to
a
help.
chemical spill.
Alright guys, back in the portal. Back in the portal.
Extraterrestrial in nature. The oceans
Yeah, I'm not used to killing the second Drake that quick. That's my apologies.
And over the years,
who needs to
Don't
innervate?
come out. Do not kill him. Do not kill him.
That not only
Middle
affected
safe.
them, but
They
also
died
the
too quick.
researchers who've gone on to investigate them.
Okay, only one person got hit.
Such creature has become known as the Black Demon Shark. Over the last 20 years, it's been spotted off the shores of Mexico's Baja California Peninsula.
I have a hope. I have a hope.
Reports and sightings
All
have
priests
been
cast
made by a
hymns.
number of fishermen
There
across
we
the
go.
Mexican
Because
coast.
it's just tank and spank now,
More
guys.
coming
See
in.
a
More
massive
coming in.
black shark roughly
All them
60
fucking
feet in length,
hymns. Give me that
resembling
mana.
the build of a great white shark.
Get off my
with
fucking
that
healing
of a
potions,
dark
bro.
coloration across its body and a massively
Offsides,
sized
offsides. Dude, it's hard when you're a hard
Given the
caster,
fact
bro.
that many of these reports
No
fit
way
many
that
of the
hit me.
modern day
Oh,
recreations
coming up.
using megalodon
Who is it?
skeletons,
It's okay.
it's
Back
led
out,
many
kept
to
him
believe
alive.
that it could
Yeah, we
be a
got you, bro.
possible hunting ground for the creature. Additionally, many of the fishermen that have reported this sighting have often been veterans in the field, never having once claimed such sightings in the past. and
Congrats to
having
those of
more
you
than
that are
enough
about to get the
experience
title.
with different species
Oh.
of animals throughout the region.
Do not do that. What the
What's
fuck?
He was
interesting
not
about these
targeting
reports is
Xavier.
that
I
we
don't know
have
why
proof
that
at one point in time
taunted
these
the boss.
creatures were swimming in
It's
our
a,
oceans.
no worries. It's no worries.
Offsides, can we get a judgment of
Going
wisdom
back
on the
in
boss?
1960s,
Already on there?
there appeared to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
another widely
Sure.
reported sightings of a megalodon creature in the modern day.
I mean, sometimes
to the
the fucking
reports,
taunt just does say it's
The
not your
captain
fault.
of a 50-foot-long fishing
Yeah,
ship
it's
claimed that a
fucking
massive
stupid
white
with it.
shark, larger than the boat itself, passed by while the
And
captain
after this,
was
we'll meet you guys
sitting
all
at
at
the
EOE.
Yeah, my
When
bad.
people
He was
began to
definitely
question
targeting a
the
healer
captain and
when I
claimed
did
that
it.
I'll have a
being nothing
wormhole
more
up
than a
as
wave.
well.
He continued to claim he was an experienced fisherman. and
Offsides,
was
firewall's
well
still
aware of
thing
what
till
the
the ads,
whale
guys.
looked like. He confirmed that it was indeed a larger shark, and that
That
it was not
fastest kill
similar to
took
that
1
of a
minute and
whale of
42
any type.
seconds.
Oh shit.
It's including
People who
Zerg.
research these
Gotcha.
cases have said these individuals
today your day,
encountered
right?
everyday
Today
wildlife.
your day.
But as
I did
someone
my shit
pointed
drop?
out, it's very unlikely these people would mistake
It is my
everyday
day. I
wildlife
finally get an
for a giant
upgrade.
shark.
Dragon hide
As of
bag.
today, it's not known what these individuals encountered. Scientists have said the giant megalodon shark is now extinct and hasn't been in our oceans for at least a couple million years.
Way to keep it clean, guys.
Yet
Nobody
most and fishermen
needs
are clearly
dragon hide.
seeing
Can you
something.
disenchant that?
Nope.
Other
It can stay on the
fishermen
boss
have
though
come forward
forever.
and said they
Oh,
think
it's
there
the
may
bag
be
I do.
giant great
No,
white sharks
congrats,
that are
my
being
lord.
misidentified.
Jerry got a
Some have
cloak.
claimed to have seen great white sharks pushing 30 to 40 feet.
After the Drake, bro.
Marine officials have said this is a more likely answer,
Stab's got some
but still question
gloves.
this theory as great white sharks are said to reach a maximum length of 20 feet.
Hubba.
Look at
Hubba.
that clothes.
However, according to
Thick
J.E.
that.
Randall,
Large satchel of
the largest
spools.
great white shark reliably measured was
That
found in
is.
Ledge Point, Western Australia in 1987, and is
Wow,
said
let's
to
see
have
that
measured at
fucking-
least 6
that gear
meters.
score go up.
Around a decade later, in
It's
1988,
like 93 on Bear.
the Canadian
Four-
Shark
4-0.
Research Centre
You're right.
captured and verified a large
Congrats,
female
Bear.
great white
Now
shark.
let's see that motherfucking.
This was off the coast of Alberta and
See that
Prince Edward
motherfucking
Island,
brains of the Twilight Drake.
and it measured 6.1 meters.
Fine. Reigns of the Twilight Drake.
Furthermore, a great white captured off the
100.
coast of Malta in 1987
Yo. Oh,
is said to have
Red.
measured
Can
an
everyone roll for that, or is it
estimated
guilty only, or-
7.13 meters.
Everyone can roll for
Everybody
it.
relevant.
Okay.
Photographic
Longevity
evidence of the
flight.
shark
If you don't have
Malta
this flight,
was thoroughly
get your ass to
examined
fucking somewhere.
was found to
Yo, you
confirm
want
this
that Drake
estimation,
shit? You want
even
Congrats,
suggesting it was
Zelko.
larger than previously
Man, did I win it
thought.
again? I don't
No,
really
it
want
was
it.
This suggests that great white
Yeah, let's
sharks
get
can grow
96
up
on
to
Xavier.
7
There's
meters.
298s.
If
No,
last
oh, that
year
was
the
Zelk.
previous
That wasn't
year's
Cherry
size
with
of
the
4.9 to 6.1
Yeah,
meters.
good Xavier then.
Hey, you didn't get the mace, but you got him out.
So
baby.
what do you make of this mysterious creature that was discovered in
Wormhole.
Russia?
Can I trust this wormhole? Is this the
Do
right
you
one?
think it's an
Yeah,
embryo
Alright,
of something like
Council
a Jacob?
chamber epaulets.
Do you think the chemical spills had something
Wait,
to
it
do
went
with it
away.
looking like this?
Oh, it's over here.
Or do you think it may be
Yeah, I don't want to get
extraterrestrial in
sent to
nature?
BOD again. That was some
Go to
bullshit.
Borean
Be sure to leave
Tundra.
your questions
Yeah.
and answers
I
in
was
the comment
tempted.
section below.
Wait, is it
and
really
help
boring
us to
Tundra?
grow this
Yeah, it's
community
Borean
while
Yeah,
Tundra,
we
you
solve
actually
these
click on
unexplained
that one and
mysteries.
select where you're going.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget
I
to
remember
subscribe
last
to
time I
our
went-
videos.
Don't worry. You're gonna win.
That's because you didn't see the wormhole. It's completely different. different from
real
that.
beauty is
Enchant
that
that.
Tom Duldor, the
If you're
engineering
someone
thing, the
who
wormhole
doesn't want
device,
to
if you
work
just
a
use it from
corporate
Valorant,
job
it places you
and
on
doesn't
a
like
ledge
the
in your
idea of
halls.
working
got-
9 till 5,
Nah,
gotta be more
somebody
careful.
put down a
becoming
fucking
an
BRD
archaeologist might
portal
be
and
your
fucking.
calling.
Stabs is fucking sneaky.
Archaeologists are
Sneaky
responsible
motherfucker.
for some
Hey,
of
oh,
history's
the
most
Lost
incredible
Protector.
finds. Every
That
so
was
often, though,
hilarious.
they come
This
across
guy
some
was
strange
playing games that
artifacts.
day.
One of those is that of the Paraka
Yo,
skull,
if you whisper me about the
which are
bag,
best
just
known for their
stay after
elongated
we
look.
roll it off.
I don't think we had a warlock.
One photograph is making the rounds showing what looks like
We
a
have
piece of
warlocks.
metal which
No,
has
okay.
been
Nah, that
embedded
day
inside
though, I
the
went to
skull.
BRD.
Grats cookie.
It quickly got shared by people who
mute you up,
said it
Mally.
then looked like a large microchip, or it could be some type of ancient technology
Would my
that was
overall
used by our
parse increase
ancestors.
if I go from like a 47 to a 90?
Although many labeled the
suppose?
photograph as
Yes.
fake,
Do you know how
saying
math?
that it was
Do
like
you know how
being
math
photoshopped
works?
in order to get it like this.
I didn't know if
The
it,
image
like,
is
I don't
actually
know.
real.
I'm not really.
If
first
I
posted by
raise
the
a
Museum
number,
of
does the
Osteology.
average go up?
The Museum of Osteology made the post on social media.
Yeah, because I have a
And
47 on
since
it right
putting
now.
it up,
It's really
gone
bad.
viral. They said the
Well,
following in the
I'm at the
post.
stone and you're not here. That's so
Dark.
weird.
On public
You think
display,
you, Berg, and Zelkos can
proven
3-heal this?
elongated skull with metal surgically implanted
Upstanding
after returning
shoulders.
from battle.
Yes.
Estimated
Alright,
to
I'll
be
go elemental
from
then.
around 2,000 years ago.
Now I'm
One
just
of our
wandering
more
away from
interesting
being
and older
pissed out
pieces in the
shoddy.
collection.
Signet?
We don't have a ton
Signet
of
Manifest
background on
of
this
Pain, yes.
piece.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it
you
feels
do.
good.
He survived the
Feels good wearing that bitch. Sure do.
Based on the broken bone structure
That's your
surrounding
all
the
spec
head,
though, old head.
you
Don't
can
try to
see that
fucking.
it's
You better
tightly
all
fused
spec
together.
for that joint.
It was a
Xavier,
successful
you coming
surgery.
back on fire?
End
Nah, that's
quote.
restoration
Yeah,
disc
we're
too.
just
That's
summoning
resto
right
They
and
commented
elemental
on the
disc.
post
Yeah.
saying how incredible
Stupid
this
resto
artifact
shaman,
is,
fucking losers.
but were equally confused as to how such a procedure
Sorry, it's
would
bits
be
for
carried
both,
out.
bro. Don't hate
They
me
hate
because
us,
my
'cause
my
they
The
hate
shit's
person said the following.
shut up back
What
out.
type of metal is this?
It's
Has
only
that
you
been
answer.
tested? How
Oh,
did they
get
manage
you
to
when
you
get
appear
this
on the
inside
meter
someone
one of
during a
these
time
days.
like this?
Me, I do be appearing on the
It
meter.
looks very well done.
I be out parsing in a lot of
End
fights.
quote.
I just
I
can't
only
heal
see
you.
the top two, so
While
I
another
don't
person
know.
said the following.
Top two.
Oh,
What
it's
do you
The
think I
metal
am?
inlay is incredible.
You can just do
It
it
really
like
shows
this.
us how
One
little we know
second.
about our ancient history. Who would have thought that something like this was possible? It's incredible to think the person survived this. I'm
Oh,
not sure though I'd like to have a
still
piece
need
of
a
metal
summon.
fused to my skull without anesthetic. It makes you wonder what other discoveries are out there waiting to be
oh,
found.
I can't. Oh, there it is. Okay.
End
There we
quote.
go. Okay.
This isn't the only interesting
Yeah, sure.
find in regards to these skulls. Researchers who work closely
Alright guys,
with
for
the
those that are
private
not
skulls
aware, we
have said
moved
they've
to the
made some
right
new
during Dragon
discoveries.
Phase.
These skulls were first discovered in the Prakas region of Peru,
Only correct thing I've heard
a
you say all
desert on
night.
the south coast of the
Aw,
country.
dude, that's so crazy. It's like I really
Giulio
value
Tello,
your
a proven
opinion and all, you know?
archaeologist, was the first to discover these astonishing skulls in 1928.
Remember,
What
Cookie,
initially
you're
stood
just
out
average
as
here.
the most unusual among the skulls
Yeah.
was that
Keep
they
that in
were
mind.
the longest and most
I saw
protracted
myself
skulls
number
to
one
have
a couple
ever been
times.
found before.
It doesn't count your cleaving with
Over
volley.
300 were found.
Yeah, it does.
Dating
Does
back
everybody
between
else's cleave not
2000
count then?
and 3,000 years old.
Not on parse, no, it doesn't.
It wasn't until 2014
Hey Terry,
when
can you
genetic
make sure the
testing
Death
revealed
Knights
unusual
fucking
findings.
grip and change the
Showed
mice
that they
these
have
guys?
mitochondrial
And
DNA.
follow the
When a rogue says they
Strange
can't
mutual
cleave a
traits that
megalo.
has been seen in animals or
Yeah,
humans
Lana
before.
can cleave and still wins.
The elongated skulls were just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, they get 10 seconds to cleave.
While skulls may become elongated due to deformities or applying force on the skull for a long period of time, this was certainly not the case with the Paraka skulls. A researcher by the name of L.A. Marzulli took note of more than a few characteristics that don't fit the norm for a
The
standard
odds the
human
pants
skull.
drop and I get on my warrior.
The eye sockets were found to be much
You want to bring
larger.
your warrior?
I saw
The
first them.
cheekbones were much more
You
pronounced
can
and the
go on
skulls
to.
weighed 60%
Yeah, bring your
more
warrior.
than that
Oh,
of
I
a
sure,
only
just
need
off
the
res
chest
though.
plate, but I mean, did anyone like?
He also
It
looked
doesn't
to a
really matter. I'll
specific
just put
part of the
Sunder on.
skull known as the
Alright,
foramen
Summon
magnum.
me when I get on.
Swifty reserved
The
them.
human skull is situated closer to the jawline,
I like this hunter's tab.
whereas it was closer
I need
to
to
the
get
back
this.
of the skull on the Prakas ones.
Oh,
After
does he have the
studying
one with
over
armor?
1,000 skulls,
Pleb.
archaeologists also noticed that the frame
You gotta be using that random wolf from Grizzly Hill.
That is a genetic trait.
I press 1, 2, 3 if you need a summons.
This caused them to further
Other than
research the
Kanashi.
Prakas skulls,
I think mine's from Howling Fjord.
investigating every part in great
It's
detail.
the first one I saw.
That's okay.
Right.
Order
Eventually
of
noticed that they
the
weren't missing
discs
the
is going to
ancestral
go Lana
suture,
Rogue,
which is found on all
DMX,
human skulls.
Ketchup, then
There's a
Stabs.
piece of tissue that connects the two parietal
If
bones
they don't
in
get
the
on them
skull.
quick enough, snooze you lose, Melee.
Although not all Prakas skulls were devoid
But
of
ideally,
ancestral
to
suture,
kill them quick,
most
it
didn't
is that
appear to
order.
have one at all.
Based off your DPS alone, yes. I
This
just
brought
judge you guys
upon
based
more
on numbers.
confusion and intrigue carried to those
Lionel, you
involved
pretty
in
cool,
the
though.
research.
Stabs you
As
right.
research continued, 3 skulls were used to
He's
sample
like straight to
DNA.
Diablo.
Yeah, you
No.
know
which
what?
was an
I'm
infant
close to my
dating
breaking
back
point.
800 to 2000
Stabs,
years ago.
stabs. Don't go anywhere. It gets fun again back in old
Hair
Rock.
and bone powder were extracted from
You
the
know,
foramen
the only
magnum,
fun for me is topping
whilst
the
wearing
meter, and I
protective
can never
clothing
do
to
that when
ensure the
Lana's around.
samples wouldn't
So,
be contaminated.
yeah, game's ruined for me.
The samples
Understood.
were sent to 3 different labs in Canada and the United States, and the
Alright, guys.
geneticists weren't given many details
Your dagger didn't drop.
to reduce the risk
Sorry.
of creating preconceived
Let a warlock
notions
shine
about
and
the
get them the
skulls.
first tricks, you know, so they can
The
keep
DNA
reapplying
results
that.
were nothing
in
short
the
of
text.
fascinating.
Lana, you understand?
Still doing more than
They came
stabs.
back explaining
Yeah,
that
you
one
understand.
of
You
the
got blue
samples
daggers
found
and
at
you're
the
the top
hair
DPS.
samples wasn't a sequence
That
found
blue
in
dagger
human
is
DNA.
this though.
However, the other samples were showing that they came mostly from Eastern Europe, and some
Well,
from
could we
Western
just
Europe.
remove Crusader Aura because my weak aura
When
is
looking at the bone
really
powder,
annoying.
But it makes me cast
found
fast as
that it
fuck, boys.
originated from
Thank you.
Mesopotamia.
Okay, we're all
otherwise
here,
known
right?
as
Could
Syria.
we? Or we all have these from the last
Many
one.
questions still remain.
We okay. Very well done on
We're torn over the 24
Oh, that's
guessing
great,
Emma's
guys.
main
analysis
tank.
of the recovered skulls
Oh yeah, I'm
Yes.
making
that
this one.
showed that gathered DNA from the remains contained mutations that did not match any known human or primate DNA samples previously recorded. Although the DNA testing was immediately put into question by the scientific community, the lead
Toby
researcher
Keith
stands
did
by
bless
the
Emma with the
results
shield.
and
Is that
asked for
who it
those
was?
within the scientific
was.
community to
I
confirm
can't
his
wait to
findings,
pray to Toby Keith
to
for a
take
piece
their
of
own
gear.
test to show the
Okay,
validity
doing
of
a
his
timer, guys.
claims. It may still take many years before experts
Just a
are
quick
able
one.
to provide an adequate explanation for the unusual findings, with some saying that the Pracker skulls will remain a mystery, so we'll have to draw our own conclusions for now. Who knows, maybe this discovery will bring about more news and provide us with the insight
out for that
needed to
tail
better
swipe.
understand the human race
Oh, he doesn't.
and
Tail
our
swipe.
untraceable
Only
history.
boss that doesn't.
I'm just kidding.
He's being a douchey.
I wasn't sure.
Residents all around Las Vegas have reported seeing mysterious lights.
Got a big one.
Some of the first reports came in on the 1st of March, when people posted photographs and videos of large balls of lights in the sky, noting that whatever these lights belonged to, they were big, and that they stayed in a strict V formation. This caused others to say that these lights may have been part of one craft, further saying that if this was the case, this single object would have been huge. The lights were reported
the
by
first
people
mark's
on
under the
different
portal.
sides of Sin City on Monday the 1st of March,
We'll go
I'm
get
just
you,
gonna-
Justin.
local residents saying the
Yeah, I'm
lights
just gonna
appeared
take him
at
how he
around
how he
7:30
drops.
PM. It soon started
So
to
don't stand in
trend
front
on
of him,
social
Hunter.
media, with
Hunter.
users wanting to know what the lights were.
Blasting.
Due to Nellis Air Force Base being close, some suggested that they may have
Bark
been
is
flares,
down.
but this doesn't match up with eyewitness testimonies. One man who said he
Y'all
works with
melee
the
way too
Department of
selfish on
Homeland
that
Security
spark, bro.
told several media outlets
You
that
can't
the
get at
lights
it?
bear no resemblance to the military flares that he's
Spark it,
experienced in the
tail.
past,
Full quick.
with others coming forward and saying that the
What?
lights didn't act like typical military flares,
Somebody taunted.
as they were very
Yeah,
stationary
there's
and
no
didn't
way
move around
that
like a
that
normal
just
flare
happened.
does.
Who taunted?
After people started to demand answers for what was seen above Las
There was
Vegas,
no way that just
the
happened.
Federal Aviation
Hey guys, let's
Administration
do that
did
again.
respond to those asking questions, and said that the lights from the Las Vegas
An
Valley
army
were
taunt?
flares from the NW military
No.
ranges.
No.
Yeah,
One
somebody fucking
person said
taunted.
the following. On
It
Monday,
could've
Yeah,
been one
we
of
were
there's
the
no
parked
way.
up directly
Death Grip
above
trying to grab
downtown
that
Las
other spark.
Vegas and saw multiple lights.
That could have been it.
We weren't the only ones
What
who
do
saw
you
the
think?
lights,
We
so
can
reached out
take
to a
'em.
friend and they said they'd seen the
Oh
same
yeah, we
thing.
got this bear. Just stop heal me.
These glowing orbs were hovering in a perfect
I'm also say this
formation
back out.
for what I would say was
Yeah,
around
I'm
5
I
minutes.
queued up for a random PG.
When I spoke to my friend who had also
I'll take
seen
it
these
away,
lights,
right?
we both found it
No, it
interesting
doesn't
how
matter.
remarkably
We're just
similar
gonna
they
kill
were
him.
to the famous
Not gonna
film
wait
stars.
9 minutes for it.
Wait,
I,
you
for
guys
one,
are
don't
stated
think
though?
these were flares.
They released way early.
I've observed
Back out. You gotta
military
understand
flares in the
something. I don't give a
past,
fuck about any of your
and
parses.
these lights didn't drift or emit
Respectfully,
any smoke.
none of your parses. I don't give a fuck about them.
Oh my god, I've
Not
never
everyone
wiped on
bought
this.
this
I have
answer,
to
though.
climb all the way back
It
up
said
top.
that various V-shaped UFOs have been
Ugh.
observed in the past, and when questioned about it, officials normally blame the lights on things like flares.
Arcane breath
This
definitely
soon
killed
created an
everybody.
interesting discussion.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Where people
And the
compared
thing
these
is, if
lights
there
to
was a death
similar
grip, if
looking
it
lights
was
that
1
had been
second
reported in the
after or
past.
before, it wouldn't have even been a big deal.
Those
But
who
it was like
study and investigate
right when he did the
UFOs
breath.
have said
This
these
is the
shaped
second
crafts
boss
are
in a
some of
row
the
though
most
that's
commonly
getting
shaped
torn.
UFOs,
Like that cannot happen.
and that most
bro.
researchers
That's
agree that these
for
lights
any
are not
reason
individual
that
objects,
cannot happen.
The only
but
person
rather
allowed to
belong
taunt
to
is
one
tanks.
large craft. There's
Silly
still
mistakes.
ongoing
Like,
discussions
granted, we did
within
all
these
3 in
groups as to
2
whether
hours, but
V-shaped grass and the
it could have been an
triangle-shaped
hour.
grass are the
But
same. with some amateur researchers saying that V-shaped crafts are more slender and have lights running up the entire craft, while the triangle UFO seems to have 3 distinctive lights which are usually white or red in colour.
Good job, Cookie.
Another question that often comes up is who do these crafts belong to?
Cookie said he is the tank now.
Those who have studied this topic
Bruh,
have said
I
there's
got
an
distracting
argument for
shot,
both
let's go.
sides, with some saying that these
Take
belong
away
to
my
us and they're
5-yard
part
dead
of a
zone, I
top
got
secret
this.
program.
Ooh.
Interestingly,
guys.
black triangles aren't
One wipe of the
anything
whole
new.
night at the very end.
Black triangle
Nobody dies on the
UFOs
hard
are a
mode
type
though.
of craft that have been seen in our
I think
skies for
Xavier
years
said
now.
he has to go.
And
Yeah,
although we have
I
various
just something came
photographs
up,
and
so I gotta
videos
go.
of them, there's still many unanswered questions.
Thank you guys for the raid.
For
GG's.
example,
Yep,
how are they
Xavier.
able to
Later,
travel
Xavier.
at the speeds they do? How are they
Bro,
able
my
to use
tootin' is
camouflage
super
tech?
hot as a human.
And
Thanks,
how can they
Bird.
hover motionless in one
Yeah.
area without making a sound? It's these questions that have led some to think they don't belong to us. After all, we currently
Naga
don't
is,
have any
flagged.
aircrafts that's able to match what these
Oh,
craft
actually,
So
yeah.
it's
Can we
back out.
flag up? Because
These
Who
black
Oh,
triangles
shit,
are
I
hundreds of
flagged.
years more advanced than our current tech. So where did these things come from? And how
I'll
are
be
they
the
able
odd
to
man out
achieve
because I
what
ain't
they
flagging
do?
up.
Everybody PvP, you
At
will
this
flag up or
moment
you won't
in
get hit by a
time, no
chain heal.
military has come forward to claim it's
all
them
flagging?
who's behind these sites.
Yeah, we're all
Flag
flagging.
up, bull.
But most UFO
Flag up on
researchers
Malia's
think these
meta.
black triangles are part of a secret program, and this is their latest
Sam,
creation.
Just type
Sniper,
/
that fucker.
PvP.
However, sightings and encounters have gone
Did we
against
do
Why
the
are
other
you
stuff?
spitting on honey,
saying
by
that
the way?
these
Just because
crafts
I don't
have
want
Somebody
to
been
got
cross my
put
observed
into
in
a
the skies for
PvP mode, I
decades.
guess, coming in, Lana,
In
so
fact,
we all
there's
got a
even
PvP,
photographs
so
of
No,
these
using a
triangles
Serenite
taken
bomb is what
back in
triggers it.
1945,
either or, whatever it calls. We're in
with pilots
PvP,
from
we
these
gotta get
times
everybody
coming forward and
PvP'd
detailing
up.
their strange encounters
How do
with
we do
strange
that?
triangle-shaped
Bfells
crafts.
/ PvP.
Oh,
Not
okay.
only does this mean that these crafts are at least 80 years old, but it also means that if they belong
Okay.
to us, our governments were using advanced tech in a time
Looks
when
like
the rest
Zoom
of the
doesn't
world
know.
had basic
I don't think he's in
aircrafts.
Discord.
How did we have this type of tech during a
And
time when
J-Dubs.
battles were taking place using
They
basic
just said he'd rather drop
airplanes?
in the raid than flag up for PvP for no
As
reason, so
mentioned,
just
it's
start it.
one of
It
the
doesn't matter.
reasons that some UFO
LOL.
researchers believe these crafts don't belong to
It's a
us.
strange thing to take a stand on.
In fact,
It's a
even
weird
military
stand-
officials
weird
have come
stand.
forward in
I
I
detail
don't see
their
any
encounters
alliance in
with
here.
them,
Loading a timer up,
demanding
guys.
an answer for
Don't
what they
care.
encounted.
I'm just gonna go 5
Loud.
Many
seconds.
of these
Get your
eyewitnesses
inhalers and
would
go
say
fuck.
these
No
King.
kings, by the way. Yeah,
craft
no
seemed
kings, no
interested in
kings.
their planes. Then when they tried to get closer, the crafts
get
would
it,
vanish
yeah.
within seconds, easily being much faster than the planes during those times. Interestingly, this led to these objects being given the name of Foo Fighters. As mentioned earlier, commercial airline pilots have also detailed their strange encounters with these large triangular-shaped crafts, with one pilot saying that he was flying above Florida when he saw one of these crafts fly past him at speeds exceeding 4,000 miles per hour. He said that he watched as this thing covered the curvature of the Earth within a matter of seconds. He said that he'd never seen anything so quick in his life. Soldiers are easily some of the bravest people on the planet. They're sent to places that many of us will never visit, and see man-made horrors play out in front of their eyes. Although soldiers have hundreds of stories to tell, some of the most interesting ones are those that
This
detail
part
mysterious creatures.
is to his right.
One
on the right.
interesting account is that of military soldiers that encountered a mysterious being. The story goes that back in 2002,
Sparks
a
coming,
military
guys.
unit encountered a giant being
Got
in
'em.
Kandahar.
Nice.
American
That was a
soldiers
good
were
one.
trekking up a mountainside when they saw signs of a large being. These included things like large
Spark moves right.
footprints. As the soldiers went to investigate the area,
I'm
they
gonna
said they
turn
could
him
hear
this
loud
way.
grunting noises. Shortly after this, the team said they were ambushed by a large humanoid.
Put on the other one.
They reported it was around 13 feet tall and had red hair.
Oh well.
It had 6 fingers in
Yeah,
each
too
hand
many
and was
details,
hostile
man.
towards the military unit.
Yeah.
One of the men unfortunately didn't
Yeah,
make it
it's
as he was pierced by the giant's large
What?
spear.
No such thing as two.
The giant was said to be dressed in animal skins.
Oh no, I'm saying to be
The
not
reason the
stacked.
team was in the area was
We need
because
more
another military
DKs,
unit had
please.
gone missing, and so a rescue mission was
Always.
planned to see what happened and hopefully bring back any survivors. After the soldier got pierced with the spear, it then turned his attention
Alright
to
guys,
the rest of the group.
misdirect to Amazon.
The others quickly fired at the giant, hitting it all over its body. They continued to do this until the giant dropped to its knees. After this, the unit reported it to their superiors, They gave them clear instructions to hide the body and stay near it.
Did that one just fly
Ensuring that
back
no one
up?
nearby saw what they were trying to hide.
D-Res, fat cat.
After this, the
Yeah,
body
you
was
pick up
taken
Fat
to
Cow?
a secure location, and high-up officials told the soldiers that they were never to speak of this again. Another strange encounter is that
There's the other disc. Melee fight for the rest.
according to
You
the
drop 'em
ancient
on,
scriptures seen
Manatee.
throughout the Middle East,
I'm
the jinn are often referred to as
elemental
the
right now.
fire.
I'll spot
They
heal.
seem to be as
Heal
old
for
as
you,
the
buddy.
universe
No.
itself. Scholars have noted that the word jinn most likely comes from the Arabic root word jan, to which roughly translates to mean to hide or
And
to
we're moving.
conceal,
Air touch me. Can you
which
innervate
gives
darkness,
us a
please?
clue as to the nature
Are
of the
you
jinn,
innervated?
which
I thought
often
you was
regarded as
Burgundian
creatures
asking
of
for
whom would attempt to
innervate.
conceal themselves
Alright.
from man. The
Damage
Quran
stabs you
clarifies
faster
that
than me,
the
bro.
existence of the jinn
I never
first
got my
came about
original
during
one
the
sent
act
to
of the
me from
creation
me.
of the universe.
Alright, guys, stack up
And
in.
that the jinn came into existence after being created from a
Drop some
smokeless
chain
fire,
heals for the homies.
similar to that of electricity and much purer energy.
Alright, guys, we move to the right.
These stories, in fact, match that of the
You guys
Jews
should
and
be able to 3 heal this on the Drake phase, but I'll throw spot heals out if needed.
of whom was also crafted from fire, and not that of light similar to other angels. The jinn were then described as being more
Bro, just
accurately
pump.
referred
There's no
to
reason
as the
for you to
people
heal
of the
on
fire,
dragons.
and that
Very
they
good,
would
sir.
exist in a plane that rested slightly above us but still within our world, slightly out of the reach of any natural senses. Additional information as to the origin and spreading of the jinn gets a little hazy, but references are made of the jinn assisting ruthless kings and rulers, and even helping with the building and construction of many cities and places of immense power. Given the fact that the jinn are often described as being unable to be seen or sensed by our natural senses, and constantly attempting to evade detection of all kind,
Run away.
Move to the
it's no
right.
surprise then that the main focus of the power of the jinn circles around its ability to take any form. It's believed that the jinn have the ability to take the form of any animal or person, and that they often use these tactics to get away from someone pursuing them, or to trick loved ones of an individual
right.
into doing something for them. The only way
Group it
for
up, guys.
someone to be certain of whether or not the creature is a jinn is to look into its eyes. According to legends, the jinn's eyes are constantly blazing like a fire, and that they can be seen in the
Move
eyes
to the
of any
right.
form that they take. Jinns also possess supernatural abilities, such as that of possessing an individual to take control of their body, being able to predict the future and being able to perform superhuman feats that are otherwise
Oops, to the right.
unexplainable in the physical world, such as speed, flying, vast intelligence, fluency in any language, and a vast amount of unending skills. Definitely seen as one of the strangest reports of modern day encounters with the jinn was a military encounter seen in Iraq back in June of 2000.
And he's dead.
Love to
I
see
need
all
to
them.
heal them. Let's fucking
Fighters were
go.
stationed at the
Love to
second
see
floor
all
of the
them
police
14
station
stacks.
Do
to
not
assist
open
with
the box.
further attacks against
Well,
the
real
police.
trick to learn.
Keep it real with me. Keep it
This
real
was
with me.
between
Just
the
tell me.
locals and the law enforcement of the city.
Oh shit.
If you have the
Lots of
quest,
people
don't
were
forget your
confused
item.
by the sudden attacks by the police. And so one of the main purposes of the Iraqi army assisting with safety was to uncover the reasons as to why
Oh,
such
the Mark of
disturbances were taking
Norganine.
place.
Good, bro.
Oh,
In
dang.
one of
Those
the
would have been
reports
nice for
taken by
hands
an
me.
drop.
Iraqi military
Let's
squad
go.
stationed for
Wait, Tricky, you
24/7
don't have those yet?
surveillance. They
Oh, wow.
claimed they encountered
Yeah,
several
I do
Congrats.
jinn,
now.
of whom were
Congrats.
watching and patrolling the station.
Way to go, Swifty.
The report details that
Congrats
they
all you
believed
guys
the
that won
individuals
loot.
to be jinn due
If
to
you
the
guys
fact
need
they had
enchants or
glowing red
whatnot,
eyes,
whisper red cherry for your
and
new
seemed
items.
completely unfazed by the
Thank
bright
you,
surveillance lights
BMX.
used
Thank you,
flying past
Bfells, for
mines,
coming in to
of
fill
whom
in when we
attempted
needed.
to get
We
close
appreciate
to
you
the
guys.
station at night.
Gimme.
Shortly
Nage,
after the
thank
report
you.
was filed,
Hope you think things
the
went
whole
well, my
entire
friend.
station was attacked and every
Yeah, thanks for
soldier
having
and
me.
police in the department
catch
passed
up.
away from injuries.
Dude, finally.
It then circulated that the jinn were at the center of the attacks, and the majority of the disturbances were caused by the jinn waging plans of attack. After the report surfaced, the attack stopped, with many locals claiming that the jinn went back into hiding after they were discovered. The military and Bigfoot. The military and Bigfoot seem to have a strange relationship. One of the last places you'd expect to see a Bigfoot would be near a military base. Yet various stories have been told of these ancient creatures getting into these secret locations. And not only that, but shortly after seeing this creature, there appears to be various reports of UFO sightings throughout the area. Oddly enough, according to MUFON or the Mutual UFO Network, It appeared that the third most common sighting of an alien being was that of a Bigfoot. Many people who encountered strange UFO sightings wrote witness reports of saucers landing and a Bigfoot coming out, or encountering a Bigfoot in the forest only for it to disappear like a ghost, and moments later to see a nearby unidentified flying object begin to immediately take off into the sky. These cases also do not include single encounters with the Sasquatch, and only include reports regarding a definitive extraterrestrial account. It's for this reason that Bigfoot might be an extraterrestrial creature, instead of a naturally evolved one. American soldiers have gone on to detail seeing these creatures around bases and while on missions. One of the most famous creatures that resembled a Bigfoot was given the name of rock ape. Referred to by American soldiers as rock apes, consistent reports were made by a wide number of platoons of giant humanoid creatures. One veteran wrote the following report. Serving with the 101st Airborne in the mountains of Vietnam, I saw the rock apes on many occasions. They were as large as a big man and usually were in small groups of 2 or 3 unlike Bigfoot, but were bigger than most men and smaller than Bigfoot. They were spotted on days, but would also set off our trip flares at night. End quote.
Remember the sun well.
A former Canadian Defence Minister, who has said that the world's most powerful people are concealing the presence of aliens, is asking the government to release what they know about UFOs and extraterrestrials. Paul Hellyer has an impressive background. He served as Canada's Defence Minister in the 1960s. He oversaw the drastic changes within the Royal Canadian Navy, Canadian Army and the Royal Canadian Air Force, in which they were eventually turned into a single organisation. It's his recent comments though that have caused him to be featured in the mainstream media. Mr. Hellyer started to make comments on unidentified flying objects around 2015, where he stated that these crafts are just as common as planes, going on to say that aliens have been visiting Earth for many years now, and the reason they started to take an interest in us is because of the atomic bomb. Many UFO researchers have said that when the first atomic weapons were being tested, there was a huge increase in UFO sightings. Mr. Hellyer, along with those who researched the phenomena, explained that when aliens saw what we were doing with atomic bombs, we suddenly became a great threat to the cosmos. In an interview with Russia Today, he said the following. The reason for this was that man was stupid enough to invent the atomic bomb. Aliens are frightened that we're going to use it again and again, and this will affect the whole balance of the cosmos. End quote. Mr. Hellyer suggested that various people who worked for the United States government know what's going on, and even said that when you're put in contact with the correct people, it doesn't take long for you to get the proof. He explained that the documents he's received and the people he's talked to have told him there's between 2 and 12 different alien species. And one of the reasons why people don't know about this is because the majority of them look like us. This is in line with what people have said in the past. In fact, according to the Mutual UFO Network, the second most commonly reported alien is nearly completely identical to human beings in almost every way, except for a few key differences. Referred to by MUFON as the Nordic alien species, the Nordic aliens are reportedly aliens that have long blonde hair, so blonde that it's commonly mistaken as being white, pale skin, deep blue eyes, and stand between 6 to 7 feet tall. The first ever reported encounter with the Nordic aliens was made back during the 1950s by a man named George Adamski, of whom would later go on to be one of the most famous ufologists, and finish a book titled Flying Saucers Have Landed, and inside the spaceships, that would feature in-depth descriptions of his encounters throughout the 1950s. Many of those that have claimed to have encountered the Nordic aliens, or have been abducted by the species, claim that the Nordic aliens possess advanced telepathic abilities, able to communicate entire concepts and emotions with their abductees and instill them with a tremendous amount of new information. Although many claim that the species is benevolent in nature, with some claiming that the Nordic aliens are preparing to save the human race for abduction in the event of a world-changing catastrophe. There appears to be a number of doomsday cults that worship the Nordic aliens in sinister ways. Hellier's main message though is that these aliens have the knowledge to change our planet, and that when the time comes he thinks they will step in and make the world greener. He said that higher-up officials told him this has to be done in the right way, otherwise people won't get on board, saying that information occasionally gets leaked to the public, and this is in order to get them accustomed to the idea. Many members of the alien community have speculated that perhaps the main cause for the government's continued overall lack of transparency regarding the existence of extraterrestrial visitors is due to an old report provided by the Central Intelligence Agency's Psychological Strategy Board that concluded that the public's potential reaction to unidentified flying objects could be constituted as a threat to national security. Interestingly, this appears to not be the case in recent years. The 1950s was a long time ago, and since then the idea of extraterrestrial visitation has been welcomed with open arms by the public, and the normalizations of such alien imagery via science fiction movies, popular comics and worldwide media has played a tremendous role in this explosion of extraterrestrial fascination. Given recent findings by programs such as the Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program, it's said that the very existence of the unidentified flying objects is already a national security threat. This has caused some to be torn, saying that if these objects were really a threat then surely they would have done something by now. These talking points make for interesting discussions, but unfortunately as of right now many don't buy the idea that aliens are walking among us. Scientists, researchers and organisations like NASA have said we've never found proof of alien life. The UFO community on the other hand believes that we've been visited, and that sometime in the near future the truth will come out, saying that why would our governments open various UFO programs and spend billions if they didn't exist? They say that there must be something going on for them to justify spending all this time and money. Interestingly, it was also announced that when the President signed the $2.3 trillion relief and government funding bill back in December, it also started the ball rolling on something else. As of that date, US intelligence agencies have just 180 days to release everything they know about UFOs, a subject that has been featured in the mainstream media in recent months. The Director of National Intelligence and Secretary are said to have been put on the spot, and will now have to reveal everything they know about these unidentified crafts. There's an unending amount of mystery surrounding our oceans. As of 2018, the Ocean Service has said that over 80% of our ocean is unexplored. Although many have said that space is one of the last unexplored frontiers, the argument could be made that our oceans also make that list. After all, we've done a great job at mapping hard-to-reach regions on our planet, but haven't managed to research certain regions of our oceans. This has caused amateur researchers to use apps such as Google Earth in the hopes of finding something of interest. Every year people manage to capture strange photographs, leaving those who see them confused and wanting answers. Although the majority of these eventually get answers, there's a fair amount that remain a mystery. This interesting photo was recently shared to Facebook, and it shows a large structure that could be seen via Google Earth. However, the person who discovered it couldn't explain what they were looking at. At first they thought the pattern may have been caused by something like a trawler boat, but it wasn't until they zoomed out they realised how big these lines were. The man said the following in his post: "I was having a look through Google Earth recently and noticed this strange pattern off the coast of Antarctica. It stood out to me because it didn't look like any of the natural features that were nearby. Something that surprised me as well is that I hardly had to zoom in to see this thing. I did a measurement and the structure is over 285 kilometers in length. I showed one of my friends who fishes and he said it doesn't match typical trawler patterns. I'm not someone who normally looks for this kind of stuff, but I found the image interesting and thought I'd share it. I'm hoping that someone can help me figure out what this thing is." End quote. This isn't the first time that these large structures have been discovered on Google Earth, and in the majority of cases they do turn out to be things such as trawler bones. However, when we compare these lines to those created by trawlers, there's a big difference. Those who saw the images noted that trawler ships typically leave behind wavy lines, as opposed to these straight parallel lines. Another person said that whatever this thing is, it appears to have some symmetry to it, and you don't usually see features like this in nature. They went on to note that after viewing the images you can also see sharp turns and edges. This person said the following: "The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration may have been carrying out work in the area. Whatever this thing is though, it's very big." End quote. Others compared this to a similar grid-like pattern that was discovered off the coast of Cyprus. Back in 2011, an interesting post was made by a user that noticed strange and unusual ocean floor grid patterns. This grid pattern appeared to span 60 miles in width and 65 miles in length, and had numerous different right angles all across its formation. The post then goes on for several more paragraphs talking about how the carvings all throughout the area appear to be artificially created, with what is described as being similar to those of paved streets, walkways and a number of smaller squares all throughout the region, that also seem to have 90-degree angle turns, and look like modern-day property lots. However, after years of people speculating that this could have been an ancient civilization among other things, Google wiped the images from its database and said it was nothing of interest, and that it had been created due to overlapping datasheets, and those who suggested it was Atlantis were looking too deep into this. As mentioned, this isn't the first time that a strange discovery like this has been made. One idea that's been put forward is that these structures could actually be part of an underwater base. Underwater bases sounds like the work of fiction or something you'd hear in a movie, but the reality is there's many secret bases scattered across our planet, some of which the everyday public don't know about. Some amateur researchers have even said it's likely that governments do have underwater bases, and that this wouldn't be out of the scope due to the advantages they have. For example, recently there's been images captured of a Chinese submarine departing an underwater base, which revealed that the idea of underwater bases is very much a reality, and caused some to say that if China's done it, it's likely that other countries have too, or will follow in their footsteps. Then there's those people that suggest that underwater bases aren't built for or used by us, but rather they're being used by an advanced race that call this planet home. One of the most interesting underwater discoveries is that of the Malibu underwater base. This anomaly started to make headlines when it was first discovered, and that's because people labelled it as an underwater alien base, and this is one of those cases where you can understand why. At first glance, the object does look to resemble that of a building, with what appears to be large pillars holding up the bulk of the object. The discovery was made 6 miles off the coast of Point Dume in Malibu, California. The object pretty much sits on the seabed, looks to be oval in shape and is pretty large. Google Earth images revealed that this object is in fact massive, measuring in at around 3 miles in length, having what appears to be pillars and even a large entrance. It's not hard to imagine why various theories have been put forward to try and explain it. According to various websites that look into UFOs, they suggest the massive structure is a UFO or a USO base. Many people have heard of unidentified flying objects, but many may not be aware of unidentified submerged objects. These are unidentified flying objects that are seen in and around oceans, with some people even claiming that they've seen these crafts enter the water without making a splash. It's not just random people who have reported seeing these crafts either. People in the military have seen these large crafts enter the water without making a sound, and even reported them staying under the water for several hours. It's these types of reports that have caused some to think that there's bases under our oceans, and that perhaps they could be part of something much bigger. However, not everyone agrees with the idea that this is linked to USOs, with David Schwarzkopf of the US Geological Survey coming forward and saying the following: "I didn't see anything special about it. I think it's because it looks like there's a flat surface, and then below it looks like there's these vertical columns. So somebody can say, oh look, it's the entrance to something special. There's no flag under the water that says I'm an entrance to an alien base. There's nothing unnatural looking about it. It's just showing some sort of variation in the offshore coastal morphology." End quote. Bringing animals back to life will always be a controversial topic. Those in favour will say it gives us a chance to study them and understand what life would have been like thousands of years ago, while others say we should just let them rest and that there's a reason they were wiped out in the first place. Russian scientists went with the first option, and a few years back it was announced that these worms had not only returned back to life, but started to feed and multiply rapidly. The news then got shared recently on various websites, and due to everything that's happened it got people worried. The event was described by scientists as being truly revolutionary, and saying that they thought this would never happen. The team are now working on trying to understand how these worms were able to do what they did. One of the first websites to feature the news that the Russian scientists had thought roundworms was back in 2018, and although people have voiced their concerns, the scientists have said it's one of the greatest discoveries they've made. These roundworms have been under scientific supervision the whole time, with the team saying that the discovery is nothing short of a revolution in the field of cryobiosis. Cryobiosis happens when water around the creature becomes frozen, and in turn causes that animal to become frozen. Once temperatures return to normal, the creature will continue to live on. What's interesting about this discovery is that scientists weren't even looking for roundworms at the time they were found. Things like bacteria and single-celled organisms have been known to survive much longer in similar conditions, but the team have said what's so special about this is that these roundworms are multicellular organisms, and no one thought these worms could have been resurrected after such a long time. One of the team members, Sachlovich, said the following: "We hadn't obtained multicellular animals that had survived cryobiosis on a geological timescale before. It was just a happy coincidence that we got 2 live nematodes in 2 soil samples at once, but even their existing record for survival in suspended animation was only around 30 to 40 years. End quote. Even when the soil samples were sent off, the worms weren't initially seen. The scientists at the lab placed them on a petri dish and started to observe them for the next 72 hours. One of the researchers said the following: "We spotted the worms only when they started moving. That was around 10 to 14 days after unfreezing. They probably came to life even earlier." End quote. Non-believers soon started to put forward other theories like these were modern-day worms, and not ancient worms as described. But these rumours were soon put to rest as these samples were taken from specific regions, and these were near rivers that were able to be dated back 42,000 years. Also, they were collected from the ground using a drill, with the scientists noting that the drill had been sterilised before use. The team said that the first sample that was brought up ended up being over 32,000 years old, with the second being even older, saying that after tests were conducted this one was 42,000 years old. Both of these roundworms were identified as female. Statlovich said the following about the creatures: "A single-celled organism can survive due to its adaptive properties. For example, the ability to form various stages of dormancy, spores or cysts, but a multicellular organism has a more complex structure. Although nematodes are also known to have a dormant stage, during prolonged hibernation damage to DNA and cell membranes can occur, and can accumulate in the cells. Toxins can be produced that should either destroy the organism, or be repaired during the suspended animation or after defrosting. Somehow these worms manage to survive. It's a most curious enigma. End quote. When she was asked about the safety of these and whether we should be bringing ancient creatures back to life, she said the following. As a result of the ongoing thawing of the permafrost, organisms preserved in it find their way back into the modern ecosystem every year. It's a natural process. We simply follow nature and do nothing that doesn't happen in the natural environment. End quote. Some people voiced their concern about this though, with one person saying the following. With everything that's recently happened, do we really need to be doing stuff like this? I understand it's impressive, but is this really the best time? End quote. While another person said this. We understand how cool and powerful Mother Nature is. We lived through it recently. We really don't need to be bringing things back to life that lived on this planet tens of thousands of years ago. End quote. Well, this person simply said, do you want Jurassic Park? Because this is how you get Jurassic Park. I have a bad feeling about this. End quote. It seems that this isn't the only thing that Russian scientists are working on. A few years back it was announced by a team of researchers in Russia along with South Korea that they've been working on bringing back prehistoric creatures. The scientists are currently carrying out research in a lab that costs $5.9 million. The scientists hope to study animals that were once extinct from the living cells, saying that they want to be able to move on to restore the creatures. Some of the animals they are studying include the cave lion, woolly mammoth, woolly rhino and species of horses that went extinct. Scientists from Harvard and Russia have already delved into mixing genes to bring back species that were extinct, and they've said they want to put woolly mammoth genes into an Asian elephant, and they plan to do this by 2021. Some have suggested this could be the start of something huge, with people putting forward the idea that we will eventually have many extinct species roaming our planet once again. Despite the countless skeptics and claims against the alien awareness movement, a massive amount of witness accounts and substantial scientific evidence has come forward over the years surrounding the existence of extraterrestrial life and the proof surrounding their visitations of our planet. Terrell Copeland's story is one that's fascinated many. The former US Marine is from Virginia and details he's had several UFO encounters, going on to say that one of these crafts even abducted him. The US Marine story is often brought up because believers say it's hard to dismiss. In 2009, he and 1,500 people held a secret meeting in a small New England town. The meeting was attended by those who were interested to learn about UFOs and aliens. In the meeting, Copeland opened up and revealed that back in 2005, he witnessed a mysterious triangular craft in the sky, saying that it was hovering above a shopping centre. It's important to note that the triangular shaped craft is somewhat of a mystery. There's some believers that think that this craft belongs to our military, while others say that due to how fast it can fly and due to how long it's been seen on our planet, it doesn't belong to us. The second encounter happened 2 years later in 2007, in which he said he was able to capture this one from his apartment building. He said the following: "It was an orb of light, just a big ball of light. It wasn't moving. One was solid white, the other was directly across the street, around 300 feet from the ground, and was changing colours very rapidly." End quote. After this, he published the video online and was interested to see what people thought of it. Not long after posting the video, he reported that he had a knock at the door. When he opened it, he said there was a mysterious man standing there, and when he asked who he was, the man replied that he was a military contractor and wanted to talk to him about his recent sighting. One of the questions the man asked was the following: "Do you believe the US government is in contact with otherworldly beings?" End quote. However, this was only the beginning, as after these encounters he would go on to experience lost time, sleep paralysis and even abductions. he details that back in 2006 he was abducted by a large craft, and when he came around he could see there was a woman in front of him, who didn't quite look human, noting that she had human features, but that she also had large black eyes and an elongated skull. This experience didn't seem to affect him too much, and he even had an open mind about the whole encounter, saying the following: "I just want to be a better person, because if I feel someone from above took notice of me, then maybe I'm doing something right, and maybe if I'm doing something right, maybe I can do better." End quote. Some UFO believers took this further and suggested that he may be part alien, and that the woman he saw could have been related to him in some way. He responded with the following: "That's heavy. It's not surprising to me though. After all that's happened these last couple of years, it could be true." End quote. Many are interested in the mysterious individual that knocked on his door, and go on to say it's likely he was visited by the mysterious Men in Black. Researchers have said it's more than obvious at this point that not only is there a secret agency working around the clock to suppress any information regarding extraterrestrial life, but this secret agency also works to intimidate, threaten, discredit, or even attack people in the alien community who happen to stumble upon damning evidence, or have spent their lives trying to expose the truth. This secret agency, be it an agency that works with the government or above them, has come to be known around the world as the Hidden Men in Black, that will stop at no means to prevent the truth from leaking out into the public mind. Many skeptics will claim that supposed figures are nothing more than the paranoid manifestations of theorists who try to validate their work, but the people who are truly in the know are well aware of the vast amount of evidence of such encounters with the Men in Black. Alien abductions interest many of us. There's a handful of interesting cases that have come to light in recent years, and although scientists and researchers have tried to explain them away as things like sleep paralysis, others have said this phenomenon should be taken more seriously. Another interesting case is that of Judy Doherty. An often recurring theme of extraterrestrial abduction stories is that many alien abductees are unaware of being victims of an abduction, until hypnosis allows them to unlock repressed memories, seemingly locked away from their conscious minds. This also appears to be the case with the witness account of Judy Doherty. According to Judy's case, back in 1973, 4 witnesses were travelling home to Texas City when they encountered a strange light that was described as hovering in the night sky. The 4 witnesses, Judy, her daughter Cindy, Judy's mother and Judy's sister-in-law, all got out of the car to get a better look at the craft. Suddenly, a period of time passed and the light moved away and disappeared into the distance. Following the event, Judy began complaining of severe migraine headaches, generalized anxiety and trouble sleeping following the encounter. After visiting a handful of doctors, all of whom believed that the symptoms were most likely physical manifestations of stress, Judy visited with Dr. Leo Sprinkle, a well-known ufologist and trained hypnotist, to help alleviate her stress. Once under hypnosis, Judy began to uncover repressed memories of an alien abduction that took place during the sighting that the 4 witnesses made only several weeks prior. According to Judy, and later corroborated by her daughter after undergoing hypnosis therapy, the 4 women were taken aboard the craft and witnessed 2 small alien entities cut apart a cow and watch them remove its organs. After this, the daughter was then placed on an operating table, as the aliens began taking a variety of samples from her. However, Judy nor the daughter go into details by what they mean by this. Once the hypnosis therapy was finished, Judy's symptoms cleared up almost immediately. In April of 1986, in the then Soviet-controlled Ukraine, a nuclear disaster demonstrated to the world the effects of nuclear power outside of military applications. The Chernobyl incident was the malfunction of a nuclear reactor at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, known as Reactor Number 4, Located 12 miles south of the border of Belarus and 81 miles north of the city of Kiev, Ukraine. The disaster caused 400 times more radioactive material released into the atmosphere compared to the radioactive material released by the bombings at Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. This led to the mass evacuation of the region, as well as one of the most important responses by the world's governments, in an attempt to help secure and contain the area from further radioactive bombardment. After the dust had settled, all that remained were the remnants of an era lost to time, frozen in place. Even to this day there are restrictions on where you can visit, with most of the areas around Chernobyl being out of bounds. Incredibly, decades later, various stories have been told about mysterious creatures seen in and around the area. One of the most interesting stories is that of the Blackbird of Chernobyl. After the encounters witnessed in the town of Point Pleasant back in 1966 to 1967, the Mothman would not return for another couple of decades, in which reported sightings of the creature were seen throughout the Soviet Union, but concentrated around the town of Pripyat and at the Chernobyl power plant. There were an overwhelming number of reports in the region, and even witness accounts for those that worked at the power plants that appeared to be bothered by the appearance of the creature. According to the residents of the town of Pripyat, there were a number of reports and claims of a mysterious winged creature often seen flying over the town late at night, and this was on a variety of different occasions. However, in the case of the workers at the Chernobyl power plant, there appear to be much more alarming reports that were provided. In the months shortly following the Chernobyl incident on the 26th of April back in 1986, the workers at the plant noticed the same creature reported throughout the town of Pripyat hovering above the plant, and sometimes even resting on the larger towers and areas of construction. What grew more perplexing for the workers were the reported instances of which people claimed to have experienced harrowing nightmares, and these always involved a creature that would manifest into threatening phone calls of the creature calling them all throughout the night. Many residents of Pripyat and workers at the Chernobyl power plant often describe the creature as resembling the shape of a man, with wings and glowing red eyes. This creature would later be referred to as the Blackbird of Chernobyl, and similar to the cases of Point Pleasant, would cease to exist in the region shortly after the Chernobyl incident. The Chernobyl incident is known worldwide as one of the largest tragedies, and potentially the most environmentally damaging of its time. Although it appeared that the governments of the world were already prepared when it occurred, the event still saw more than 50,000 square miles of land contaminated with radioactive fallout, and being made completely unusable for the foreseeable future. The site of the town of Pripyat and Chernobyl will not be habitable for another 20,000 years. It could very well be that the Mothman was warning us of an impending doom that could have left a much larger amount of land completely uninhabitable for much longer. It's not just this creature that residents couldn't explain. In the wake of the events that unfolded, various residents and workers would go into detail that they saw mysterious unidentified flying objects, and these could be seen hovering above the power plant. Those who have looked into these cases have said that UFOs seem to have an interest in our missiles, and other highly sensitive areas not accessible by the general public. These unidentified crafts seem to be able to make their way into secure airspaces without being detected, and then suddenly disappear before military planes can get in and investigate. Mikhail Varasky, who was working for the Radiation Control Department, said that on the same day as the disaster he and several other colleagues would witness a mysterious craft hovering above reactor number 4, almost as if inspecting it. His story isn't very well known, but he details his encounter with UFOs guests from the future. He said the following: "We saw a ball of fire, and it was slowly flying in the sky. I think the ball was 6 or 8 meters in diameter. Then we saw 2 rays of crimson light stretching towards the 4th unit. The object was some 300 meters from the reactor. The event lasted for around 3 minutes. The lights of the object went out and it flew away in the northwestern direction." End quote. Incredibly, he goes on to detail that the radiation levels in the area dropped, going on to say the following. The UFO brought the radiation levels down. The level was decreased almost 4 times. This probably prevented a nuclear blast. End quote. This has caused UFO researchers to suggest that this craft was actually trying to help us. Various military personnel have come forward and said that when tests are being carried out, it's not uncommon to see UFOs in the region, going on to say that it's almost like they're watching what we're doing. Another thing that people have allegedly seen in and around reactor number 4 is that of shadow people. Shadow people are defined as supernatural shadow-like humanoid figures that, according to believers, are seen flickering on walls and ceilings in the viewer's peripheral vision. Shadow people are said to be entities of the underworld, but those who have experienced them have said they're not sure whether they're evil, helpful, or just there. Scientists have tried to offer other explanations for the phenomena. For example, some researchers conclude that seeing shadow figures are simply symptoms of sleep paralysis or deprivation, and others have noted that those taking medicine are more likely to experience these sorts of hallucinations. Alternatively, they can simply be the mind playing tricks on somebody who's experienced a heightened sense of alert. For example, when you're walking down a dark alley at night. However, some people are convinced that shadow people are actually apparitions of those that have passed on. They think that the reason they're in shadow form is because we on Earth can't clearly see them, and therefore find it hard to see these figures. Others have suggested that these entities are often seen in places that have seen hard times. The Chernobyl incident affected many people, and some researchers have said that some of these people may not have moved on from this area, and can still be seen wandering the region looking for answers. Bigfoot is one of the most interesting cryptids out there, perhaps because it's the one cryptid that most resembles us. For years now, people have been coming forward with their encounters with these elusive creatures, being able to provide photographic evidence along with casts of footprints. However, it's also known for causing interesting discussions. Some think that the humanoid exists in small groups, while others have said it's not possible that such a large humanoid could exist in our world without being seen more frequently. They point to the fact there would need to be a large group of them to survive, and if this was the case they'd be seen a lot more often. Others, however, disagree with this notion, and have said that for thousands of years man has been encountering these giants, with reports coming from Tibet, America, and even Australia. However, some people take it a step further, and claim that they've managed to interact with these creatures. One of these is a 70-year-old woman, who's detailed that she's been communicating with and raising a Bigfoot for almost a decade. Her incredible story details that she's raised the baby Bigfoot since it was young, and that she's even managed to teach it a few words. The woman said she can back up her story with photographs and videos, but as of right now has decided not to release these. She first encountered the Bigfoot back in 1964 in a swamp in Louisiana, saying that the creature was weak and only weighed roughly 20 pounds. She then thought that if she didn't do anything the creature might pass away. Wanting to avoid this, she took the baby Bigfoot home and started to raise it. When she got home she fed the Bigfoot, saying that its favourite food was eggs, tomatoes and goat's milk. After a couple of meals and getting the creature back on its feet, she said she released it back into the wild where it belonged. However, every time she did this she said it refused to leave, and would always find its way back to her. Over the next 8 years, she continued to raise and feed the animal, but said when it reached adulthood she moved away. In 1974 she moved into a nearby town, and said she had to leave the creatures behind, something she said wasn't easy. She said the following about the whole experience. He was so little and so cute. I had to do something about it. He was so defenseless, lying next to the mud and water curled up crying like a baby. His parents either passed away or had abandoned him, He brought a friend home with him. At first the other guy was shy, hiding behind the bushes, but little by little he began to trust me. So there we were sitting on my porch, two Bigfoots and I having dinner under the moon. Bigfoots are real and they happen to be excellent creatures, docile and better than most people, and by the way they don't smell bad like some people say. I've given you a story, tell it, that's all I want. Only another person besides you knows my secret now, and that's my friend Maggie. It's an interesting story, but as with most of these, certain questions will be put forward. You have to provide evidence when it comes to these sorts of claims, as although they make for great stories, we need to see evidence to back up what's being said. However, even some people within the science community have come forward and said that we shouldn't dismiss these sightings. One question that's been put forward is, does forensic science back up Bigfoot claims? Jeff Meldrum, professor of autonomy and anthropology at the Idaho State University, have said he thinks it does, and who better to believe than an expert in the evolutionary morphology, that is the study of how primates adapted to bipedalism. In his research, Meldrum studies footprints to determine how humans have evolved for upright walking. He studies samples from Africa, as well as other places all around the world. Meldrum attributes his interest in Bigfoot to a track he discovered in southeastern Washington. It was here he says he found a fresh track, so fresh he could see the skin ridges in detail. The print was at least 14 inches long. That first sighting was over 20 years ago. Since then, Meldrum has studied over 300 footprints, as well as hundreds of photos of Bigfoot. When describing these cars, Meldrum said the feet are broader and flatter than humans. He also noted the lack of an arch and thumb-like big toe that would be similar to an ape's. Instead, there was a big toe more like a human's. The toes were longer, presumably to help navigate the uneven terrain. Furthermore, based on the imprint, Meldrum believed the prints couldn't have been manufactured as some have said. The print is pressed into the ground in such a way that it shows flexibility. He noted that these prints are usually adapted to allow large primates to walk on two legs. To Meldrum, this evidence is proof that Bigfoot may exist, and it would be ridiculous to simply discount his evidence. Meldrum doesn't simply believe in Bigfoot, he is certain the creatures exist. Other researchers have pointed out that large humanoid creatures have been reported for at least the last 10,000 years, saying that ancient man has detailed their encounter with what they say are large humans. Going back, old tales in Australia said the Yowie were the original inhabitants of the Australian continent, but were completely driven out of their native lands by the men that came there to settle. However, every so often eyewitness accounts come from Australia, detailing that they've seen what looks like a Bigfoot creature. Going down the Yowie rabbit hole leads to further theories, from Australian government officials covering up further evidence, to Yowies being involved in many of the extraterrestrial and unidentified flying object sightings all around Australia. There's even subgroups of the Yowie community that defend the idea that Yowie might be an alien species, and that the Bigfoot monsters and variations could all be extraterrestrial species. The Yowie creature is commonly encountered in Queensland, with many of the eyewitnesses saying this creature is unlike anything they've seen before. The Lockheed Martin SR-72, also nicknamed the Son of Blackbird, is an American hypersonic aircraft currently under construction. It's the successor to the SR-71 Blackbird, a plane that was able to reach speeds of 3,529 km per hour, or 2,200 miles per hour, and heights of 85,000 feet. The most recent news is that this craft will be around 60 feet in length. What's mind-blowing is when you consider that the hypersonic technology of Vehicle 2, which is an experimental glide aircraft, is capable of hitting Mach 17, which is 13,000 miles per hour. To put that into perspective, the Eurofighter Typhoon, one of the world's most impressive combat aircrafts, can do 2,495 kilometers per hour, or 1,550 miles per hour. So knowing that they have this tech, the SR-72 is expected to reach speeds of over 14,500 miles per hour, 12,000 miles per hour faster than the Eurofighter Typhoon. Lockheed Martin's SR-72 could be ready within the next few years, with whispers of it being scheduled for first flight around 2023. However, there's some that have said that one's already been spotted by satellite. Google Earth images have started to be shared around again, showing what appears to be a futuristic looking aircraft. Not much information could be gathered from the image alone, but that didn't stop users from sharing their theories. One of the first people to share the image was that of Secure Team 10, and since then it's been shared on various UFO groups, where users have debated what this thing is. One person said the following: "This object definitely looks futuristic. However, I doubt that a supersonic aircraft would be left out in the open. The image is genuine, but perhaps it's something else." End quote. While another person said this: "To me it kind of looks like a speedboat. The shape and size of it gives off the illusion that it's actually an aircraft, when in my opinion it isn't. I think I remember someone saying that close by is a lake, so perhaps it's just someone's boat." End quote. Another person said the following: "After looking at these photographs for hours, I've come to the conclusion that this is not the SR-72 or a hypersonic aircraft at all. I saw someone else comment something similar, and I think that what we're looking at is a test piece they use for calibrating radars. If you go by Lockheed Martin's word, then this hypersonic plane hasn't been developed yet, and would they really leave this craft out in the open for everyone to see? It certainly wouldn't be parked up like this." End quote. Someone even suggested that this craft was between 4 and 10 meters in length, and could be an F-35 RC model. Although this may be the case, these projects are a reality, with Lockheed Martin officials saying that they are working on advanced development aircraft programs. The SR-72 aircraft will be the most impressive aircraft on the planet, having state-of-the-art hypersonic technology. Some websites are even reporting that the SR-72 will be able to strike targets anywhere in less than an hour. This 14,500 miles per hour aircraft will be an optionally piloted flight research vehicle, meaning that it will be able to fly without a pilot. Lockheed Martin Executive Vice President and Skunk Works General Manager Rob Weiss said the following to Aviation Week: "We've been saying that hypersonics are 2 years away for the last 20 years, but all I can say is that the technology is mature, and we, along with DARPA and the services, are working hard to get that capability into the hands of our warfighters, and we're looking to do this as soon as possible." End quote. DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, said the following on their website: "DARPA's Falcon Hypersonic Technology Vehicle 2 HTV-2 program is a multi-year research and development effort to increase the technical knowledge base and advance critical technologies to make long-duration hypersonic flight a reality. Data from the program informs policy, acquisition and operation decisions for future Department of Defense conventional prompt global strike programs. Hypersonic data is collected through extensive modeling and simulation, wind tunnel testing and 2 experimental flight tests. The ultimate goal is a capability that can reach anywhere in the world in less than an hour. Falcon HTV-2 is an unmanned rocket-launched maneuverable aircraft that glides through the Earth's atmosphere at incredibly fast speeds, Mach 20, which is approximately 13,000 miles per hour. At HTV-2 speeds, flight time between New York City and Los Angeles would be less than 12 minutes. The HTV-2 vehicle is a data truck, with numerous sensors that collect data in an uncertain operating envelope. End quote. Although this sounds impressive, we mentioned in a previous video that people have been seeing this craft for a while now, and it's caused eyewitnesses to say that this technology has been around for decades. One notable craft is that of the mysterious Black Triangle, a craft that's been seen displaying extremely fast speeds, much faster than those of jets. These Black Triangles are associated with unidentified crafts, and this is because of what they've been observed doing. The Black Triangles don't appear to make any sound, are able to hover motionless and close to the ground, are said to be much faster than any aircraft ever witnessed, and don't leave behind contrails. Pilots have even come forward with their encounters with these mysterious Black Triangles. One of the problems with this aircraft is that we know it exists. Every year thousands of people see these mysterious crafts in the sky. Various questions remain though. How are these crafts able to hover motionless in the sky without making a sound? How can they go from a standstill to thousands of miles per hour within a few seconds?
Alright, so last video I was kind of bummed out that they didn't have Mario 64. So a lot of people have been telling me to look for Super Mario 64. So let me check that out and let's see if it'll, hopefully it has it. Wow. Alright, well it has a Super Mario 64 Japan version and Super Mario 64 USA. Is it gonna work? Oh boy, it has Super Mario 64. Also has like 4 save files you could have games saved on here. Thank you everyone that's told me to look for Super Mario because I was really bummed out they didn't have it, and they have it. Pretty decent graphics too. Alright, so last video I was kind of bummed out that they didn't have Mario 64. So a lot of people have been telling me to look for...
Oh, can I tell you something that might blow your mind?
No. Sure.
Is that allowed? I don't know. So let's put water in the pipes. Now, pipes have a certain strength.
Right.
Copper pipes, they're rigid, okay?
I grew up around breaking pipes.
But, okay, so now watch.
Massachusetts.
So the water's in there, and now the temperature begins to drop. The water wants to turn to ice, but it can't because the pipe is containing it. So it just sits there at 32 degrees as water, even though the temperature outside is dropping below 32 degrees. And it still sits there, gets to 30 degrees, 29. The pipe is squeezing the attempt of this water to become ice. And the act of squeezing it prevents the temperature from dropping. It gets to 25 degrees. The pipe is still holding on to the liquid water. And it's still 32 degrees inside there. And this keeps happening. It keeps happening. You get a point where the pipe can no longer contain the water. And the water freezes. spontaneously. It just goes right down to that temperature and the pipe is helpless. Oh, can I tell you something that might blow your mind?
No. Sure.
Is that allowed? I don't know. So let's put water in the pipes. Now, pipes have a certain strength.
Right.
Copper pipes, they're rigid, okay?
I grew up around breaking pipes.
But, okay, so now watch.
Massachusetts.
So the water's in there, and now the temperature begins to drop. The water wants to turn to ice, but it can't because the pipe is containing it. So it just sits there at 32 degrees as water, even though the temperature outside is dropping below 32 degrees. And it still sits there, gets to 30 degrees, 29. The pipe is squeezing the attempt of this water to become ice. And the act of squeezing it prevents the temperature from dropping. It gets to 25 degrees. The pipe is still holding on to the liquid water. And it's still 32 degrees inside there. And it keeps happening. It keeps happening. You get a point where the pipe can no longer contain the water. And the water freezes spontaneously. It just goes right down to that temperature and the pipe is helpless. Oh, can I tell you something that might blow your mind?
No. Sure.
Is that allowed? I don't know. So let's put water in the pipes. Now, pipes have a certain strength.
Right.
Copper pipes, they're rigid, okay?
I grew up around breaking pipes.
But, okay, so now watch.
Massachusetts.
So the water's in there, and now the temperature begins to drop. The water wants to turn to ice, but it can't because the pipe is containing it. So it just sits there at 32 degrees as water, even though the temperature outside is dropping below 32 degrees. And it still sits there, gets to 30 degrees, 29. The pipe is squeezing the attempt of this water to become ice. And the act of squeezing it prevents the temperature from dropping. It gets to 25 degrees. The pipe is still holding on to the liquid water. And it's still 32 degrees inside there. And it keeps happening. It keeps happening. You get a point where the pipe can no longer contain the water. And the water freezes spontaneously. It just goes right down to that temperature and the pipe is helpless. Oh, can I tell you something that might blow your mind?
No. Sure.
Is that allowed? I don't know. So let's put water in the pipes. Now, pipes have a certain strength.
Right.
Copper pipes, they're rigid.
This man's patience has patience.
What if someone's getting angry about your drive?
You can't let it get to you. For example, in 1996, some guy gave me the middle finger after I cut him off. I recognized him from TV. That's when I decided to become a defensive driving instructor, developing the skills I needed to eventually be invited on his show as an expert. Now, once you're there, it's just a simple matter of switching out his muffins with the ones you made yourself. Those muffins were pretty good, weren't they, Jim? How many did you eat?
What? How many did you eat?
Thank you so much for sharing your tips, Danny.
Danny is not my true name.
This man's patience has patience.
What if someone's getting angry about your drive?
You can't let it get to you. For example, in 1996, some guy gave me the middle finger after I cut him off. I recognized him from TV. That's when I decided to become a defensive driving instructor, developing the skills I needed to eventually be invited on his show as an expert. Now, once you're there, it's just a simple matter of switching out his muffins with the ones you made yourself. Those muffins were pretty good, weren't they, Jim? How many did you eat?
What? How many did you eat?
Thank you so much for sharing your tips, Danny.
Danny is not my true name.
This man's patience has patience.
What if someone's getting angry about your drive?
The scariest thing I saw, one night I was taking a dump. Number one, you just pee in the pool. If you have to go number two, you just take your mask and your fins, and you need to go down maybe 10, 15 feet. And there's what we call the gazebo, which is just a little dome that has air inside. Just some valves, you let in some fresh air. You just take off your trunks and you just let it rip. But the problem is the fish get accustomed to this. As soon as you drop in the water at night, it's like the dinner bell going off, because this is feeding time.
And so you feel them like pecking at the back door?
The worst are the angelfish. That shape, they can get like right up in there.
Oh,
it's like not cool.
boy.
And you think about all the things that could be down there. Can't help but going through your head, so it's kind of freaky. When you finish, put your mask back on, and I opened my eyes in the darkness with my flashlight, and I saw right in front of me this huge eyeball about the size of a saucer, unblinking right at me. I just tore off the habitat. I surface, I'm screaming, and my crew come running and think I've been bit by a shark or something. And I'm like, giant fish! And
What was it?
It was a Goliath grouper.
They're enormous.
Size of a cow. The scariest thing I saw, one night I was taking a dump. Number one, you just pee in the pool. If you have to go number two, you just take your mask and your fins, and then you go down maybe 10, 15 feet, and there's what we call the gazebo, which is just a little dome that has air inside. Just some valves, you let in some fresh air. You just take off your trunks and you just let it rip. But the problem is the fish get accustomed to this. As soon as you drop in the water at night, it's like the dinner bell going off, because this is feeding time.
And so you feel them like pecking at the back door?
The worst are the angelfish. That shape, they can get like right up in there.
Oh,
it's like not cool.
boy.
And you think about all the things that could be down there. Can't help but going through your head, so it's kind of freaky. When you finish, put your mask back on, and I opened my eyes in the darkness with my flashlight, and I saw right in front of me this huge eyeball about the size of a saucer, unblinking right at me. I just tore off for the habitat. I surface, I'm screaming, and my crew come running and think I've been bit by a shark or something. And I'm like, giant fish! And
What was it?
It was a Goliath grouper.
They're enormous.
Size of a cow. The scariest thing I saw, one night I was taking a dump. Number one, you just pee in the pool. If you have to go number two, you just take your mask and your fins, and then you go down maybe 10, 15 feet, and there's what we call the gazebo, which is just a little dome that has air inside. Just some valves, you let in some fresh air. You just take off your trunks and you just let it rip. But the problem is the fish get accustomed to this. As soon as you drop in the water at night, it's like the dinner bell going off, because this is feeding time.
And so you feel them like pecking at the back door?
The worst are the angelfish. That shape, they can get like right up in there.
Oh,
it's like not cool.
boy.
And you think about all the things that
Oh, it was beautiful. I could hardly wait to try it out.
Not good. It's all over, fool. Look at that. Crazy.
You don't scare me.
Police! Get down now! Get down! Hands in the air!
I see the cops.
Get down!
Where'd you come from?
Drop your weapon! Get those hands up! Drop your weapons!
I can't believe this is
Hands in the air! Get down!
Entry team to talk. There's a down suspect here.
Roger that. Proceed with caution.
Hands in the air!
Entry team to talk. We have a suspect down.
Copy. EMTs standing by.
You don't scare me.
Drop it.
What's up, y'all? Today's the day we're butchering an aggressive rooster. Now I gotta catch the sucker. So this rooster has attacked not only me, but also has attacked my wife. She's gone in to get eggs. And if you've got an aggressive rooster, you need to cull him. You need to remove him from the flock. Nobody wants a rooster attacking them when they're getting eggs. So let's go get him. It's gonna be a fun time. Come here, you sucker. All right, we're back at it with my makeshift fishnet contraption. All right, we got the bird butchered now. Looks like something from a supermarket, and we're gonna put him in an ice chest just to get cooled off. All right, so we're not gonna waste the guts. We're gonna put these in the compost pile and basically turn something that's wasteful into good garden soil. What's up, y'all? Today's the day we're butchering an aggressive rooster. Now I gotta catch the sucker. So this rooster has attacked not only me, but also has attacked my wife. She's gone in to get eggs. And if you've got an aggressive rooster, you need to cull him. You need to remove him from the flock. Nobody wants a rooster attacking them when they're getting eggs. So let's go get him.
I lived for 2 weeks in the bottom of the sea.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
How deep?
It was exactly 20,000 millimeters under the sea. It was about 60 feet. The cool thing was we stayed there for weeks. If you're normally scuba diving and you go down 60 feet, you have 60 minutes. And then you got to come back up or you get too much nitrogen in your blood and you're going to get bent. It's not a problem if you just stay. The problem is then if you stay, you build up all that nitrogen in your blood. Now you can't go back up.
So how do you eventually get out?
It's a freaky thing. It takes about a day. So we're living in this habitat and it was kind of like a submarine on the bottom of the ocean. So we're just like stuck on the floor. And the only thing that was keeping the ocean out was the air pressure inside. Kind of like taking a cup and flipping it over, putting it in the bathtub and trapping the air. So what you do is you close up that hole and you convert the habitat into a pressure chamber. And what you do is you very, very slowly bring the pressure back to sea level. So you decrease the pressure as if you're slowly going up in the water column. As you do it gradually, the nitrogen slowly comes out of your blood and you can feel it. It kind of tingles. I lived for 2 weeks in the bottom of the sea.
Oh, Jesus.
So I come downstairs, see that this microwave's going for like 26 minutes, I swear to God. Super hot in there. I look down. Oh, pizza roll's cool. Oven's not even on. Wonder who could have done this. Pizza rolls are done.
I would not recommend removing this with an impact gun unless you're prepared for this to happen.
Kurt has broken a stud off in his knuckle.
I promise you it's not going to be fun. We tried the weld technique, but it broke when all else fails, drill it up.
I said, I need a gun immediately. The guy didn't answer, no questions. He just grabbed a 12-gauge shotgun, handed it to me. I'd never even held a gun before. I'm not a dummy. I'm like, I need some bullets too. And the guy reached under the counter, put 2 box of shells on the counter. He said, all right, buddy, which box do you want? I didn't know. One box had pictures of some ducks on it. The other box had pictures of some deer. I said, well, what's that box with them ducks? He said, oh, there's birdshot. And then he goes just like this. I'm not exaggerating. He goes, that won't kill a man. He said, it'll just pepper him up nicely. I said, what the fuck? Pepper? I said, well, what's that box with the deer on it? He goes, oh, there's buckshot. That'll put a hole in the goddamn truck if you wanted to. So which box do you want? And he picked the one with the deer up and shook it. I thought he was trying to trick me. I was like, do you have a box with a picture of a white dude trespassing on it? Because it's exactly the strength I'm looking for. I said, I need a gun immediately. The guy didn't answer, no questions. He just grabbed a 12-gauge shotgun, handed it to me. I'd never even held a gun before. I'm not a dummy. I'm like, I need some bullets too. And the guy reached under the counter, put 2 box of shells on the counter. He said, all right, buddy, which box do you want? I didn't know. One box had pictures of some ducks on it. The other box had pictures of some deer. I said, well, what's that box with them ducks? He said, oh, there's birdshot. And then he goes just like this.
So this is something that no other game has ever gotten right about this gun. For almost every other submachine gun, when you fire, there is a lot of muzzle climb, depending on the firearm that you're using. But this is not the case for the Chris Vector, because you see, this little gun has a cool secret. Right behind the magazine is a small spring system called the Super V Recoil Mitigation System. And what this does is every time a bullet is fired, it shoots a counterweight in the opposite direction, which effectively eliminates the muzzle climb. This means that while other guns have crazy muzzle climb, the Chris Vector has none at all. And the only game I've ever seen do this right is Insurgency Sandstorm. Pretty cool, huh? So this is something that no other game has ever gotten right about this gun. For almost every other submachine gun, when you fire, there is a lot of muzzle climb, depending on the firearm that you're using. But this is not the case for the Chris Vector, because you see, this little gun has a cool secret. Right behind the magazine is a small spring system called the Super V Recoil Mitigation System. And what this does is every time a bullet is fired, it shoots a counterweight in the opposite direction, which effectively eliminates the muzzle climb. This means that while other guns have crazy muzzle climb, the Chris Vector has none at all. And the only game I've ever seen do this right is Insurgency Sandstorm. Pretty cool.
I said, I need a gun